This boy's name is Beck Wu. For decades, he was trapped on a planet of monsters, a place where no one survives more than a single day. But he stayed there for decades, alone, surviving, until one day a system appeared and he was thrown back to Earth. But while decades passed on the monster planet, only a few days had passed here. Now he is no ordinary student. He is a genius with decades of battle experience. The story begins with a total massacre, with several bodies scattered across the blood-soaked floor. Then, the only survivor kneels and asks why they did it, since they were so close to glory. In a desperate close-up, the executive director screams, not understanding the reason for this betrayal. At that moment, one of the men grabs him by the collar, ironically asking if he wants to know why. Kim Youngjin, test subject 81, glares at him and asks if he really has no idea what's going on. But the director gets angry and yells for him to shut up since he wasn't talking to him. With his gaze fixed on the other man, he calls him by name, Beck Woo-hyun. It's then that we're introduced to Beck, known as the project's Superman. The director fawns over him, saying he's the greatest masterpiece they've ever created. He offers anything Beck desires, but the man coldly refuses, saying he doesn't need it. Seeing there's no way out, the director explodes in fury, calling Beck an idiot. He then threatens him, saying the corporate alliance never forgives those who defy them, and the threat extends, warning that not only he, but his entire family will be ruined. But before he can finish his sentence, a blur flashes by and silences him forever. Suddenly, the scene shows Youngjin pulling a dagger from his own stomach, gravely wounded. Youngjin gets furious at the sight of the blood, complaining that he still had questions for the director. But suddenly, a system window appears, announcing that the special mission has been completed. With a look of relief, Beck realizes he's finally free from all that madness. As he's about to press the exit button, a dark voice questions where he's going. The voice asks if he has already forgotten them, all those who were left behind. At that, several souls surround him from all sides, begging for a bloody vengeance. But Baek refuses their plea, saying he's tired and has already done enough. He thinks this is his only chance to escape, but Youngjin shouts his name. Ignoring the call, he says he's going back to his world, leaving his partner confused. With a sad smile, he asks him to tell the others he's sorry, and presses the button. The scene cuts to a boy waking up terrified in his bed, panting. He sits up and looks around, realizing this place is his old room. Still in shock, he wonders if he really made it back and how much time has passed. Checking his phone, he sees it's the same day he went to the other world. No time has passed. He then looks in the mirror and notices his strong hunter's body is gone, like it was all a dream. But the memories of that hell begin to invade his mind, his eyes filled with hatred. He remembers the bloody battles, fighting in chains against bizarre creatures, and also all the violence he had to commit just to survive in that place. Then, a girl's face appears, begging for help and saying she didn't want to die. The director's threat echoes in his head, and he's sure it wasn't a dream. The sensations were too real. The 10 years he spent there actually happened. But suddenly, his phone starts ringing on the desk with a call from Jung Nayeon. He finds the name familiar, but can't remember where he knows the person from. When he answers, the girl yells at him, asking if he forgot about the promise they made. She says they agreed to meet tonight, and tells him to get over there right away. And without giving him time to respond, the girl simply hangs up on him. After a moment of silence, he finally manages to remember whose voice that was. It was his only close colleague, the person he considered his only friend at work. And then the worst memory surfaces. She was the one who convinced him to play Reverse Planet. Suspicious, he decides he needs to find her, and the scene changes to the front of a restaurant. He enters the restaurant and soon hears a familiar voice calling him from one of the tables. It's Nayeon, who waves excitedly, saying it's been a long time since they've seen each other. Once he's seated, she asks if he's going to drink today, but Beck says he'll skip the alcohol. He thinks it would be dangerous to drink in his current state, and the girl says she'll just order food. With that, the meat arrives at the table and starts sizzling on the grill, making everything smell delicious. But she gets straight to the point and asks if he's played that Reverse Planet game yet. He replies that he only created his character and watched the intro, which surprises her. She says that can't even be considered playing, which makes him look furious. He clenches his fist tightly, thinking about the 10 years of hell he went through because of her. But the girl continues, complaining that he promised to be a regular guest on her stream. Then it clicks, and he remembers she used to stream, and that's why she was so insistent. Despite everything, he feels relieved, because now he's sure he's finally back. Back in his room, he's already on the computer, searching for any clues about the game. He finds the company behind the game, and discovers its headquarters is in the United States. But he quickly gives up on the idea, knowing that no one would believe such an insane story. He remembers the danger he'd be in, imagining what they would do if he were discovered. Completely discouraged, he questions why he's even investigating this, since he managed to escape, so he decides that's enough. He's going to forget everything and focus on his real world now. With that, he gets dressed, determined to leave the past behind and move on. From that day on, he reconnects with his friends and tries to lead a normal life. Baek Woo-hyun starts going to school, trying hard to be like everyone else. But even in the classroom, the scars on his back remind him of everything he's been through. However, a dark voice haunts him, questioning if he really managed to come back. Suddenly, he turns around, startled, as if he's felt a strange presence. He looks around the classroom, trying to understand what's happening. But the visions come rushing back, with the souls demanding vengeance and screaming for him to kill. In the middle of his breakdown, he ends up knocking his phone off the desk with a loud clatter. The other students look at him, wondering what's up with that weird guy. Unable to handle the pressure, he runs out of the classroom and into the hallway, completely lost. He leans against the wall, and a shadowy hand touches his shoulder, whispering his name. When a classmate touches him, he reacts on instinct, grabbing the boy's arm tightly. Baek twists his arm without thinking, leaving the student shocked by the sudden attack. Just then, he has a horrifying vision of himself holding a blood-soaked dagger, and the memory of attacking someone from behind floods his mind. The boy asks what he's doing, which makes him finally stop and come to his senses. He lets go of his classmate and apologizes, saying he got scared and acted without thinking. The student comments that the others have also noticed his strange behavior lately. To try and calm down, he gets a soda from the vending machine and opens the can. Afterward, he sits alone on a bench in the courtyard trying to clear his head. But one of the dark souls materializes at his feet, whispering his name. The voices surround him, begging him to go back and avenge them, but he tells them to stop. That's when Nayeon shows up, shouting his name when she sees him in complete despair. She approaches worriedly, saying he looks pale and asks if something happened. He tries to play it off, saying it's nothing, but it's obvious he's not okay. The girl offers to help, and at that moment, he finally realizes something. He says goodbye to the girl, telling her he's heading back, as the souls remain at his feet. The scene shifts to a room with a capsule, and he realizes this torture isn't going to end. So, since the souls won't leave him in peace, he decides he's going to settle this. With his hand on the machine, he thinks that this world is no longer different from that hell. He gets into the capsule with a determined expression, ready to go back to that place. But this time, he'll make sure to end it the right way once and for all. A system message welcomes him, and he appears in what seems to be the game's tutorial. Seeing his reflection, he realizes he's in the waiting room of the in-game laboratory, but he's frustrated. He wanted to go back to hell, not this peaceful place. The system asks him to confirm his appearance, and he decides to go along with the tutorial for now. First, he goes into the settings, turning off combat assistance since he's already experienced. With that, the game moves to the skill configuration, asking him to choose an element. Then we're shown the skill tree, which is used to strengthen the character. The entire element structure is called a build, and there are even professional researchers for it. He then remembers the build that made him superhuman and selects it without hesitation. Suddenly, a loudspeaker turns on, and a voice calls him test subject number 48. The voice informs him that it's been a week since the last experiment, leaving him silent. He realizes the game conveniently skips the awakening process, which is torture. After all, he thinks no one in their right mind would want to go through that in a game. The voice then tells him to enter the next room to begin the next experiment. But looking inside, he's met with a giant combat robot waiting for him. He recognizes the machine, an ethanol robot, created to eliminate the project's test subjects. With that, the first tutorial mission appears, telling him to defeat the giant robot. But he notices something, realizing it's one of the earliest models of the machine. At that moment, a painful memory comes back, of a boy begging him for help. He remembers the massacre that robot caused, killing everyone in front of him. With its red eye glowing, the machine prepares to attack. The ethanol then charges at him full speed, ready to crush him without mercy. But he stands still, thinking the situation here is the same as in that hell. With his eyes glowing gold, he grows angry at the researcher's cruelty. The ethanol then unleashes a powerful blow, aiming directly at the protagonist's face. However, with incredible speed, he dodges the strike with no difficulty. The machine tries to grab him with its other arm, continuing its relentless attack. But he dodges once more, getting dangerously close to the robot's body. He places a hand on the machine, thinking that the final version is strong, but this one is weak. And with a single blow, he explodes the robot's head, showcasing his power. The impact sends the robot's parts flying everywhere, scattering across the room's floor. Then, the voice on the loudspeaker says the experiment is over and that he was amazing. The tutorial mission is completed successfully, and the voice comments on his aptitude for skills. But just as they were about to start the next test, a strange energy begins to surround the protagonist. Suddenly, an alarm blares, and the voice screams in desperation about a government invasion. Then, a woman takes over the system with a message for all the victims. She tells everyone to use their strength and get out of there, and he recognizes her voice. With that, the second tutorial mission appears, telling him to escape the lab. A huge explosion occurs, and he realizes the first thing he needs to do is get out. He runs through the destroyed hallway, wondering how many explosions had already happened. Turning a corner, he finds the place in flames and comes face to face with a wounded soldier. The soldier identifies him as a victim and says that since he made it this far, he must want to escape. To help him, the soldier activates a device, saying he can give him a hand with that. With that, a wall opens up, revealing an armory, and he tells him to take whatever he wants. He also hands him a flare, telling him to use it to get rescued once he's outside. Immediately after, the soldier's hand drops, and Bayek wonders if he just died. He stands silent for a moment, staring at the arsenal of weapons before him. But seeing the destroyed robot, he remembers it's just a game and this must be a cutscene. Ignoring the firearms, he decides to grab a sinister-looking scythe with a chain. As he holds the weapon, he feels a strange energy as the souls surround him once again. The scene cuts to a girl who sighs at having to play the most famous game in the country. This is Kang Soyul, a professional streamer, complaining that her hipster pride is wounded. In the chat, the viewers make fun of her, but she defends herself, saying it was a dare they chose. She says a promise is a promise, and she's never broken one made to her viewers. But the chat is unforgiving, and they quickly bring up the many times she's broken her promises. To change the subject, she announces she's starting the challenge to beat Reverse Planet. In the game, she saves her character's appearance and chooses the fire element. Then she gets to the combat assistance setting, which is at 50%. But the chat starts flooding, telling her to set it to 0 and beat the tutorial without help. She remembers her research and knows the chance of beating it without assistance is practically 0. She thinks she's good at the game, but playing without help is nearly impossible. But just as she was about to refuse, a quest pops up with a huge cash reward for her. With her eyes sparkling, she changes her mind on the spot, saying a true streamer would accept. So, she announces she'll play without assistance and excitedly runs off to start the challenge. Standing in front of a gate, she asks the chat if they're sure about this idea. The result is a disaster. She's defeated in 2 minutes and cries, complaining about how unfair it is. In the chat, the viewers agree to an extent, but also mock her failure against the robot. Back at the start, she says now she just needs to escape, but a system window appears. The second mission begins, and the game starts an automatic search for a party for her. She wonders if beating it with a party still counts, but the chat accuses her of wanting to get carried. However, the party search fails, leaving her completely confused since the game is so popular. But then the chat explains she can only play with others who also turned off combat assistance. The viewers laugh at her because now she's the one who'll have to carry the team. Just as she's about to cancel the mission, the system finds a party and pulls her into the game. She's teleported away, screaming that she's screwed, but stops abruptly when she sees something in front of her. She arrives at the location and is met with a pile of destroyed robots on the floor. Completely in shock, she tells her chat that the situation is serious and no joke. And the weirdest part is, she realizes he didn't even use a weapon to cause all this damage. At that, she gets super excited, thinking she's found the perfect person to carry her. The scene cuts to a bloody knife dripping slowly onto the dark floor. It's our protagonist, standing over a body, surrounded by the husks of robots. With a sinister purple glow in his eyes, he slowly turns his head in her direction. The girl calls out carefully, saying "excuse me" to the person in the hallway. But in the blink of an eye, he appears and puts the knife directly to her neck. Covered in blood, he stares at her up close, making the situation incredibly tense. She's in shock with the blade so close to her face, not knowing how to react. Hiding, she begs him to save her, and he apologizes, saying he made a mistake. She recognizes him by his suit and asks to go with him, since they're in the same party. Then, she introduces herself as the streamer Kang Soyul and asks if she can record him. She assures him his face is hidden, but he suddenly stops walking. She wonders why he stopped so suddenly, completely confused by his reaction. Suddenly, several soldiers appear in the hallway, shouting that they don't need to capture him alive. And without a second thought, they open fire on the pair without mercy. The streamer throws herself to the ground in desperation, complaining about the tutorial's insane difficulty. Then, she worries about the guy who was supposed to carry her and asks if he's okay amidst the gunfire, but he's dodging every single bullet in midair, as if it were nothing at all. Then, he uses his weapons chain to swing around and charge at the soldiers. He becomes a total blur, taking everyone down and leaving the girl and her chat in shock. Hiding, she asks the chat if this is normal, because it seems completely insane. She questions what kind of skill he's using, since even the color of his eyes has changed. A viewer then explains that it's the perfect being skill, leaving her even more confused. She remembers that's a useless skill that prevents the use of other abilities. That's when we learn about the perfect being skill, one of the game's elements. It greatly increases physical stats, but in return, it prevents you from using any other skills. And because of this huge drawback, it's known as the worst skill in the game. The streamer finds it very strange that someone would choose a build like that, since it makes no sense at all. She thinks it might be a strategy to focus only on stats, but he's still at level 1. But then how can he pull off those moves dodging everything like that? Completely confused, she wonders about the true identity of that mysterious player. In the blink of an eye, he finishes off another soldier with a brutal and merciless blow. And just like that, he clears the hallway, leaving a trail of bodies behind him. However, dark voices whisper to him, saying that it's still not enough. They surround him and demand a much crueler revenge as they are not satisfied. Suddenly, a sniper appears at the end of the hallway, getting ready to shoot him. The sniper's scope locks onto the target, ready to take the final shot and end it all. Soil senses the danger and screams, trying to warn him that he's about to be hit. But in a swift move, he pulls her and uses her as a shield, blocking the shots. The sniper doesn't stop and keeps firing, with bullets ricocheting all over the hallway. Seeing he missed the shot, the sniper gets angry, while the streamer is on the ground. But using the gun she picked up, she fights back and lands a perfect headshot on the soldier. She lies on the ground, relieved, as the chat accuses her of stealing the protagonist's kill. He then approaches and asks her how it felt to shoot the guy. With a victorious smile, she boasts that at least she managed to be useful. Suddenly, a memory surfaces, of a little girl happily calling his name. It's a flashback to his past, with the other prisoners from that horrible place. Back in the present, she calls out to him, but he just stares at her with a cold, distant look. She gets nervous and asks if he's angry, but he coldly replies that he's not. He says she was a great help, and the chat goes wild over his kindness. All excited, she asks if they can do the tutorial together, and he simply agrees. As they walk, he says his name is Baek Woo-yun, leaving the girl surprised. She then asks if it's true that he chose the perfect being skill, and he confirms it. Curious, she wants to know how he dodges bullets, but he says he doesn't like games. He suddenly stops walking, and she asks, confused, about the reason for the unexpected stop. Baek warns that there are 2 Edenel robots about 20 meters ahead of them. She's shocked since he doesn't have any detection skills to know that. But moments later, 2 robots appear in the hallway, proving he was right. He walks towards them, saying he actually used to enjoy playing the game's Coliseum. With a dark aura, he charges forward and unleashes a powerful blow on one of the robots. The blow hits its mark, causing an explosion and completely destroying the machine. He continues the fight, saying he played intensely when he was in the Coliseum. With a confident look, he reveals that he even managed to make it into the rankings, and with one more blow, he finishes off the last robot, clearing the path easily. The chat goes crazy, and she asks if being a Coliseum ranker is such a big deal. Then it's explained that back then, those rankers became pro players, like the famous Battler. She's in shock since Battler is the most famous professional player, Real Frost. Back then calls for her to keep going, and she follows him, excited by the discovery. They reach the end of the hallway, where a masked man awaits them, saying they've dragged themselves all the way here. The man threatens them, saying this place will be their grave, a malicious smile on his face. It's the tutorial boss, the captain of the guard, who warns them they'll soon meet their colleagues. Hearing this, Baek's expression changes completely, filled with rage and a thirst for revenge. He sees the souls of his dead friends appearing and writhing on the ground in agony. The voices whisper to him to hurry up and kill the bastard who eliminated them. The captain then charges at them, shouting that they won't leave here alive. Soil gets in position to help and starts shooting to provide cover for Baek, but the bullets ricochet off the boss, who uses some kind of barrier to protect himself. She yells to him that she'll provide support, but Baek just stares at her with an empty gaze. He thinks that even though it's a game, he'll fight this man with everything he's got. And with a single blow, he hits the captain, who feels the force of the impact instantly. The collision creates a powerful shockwave, shoving the boss back with full force. The streamer is completely confused, not understanding what just happened. The captain gets up furiously, calling the protagonist a disgusting and despicable insect. And with his hands enveloped in an icy aura, he charges at Baek with full force. He easily dodges the ice attack, which destroys the floor where he was standing. The captain gets furious and asks how long he'll be able to dodge his attacks. Then, he launches a spinning ice attack that rushes towards Baek. The blow sends him flying, throwing him with full force against the hallway wall. But he gets up and clenches his fist, ready to counter the enemy's attack. With a direct hit, he smashes his fist into the captain's face, who feels the impact. The boss recoils from the force of the blow, while Baek stares at him with a serious look. Suddenly, the soul's voices whisper, telling him not to unleash his full power. They say the captain can't die an easy death, and they ask him to tear him to pieces. Without understanding, the captain wonders how a mere test subject has so much power. Bach then looks at his hands and coldly replies, saying it was thanks to him. And with a final blow, blood splatters everywhere, ending the fight for good. The system confirms the victory, and Soil is speechless, unsure of what's going on. She celebrates that they finally defeated the boss, while Beck remains over the body. He then prepares to deliver the final blow, but the streamer calls out to him, telling him it's time to go. He agrees and turns to leave, leaving the captain's body behind on the floor. As they walk through the door, Soil celebrates in relief that they finally managed to escape. At that moment, the system confirms their success, and she asks if he's going to continue with the main story. But he says no, telling her that's enough for today, and he's stopping there. She then asks him to wait a moment, as she has a proposal for him, piquing his curiosity. The streamer ends the live stream, celebrating with her chat that the challenge was a success. Afterwards, she turns to him and thanks him, and he asks what the proposal is. With a hopeful look, she asks if he'd like to appear regularly on her streams. He seems a bit confused, and she explains that she'll be focusing on main quests and PvP. The girl insists, saying she'll work around his schedule and would even pay him, but he refuses the invitation, and she can tell by his expression that there's no point in insisting. She then asks if she can at least add him as a friend, and he ends up agreeing. Before leaving, she says goodbye and tells him it was fun playing, then logs out of the game. Alone again, he thinks about how he finally managed to finish the game's tutorial, but a doubt arises, and he wonders why he hasn't returned to that side yet. Meanwhile, elsewhere, someone is typing rapidly on a computer, posting about the incident. At that moment, Beck had no idea of the stir his gameplay would cause on the internet. And on top of that, an anonymous donation appears with a sinister message, asking what it's like to be back in reality. The scene shifts to the headquarters of Planet Earth, the company that created the game. Inside, the entire team was in crisis mode because of one player. One of the employees reviews the gameplay, unable to believe what he's seeing again. They discuss how the guy defeated a boss with no weapons and no auto-aim. Worried, the boss asks if they're sure it's not a hack, but the technician states they've checked everything and found no modifications to the program. He explains that he's seen all kinds of hackers, from those who walk through walls. However, he's never seen movement as absurdly precise as that. The young man then shouts that this level of control is impossible to replicate even with cheats. The boss then raises the possibility of it being a new, unknown type of hack. Regardless, he decides they need to verify this situation as soon as possible. The scene cuts to Woo Yun, who's talking with Neon at a coffee shop. He asks, somewhat surprised, if the online communities are buzzing because of him. Super excited, she confirms that the internet is in total chaos over his play. Neon shows him that everyone is now treating his achievement as a confirmed hack. Neon says she was shocked when she saw the video, and Woo Hyun comments that it was lucky she recognized him. She says she knew he was good, but not that good, and he understands why he got the message. Curious, she asks what message he's talking about, but he seems a bit hesitant. But then it clicks, and she shouts, asking if the game company contacted him. In shock, she asks if they want to verify if he's using a hack, and he simply confirms. He then explains that the invitation was passed on by the streamer who broadcast his match. Nayeon worries about the attention this will generate and asks if he'll accept the challenge. But Woo Hyun thinks this is his only chance to talk to the game developers. So, he finally confirms that he'll accept, making his friend super excited about the decision. She says it's good for clearing his name, but he says he doesn't really care about that. Nayeon insists that his fighting style is unique, and it would be impossible not to recognize him. She explains that even pros are identified by their habits, leaving him thoughtful. Sitting down, relieved, she says she's happy he accepted because it would spare the streamer. He's confused as he doesn't see the connection between him and the girl, but she seems impatient. She explains that the haters would attack him first, but they'd soon turn their focus to the streamer. Thinking about the streamer, Woo Hyun stares at his glass and finally makes an important decision. The scene changes to Kang Soil, who receives his message and celebrates, super relieved. She's already imagining her viewer count will explode with this event. In front of her computer, she starts preparing the announcement, telling everyone to get ready. With that, the official announcement for the stream to clear up the hack controversy is published. 4 days pass, and the moment of truth finally arrives in the game Reverse Planet. Woo Hyun's character appears, and the streamer Soil greets him, all excited. She runs up to him, apologizing for all the trouble, but he says he doesn't mind. He then asks if she also suspects he's using some kind of cheat, but Soyul denies it, saying she saw the madness in his eyes, and that couldn't be a lie. He finds her answer curious, and she tells him they should start the stream soon. With a smile and a wave, Soyul starts the live stream, welcoming everyone. She's surprised by the viewership, and announces that Woo Hyun is there to settle the controversy. With all the calm in the world, Baek Woo Hyun formally introduces himself to all the viewers. Soil asks the chat to behave, and asks for his opinion on the controversy before they begin. He says he finds it absurd that this is even a controversy, leaving the chat divided. Soil then announces they have a special guest for today's verification. At that moment, a man emerges in a blue light, suddenly appearing in front of them. He introduces himself as Park Gum-hyun, the head of operations for the game company. Woo-hyun realizes the guy might know something and plans to question him after the test. So the streamer thanks him for being there and politely introduces Woo-hyun. The leader analyzes the player, thinking that on the outside, he doesn't look like anything special. With that, the man says he'll guide them to the official verification area. They are taken to a personal training room, leaving Soyul impressed. The GM explains they will be observing his battles, and Woo-hyun notes that he's never been here before. The leader asks if the player agrees to the terms, and he accepts without hesitation. Then, the man approaches a large metal door, preparing for the test. The door opens slowly, revealing what awaited the protagonist inside. From within, a large training robot with red eyes emerges. The leader announces they'll start with the intermediate robot, and Woo-hyun focuses for the fight. A dark memory haunts him, with dark hands grabbing him and crying out for revenge. The leader watches on his tablet and thinks with a smile that now they'll kill each other. But suddenly, a loud noise startles him, leaving the man completely confused. He turns around and sees no one there, not understanding where the player went. Startled, he looks at the tablet again, repeating the words, "kill each other," over and over. The screen begins to shake violently, almost cracking from the intensity of the scene. The device shatters in his hands as he stands there, speechless at what he's seeing. Engulfed in a sinister aura, Woo-hyun simply annihilates the robot with his bare hands. Seeing this, the leader realizes it wasn't a hack, but a power on another level. Woo-hyun steps on the robot's wreckage, showing the fight was already over. He coolly informs the leader that the first test is over, leaving the man stunned. The leader confirms there was no hack, but thinks the fight was too quick. He then asks Woo-hyun to fight in a specific way, and the young man accepts immediately. We're told the test would prove he isn't using an auto-combat hack. Then, the GM asks him to use a chain scythe to defeat 3 robots at once. The man thinks the conditions are incredibly unfair, making victory nearly impossible. Without warning, 3 new training robots appear, surrounding our protagonist. But even at a clear disadvantage, Woo-hyun shows no sign of losing. He then spins the chain with absurd speed, lunging right at them. With an agile move, he dodges a robot's attack while preparing his strike. Sliding across the floor, the young man uses the chain to propel himself and destabilize his targets. In a second, he traps one of the robots with the chain, using it as a weapon. His eyes gleam with pure concentration, calculating every move for the final blow, and in the blink of an eye, all 3 robots are destroyed, with no chance to react. Super excited, Soil shouts that she knew his chain moved as if it were alive, but the leader ignores her, thinking they've already gathered enough data for verification. Still, he's curious if the player could defeat an advanced-level robot. With a smirk, he decides he's finally going to push the test to its limit. Just then, a new door opens, releasing dense smoke throughout the arena. And in the darkness, 2 red, menacing eyes light up, staring at the protagonist. A new robot, with a more human-like appearance, emerges, walking slowly through the fog. The GM then announces the final test will be against the advanced robot, Model Edival. Woo-hyun is in shock, and his eye gleams as he recognizes the machine's name. Now, the hero and the robot face each other in a tense silence before the battle begins. Suddenly, a terrible vision of a massacre flashes through our protagonist's mind. The Edival robot then cracks a bizarre and terrifying smile, as if enjoying the situation. With hatred in his eyes, Woo-hyun unleashes his aura, showing this fight is going to be serious. In the blink of an eye, the machine lunges forward, delivering a high-speed blow. He barely manages to dodge, getting just a cut on his face and smiling at the challenge. He clenches his fist tightly, preparing to counter the robot's attack. Without wasting a moment, he counterattacks with a powerful blow, hitting the machine dead on. The exchange of blows is so intense that they destroy the walls of the battle arena. He realizes her power is incomparable, and a single blow could be fatal. But to make matters worse, the robot's armor was too tough for him. His attacks didn't even leave a scratch, showing the difference in their levels. Seeing an opening, the machine advances once more, giving him no time to think. So, he decides he'll just keep attacking non-stop until a blow lands. Watching from a distance, Soyul and the leader are tense over the brutality of the fight. The man can't believe he's managing to fight on equal terms with the robot. Slowly, the protagonist begins to dominate the fight, turning the tables in his favor. With that, the leader decides he's seen enough and ends the test. Suddenly, the robot vanishes in a blue light, leaving Woo-hyun completely confused. The GM explains that he removed the machine as they had already collected enough data. He then confirms there was no hack, proving Woo-hyun's skill is real. Excited, Soil celebrates that they've proven he wasn't a hacker, ending the suspicions. She then emphasizes to the audience that his skill is so incredible, it looks like a hack. With that, she ends the stream, which peaked at over 100,000 viewers. The leader thanks them both for their participation, but Woo Hyun replies that it was no big deal. Impressed by his humility, the GM prepares to leave, but is stopped by him. Woo Hyun says he has an important question to ask, making the man very curious. He then asks if there's a bug in the game that prevents someone from logging out, but the leader denies it, saying he's never heard of a serious error like that. The man says goodbye and vanishes in a blue light, leaving the two players alone in the arena. Soil thanks him and offers to split the money from the stream, and he agrees to let her contact him. She thinks it would be a waste to let him go, but he senses she wants to say something, but she gives up, says goodbye, and vanishes as well, promising to look for him later. The scene then changes, with Neon calling him to try out PvP mode. We're told that PvP, or player versus player, is a cornerstone of the game. He asks if that's why she called him, and she pulls him along, excited to fight. Neon insists that PvP is the heart of the game, and that he shouldn't give up so easily. But Woo Hyun thinks that while story mode reminds him of his world, PvP has new things to offer. She then starts by explaining Duel, which is a 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 battle. Next, she shows him Conflict mode, with 5-on-5 team battles. And finally, Survival, a battle royale where the last one standing is the winner. She suggests a team battle and offers to help with his build, but he refuses. He thinks that he already knows a perfect build, the same one that made him famous in the other world. With that, he starts configuring his skills, while Neon gets ready for the match. The young man decides the starting point should be the military base, a very dangerous location. Neon gets super excited and asks to record the match, and he ends up agreeing. Overjoyed, she hits the button to start the match without wasting any more time. The system then confirms the start at the military base, with a 60-second countdown. She says goodbye with a wave, hoping they'll see each other alive at the end of it all. The scene shifts to the players spawning on the map, preparing for the big battle. Elsewhere, a random player complains that the loot in the hallway is crap. The player decides he needs to get out of there fast, but unseen by him, Woo Hyun emerges from the shadows. Just then, the military base descends into chaos, with explosions and gunfire everywhere. That's when the kill feed goes wild, showing Woo Hyun eliminating multiple players. She's left completely speechless, wondering what the hell Woo Hyun is up to. A player is caught off guard, attacked from behind with no chance to react. With a clean strike, Woo Hyun takes him out and realizes he's cleared the entire area. He recalls how he used to take down multiple enemies at once in the other world. Thinking the slaughter is over, he prepares to leave, but something catches his attention. Suddenly, he gets a desperate voice message from Nayeon, begging for help. He opens the map and sees she's on the other side of the block, far away. Without wasting a moment, he asks for her location, and she says she's on the 3rd floor rooftop. She warns him to be careful, as battles are raging on every floor of the building. Running at full speed, he rushes past other players who shout warnings about him. One of the guys is stunned by his speed, while the other prepares a fire attack, but the protagonist dodges an attack, using his gauntlet to block the blade. With a swift move, he grabs the enemy's arm and neutralizes the firepower. Then, he finishes the guy off with a precise blow, leaving his partner in shock. The remaining player gets furious and unleashes a dark aura, revealing his power. With a cry of rage, he launches a devastating attack toward Woo Hyun, but Woo Hyun leaps over the power, dodging the attack with incredible agility. The player is enraged to see his strongest move fail so miserably. Without giving him a moment to breathe, the protagonist charges forward and slashes the enemy with his knife. With a cold gaze, he confirms another kill, clearing the path to the building. He keeps running at top speed, ignoring the bodies he leaves behind, and along the way, he even manages to eliminate another enemy with a perfect shot. Another player tries his luck, but is easily taken down from behind. He finally reaches the building and lets Nayeon know. She offers to provide support, but he tells her to wait for now as he prepares to enter the place. Carefully, he listens at the door, trying to sense the presence of enemies inside. He can feel at least 5 players waiting for him in the dark room, so he opens the door and steps in, but a guy was already hiding there for an ambush. The enemy grins, preparing to plunge the knife into our protagonist's back, but in a split second, Woo Hyun grabs his wrist, stopping the blow mid-air. The guy is completely shocked, unable to believe his surprise attack was blocked. With a quick move, he turns the tables and strikes the enemy from behind, eliminating him. He lets the player's body fall, thinking he needs to hurry and save Nayeon. Without losing a second, he rushes up the stairs, leaving a trail of enemies in his wake. And with that, the kill feed shows him eliminating 4 more players in a row. Seeing the notifications from outside, Nayeon is floored by the carnage. She realizes Baek Woo Hyun is just farming enemies without breaking a sweat. But suddenly, she senses a presence creeping up behind her, putting her on high alert. It was Woo Hyun, who appeared out of nowhere and startled her using a speed skill. He grabs her chainsaw and she complains that he nearly gave her a heart attack. She says she didn't even see him coming, and he wonders if she ever really needed help. Neon asks if he cleared the building, and he questions the bizarre weapon she picked. Excited, she says she'll carry the rest of the game now, which makes him laugh. With the game over, the results show their victory, with Woo Hyun getting 25 kills. Back in the lobby, they realize they've racked up 10 straight wins and decide to call it a day. She then stares at him, thinking her friend was actually a gaming monster. Excited, the streamer Soil asks him to wait a few days, promising a streaming offer, but he insists he's not interested, as he doesn't even plan to do the main quests. Still, she asks him to think about it and says goodbye, disappearing in a blue light. Alone, Woo Hyun is frustrated that he couldn't find any clues, even in PvP mode. The scene then shifts to the real world, showing the city in the dead of night. In her room, the streamer Soil was lying in bed, excitedly looking at her phone. She was browsing the community forums, which were blowing up with posts about the stream. Overjoyed, she rolled around in bed celebrating, knowing she had hit the jackpot. She remembers the peak viewership, unable to believe it surpassed 100,000 viewers. With this, she feels regretful, wishing she could keep streaming with Woo Hyun. But then she recalls how firm he was in saying he had no interest in becoming a streamer. So she decides the first step is to settle the stream's payment with him. But upon checking the amount they earned, her eyes go wide in complete shock. The next day, the scene cuts to Woo Hyun meeting Nayeon at a coffee shop. She then shows him a streamer project on her laptop, leaving the young man completely confused. Nayeon shows the presentation she made to convince him, but he's not impressed at all. He remembers her saying he just had to play alone, without needing to interact with anyone. So she proposes a different format, a type of variety and observation show. It's explained that it would be a show where a cast watches and comments on his gameplay. With this, she says he would only need to play, while she would handle all the talking. She even suggests that if needed, they could bring in a professional commentator to help. Nayeon offers to split the profits evenly, but he keeps saying he's not interested. Then she remembers he must have already received the payment from Soil, and he checks his phone. He looks for the email he had received earlier, but hadn't read yet. The message showed a payment of 6.6 million won, along with an attached donation. Nayeon's jaw drops at the amount, but Woo Hyun focuses on the donation message. Reading the content, the young man freezes as if he's seen a ghost. The messages were from a viewer who knew about him returning from that place. He realizes this viewer not only knows about his past, but their nickname is a clue. Shocked, he jumps to his feet, wondering who could possibly know his secret. Desperate, he asks her to trace the donor, but she explains it's against the rules. He then realizes he can only communicate with the anonymous person during streams, and makes a decision. Firmly, he confirms he'll become a streamer, leaving Nayeon in disbelief. But to seal the deal, Woo Hyun says he has just one condition for her to meet. Friday night arrives, a time for people in the city to relax. But for hardcore gamers, it's time to gather in front of the computer. The game's community was buzzing, everyone waiting for Superman's stream. The scene then shifts to the virtual studio. 5 minutes before the live stream is set to begin. Nayeon looked nervous, but her partner tries to calm her down, saying they've prepared well. He introduces himself as Cha Seong-cheol, a professional commentator for the game Reverse Planet. He comments that he didn't expect anyone other than Soyul could manage to recruit Superman. Suddenly, the on-air light turns on, signaling that the long-awaited broadcast has begun. With a smile, Nayeon and Seong-cheol introduce themselves to all the viewers of the stream. She gets a little awkward seeing that the audience is upset about not seeing the protagonist, but then she reveals that Superman was already logged in and waiting inside the game. It's explained that the format would be observational, with them commentating on the hero's gameplay. Nayeon then asks if everyone is ready to finally watch the match. She sends a message to Woo Hyun, giving him the green light to start the game. With that, a mysterious voice comes over a radio, talking about an interdimensional agency. The voice on the radio explains that the mission is to rescue survivors so they can escape the forest. Then, a mission screen appears, telling him to join the interdimensional agency. He looks at the forest and realizes the scenery is identical to that of his dark past. A memory haunts him, showing how he could only run away in that other world. But with a determined look, he decides that this time will be very different. Suddenly, an enemy spots him and fires a flare to reveal his position. With that, several masked guards appear, surrounding the area to capture him. They receive the order to attack him from 3 directions, preparing a fatal ambush. Without hesitation, the enemies jump from the trees, surrounding Woo Hyun from all sides. His eyes flash with hatred, and he swears he'll finish them all right now. A desire for revenge consumes him, and he charges forward with a murderous fury. The guards waste no time and start firing everything they have in the hero's direction. But with incredible skill, he uses his chain to deflect all the bullets. One of the bullets ricochets and hits a guard's weapon, who is left in shock. The bullet then hits a grenade, causing an explosion that eliminates the enemy. The guards call him a fool for coming alone, charging at him with full force. But he spins in the air with agility, snaring 2 enemies at once with his chain. The chain tightens with force, trapping the guards and leaving them with no escape. With that, he pulls with all his might, smashing their heads together in midair. Without losing momentum, the hero starts spinning the chain at an absurd speed. He then hurls them with full force into the ground, creating a small crater. The impact is brutal, leaving the enemies gravely injured and spitting blood on the ground. Seizing the opportunity, he moves in and finishes off the other guards who were still standing. With a focused gaze, he listens for the remaining enemies searching for him, ready for the challenge. To protect his identity, the broadcast activates a protocol, masking his face. In the studio, the commentators are in shock, as they've never seen a playstyle like this. Xiangqiu gets desperate, thinking it's crazy for him to attract enemies without any strategy. Just then, a donation pops up on screen, asking if his ability has no cooldown. When asked about it, the commentator states with certainty that it's not a cheat. He explains that his build looks like a cheat, but it's just a genius use of the game's mechanics. The commentator explains that the skill only enhances his physique, not his weapon mastery. He says this means Superman could fight like this in real life if he could handle it. With a focused eye, the protagonist prepares for the next wave of approaching enemies. Just then, more guards appear and surround him completely, preparing for the final attack. But then a man named Kim Cheol appears, identifying himself as the agency's leader. It's explained that the agency is a government department that deals with invaders. Their main job is to contain the dangerous threats that emerge in the reverse world. Woo Hyun recognizes the leader, surprised to notice the clothes he was wearing. Kim Cheol then apologizes, understanding that he's a victim who escaped from the laboratory. But Woo Hyun explains that he took the radio from an agent who was inside. The leader understands the agent is dead, and the hero notices his usual compassion. With that, Kim Cheol asks him to stay with them until they can verify his identity. The mission complete screen appears, giving him a level up and a skill point. The scene then shifts, showing the imposing headquarters of the interdimensional agency. Inside, Woo Hyun finds himself in a counseling room, unable to believe where he's ended up. He remembers that in the other world, he rose through the ranks by doing all sorts of jobs for corporations. The main request was the subjugation of the reverse world, forcing him to fight monsters. The corporations used him for cleanup, and that's how he ended up involved with the agency. Just then, a woman enters the room, and he recalls his conflicts with the organization. She then introduces herself as Lee Yujin, an agent from Team 1 of the Interdimensional Agency. Woo Hyun recognizes the name instantly, and the agent congratulates him for making it this far. With that, she explains that from now on, he has only 2 choices to make. The first was to be a protected civilian, without using his powers, and the second was to become an agent. Yujin warns that if he chooses to be an agent, he'll have to go through training first. He grows thoughtful, as he's already killed 7 agents, and now he might become one of their colleagues. Then, she faces him and asks what his choice will be, the life of a civilian or an agent. After reflecting, he clasps his hands firmly, ready to announce his final decision. Woo Hyun thinks being a civilian would lead him to work for corporations, a path he doesn't want. So, he tells Yujin he's going to become an agent, and she's happy with the news. She breathes a sigh of relief, commenting that corporations were stealing the agency's talent, and she takes the opportunity to warn him that many regret signing contracts with those companies. Eugene explains that they lack experience, unlike the agency, which has a long history. The agency already has all the necessary knowledge to train the awakened and fight for real. But Woo Hyun knows that even though they pay well, the corporations have caused the deaths of many agents. He even remembers when he had to cut open a guy's stomach to get his payment. Because of that incident, he was exposed and ended up being chased by the agency for a while. Back in the present, Yujin says she'll register him and hands him a work phone. Woo Hyun asks what he should do, and she explains he'll be a probationary agent. Before leaving, she says she's really rooting for him to end up on her team. He remembers the past, feeling he owes Yujin a debt because of an incident. After all, she was the one who led the raid on the lab that saved his and his colleagues' lives. Watching all this, a viewer gets confused, finding the conversation with the NPC too natural. The commentator is shocked, as NPCs aren't supposed to be able to communicate like that. We're shown that the NPC Yujin only offered dialogue choices, without any real conversation. But Sang-chul realizes the truth. It's a very advanced artificial intelligence. It's a fully responsive AI that can communicate freely with players. He explains that this technology consumes so many resources, it was thought impossible for online games. The conclusion is that the company didn't solve the problem, but instead hid the AI as an Easter egg. And the condition to activate it was to start the game without any combat aids, just like Woo Hyun did. With this discovery, the girl comments that the community forums must be on fire. Far away, a famous streamer gets interested and thinks about inviting the rookie as a guest. Back at the studio, Seong-chul announces that the story part is over, but there will be PvP content. The scene shifts to Woo Hyun, who's in a room waiting for the mysterious anonymous spectator 62. But instead of the player, what appears before him is just a random laptop. Meanwhile, a powerful man asks to be notified immediately if this spectator 62 makes a donation. The commentator then receives a message from Woo Hyun, who says he's ready. She announces to the audience that the next event of the day will be a direct confrontation. The commentator notes that this is the first time the physical hacker is playing the confrontation mode. Following that, Seong-chul explains that he'll start in the General League, just like any other rookie. We're shown that there are 8 ranks, and it takes 10 wins to reach bronze. He says pros take about 30 minutes, but average players take around 2 hours to do it. Suddenly, a mission appears, promising a prize for anyone who reaches bronze in half an hour. Woo Hyun receives the challenge from a streamer, and he accepts with a confident gesture. The two commentators get super excited, eager to see if he can complete the mission. But they had no idea what was coming, and a match is finally found. The fight begins in a residential arena, with 10 seconds until the first round starts. Looking closely, the commentator notices a strange detail and becomes quite confused. It turns out Woo Hyun is holding 2 swords, a weapon he's never used before. His opponent underestimates him, thinking he just needs to keep his distance to secure the win. A countdown begins, making it clear that everyone underestimated the physical hacker. The round starts, and the opponent immediately casts a powerful ice explosion spell. But in a split second, the mage's face twists in pure despair. Before the mage could react, Woo Hyun was already behind him with a sword to his neck. With a swift and precise move, he destroys the opponent in a shower of particles. Then, the system announces Woo Hyun's victory, securing the first point of the match. The next opponent appears, but instantly surrenders upon realizing he's up against a smurf. With that, another victory is registered for him without even having to fight. The second match begins, and Woo Hyun unleashes an impressive dark energy from his swords. The enemy is shocked to see his special ability completely disintegrate in mid-air, and in the blink of an eye, the protagonist ends the fight, securing another crushing victory. In the third game, a martial artist tries his luck, rushing in with everything he's got, but the result is the same, and he's defeated before he can even complete his strike. His fame spreads, and the next opponent enters the arena sweating nervously. The victories keep piling up at an absurd speed, one after another without stopping. In the studio, the commentators watch everything with their jaws dropped, unable to believe what they're seeing. And just like that, in an impressive 20 minutes, he achieves 10 victories and climbs to the bronze rank. Even the commentator, who is a diamond rank, admits that his achievement was just incredible. Seong-chul says the time is surreal, but the win record is even more shocking. He explains that normal players fluctuate, always running into a build that gives them trouble. But no matter what build the opponent used, the physical hacker simply defeated them. He showed a perfect performance in every fight, without faltering for a single moment. At that moment, the mission prize arrives, and a large donation appears on the stream's screen. The commentator gives her thanks and says she's eager to see his performance in ranked matches. But Seong-chul looks worried since it's a broadcast. Stream sniping becomes very easy. He tries to calm himself, saying the chances of it working are low and hopes it's just him worrying. The match search begins again, this time in ranked mode on a cemetery map. And to everyone's surprise, a player manages to snipe Woo Hyun, celebrating that it worked. The guy boasts about finding the hacker and promises to teach him a lesson right now. But Woo Hyun just draws his sword, completely ignoring the enemy's taunts. The commentator notes that he didn't fall for the taunt, as he was instructed to ignore everything. His partner looks a bit awkward, but announces that the fight is finally starting. Then the round starts, and the enemy is engulfed in a golden energy, screaming in pain. The enemy then unleashes a massive energy attack, throwing Woo Hyun far back with the explosion. He charges forward screaming, full of hatred and wanting to finish the protagonist off for good, but Woo Hyun just watches him, thinking he'd even let him show off a little more. However, he soon realizes it was just a waste of time and defeats him with a single strike. The system announces the victory, leaving the opponent bloodied and cursing furiously. Next, the countdown for the second round begins, preparing them both for the next fight. Realizing he's going to lose again, the guy decides he needs to use his ace in the hole. The round starts, and he emerges with a completely different and stronger aura of power. Woo Hyun senses the change in the air, as his own sword also begins to glow. With his new strength, the enemy lands a devastating blow, creating a huge impact. But Woo Hyun analyzes his movements, noticing they are now faster and much more efficient. The guy then laughs manically, asking if the hacker got his message now. He yells that he was just taking it easy in the first round, and now he's going to fight for real. Hearing the word hacker, Woo Hyun seems to recall a conversation he had before. It's a flashback of the commentator advising him to crush anyone who called him a hacker. With that advice in mind, his eyes gleam, and he finally decides to take the fight seriously. A dark aura surrounds Wu Hyun, and his opponent realizes the entire mood of the fight has changed, but he tries to convince himself not to be scared, believing he still has the upper hand. So, the guy charges forward, yelling at Wu Hyun to stop acting so cool. Wu Hyun simply stomps on the ground, creating a shockwave that shatters the stone floor. With an agile move, he dodges and lands a precise slash on his opponent's back. The player feels the sharp pain of the blow, groaning as he's hit so violently. Furious, he turns around cursing, but the protagonist is already ready to strike again. He blocks the enemy's strike with his sword, making the guy scream in pain from the impact. The player's face contorts in pure agony, unable to comprehend the force of that counterattack. Without giving him time to recover, Wu Hyun lands a blow and sends him flying. Completely defeated, the guy starts crying out of rage and humiliation from the beating. The round's objective lies on the ground, while the opponent has no strength left to fight. In the studio, the commentators notice what's happening, and the woman is shocked by the scene. Seong-chol explains that he's not ending the fight on purpose, following Naeon's advice. The commentator gets embarrassed, saying she told him to crush the guy, but not like this. Defeated, the guy asks what the hell Wu Hyun is, completely baffled by the situation, but he just replies that he'll return his words, showing the enemy's reflection on his sword. With that, the second round ends, and the system announces the protagonist's overwhelming victory. After that fight, he kept winning non-stop, quickly surpassing 30 victories. In the studio, the commentator announces he's already reached gold rank, surprising everyone. Just then, a fan asks him to share his build, and she's hesitant to ask. She decides to send a message, and to everyone's surprise, Wu Hyun agrees instantly. Overjoyed with the response, the girl sends a cute sticker to celebrate the moment. Then, she announces to the entire audience that the rookie will reveal his secret build. With the big news, they sign off and thank everyone for watching the stream. Even after it's over, the commentator is still shocked by the 30-win streak. His partner wonders if he can break the record, which is 76 wins. Super excited, she says she's really rooting for Wu Hyun to break that record. Seong-chol then warns that the record holder is very competitive and must be watching everything. And somewhere, a hand moves quickly across a mouse, getting ready to enter the game. In the game's community, the main topic was the new 30-win streak record. We're shown that the sniper reported Wu Hyun for hacking, but he was the one who ended up getting banned. Reading the comments, he sees people saying that not even the pro player Battler could beat him. With a challenging smile, Battler finds the whole situation very interesting and gets excited. A few days later, the second stream begins in a forest on a beautiful, sunny day. Wu Hyun thinks about anonymous spectator 62, who didn't show up last time, and wonders why. Suddenly, Agent Lee Yujin appears and calls out to him, waving from a distance with a smile. The chat goes wild at the NPC's appearance, praising her beauty and importance in the game. She asks if he's nervous about the mission, but he assures her everything will be fine. Right after, a mission window pops up, showing one of the perks of being a rookie. He then asks what the mission is, and Yujin explains they're going to eliminate invading entities. They arrive at an abandoned warehouse, and she explains it's another problem left behind by the corporations. Yujin sighs, complaining that they just dump their useless problems on the agency to solve. The threat here are insect-type entities, which are weak but attack in swarms. And to make matters worse, they're greeted by a sergeant waiting for them at the entrance. Yujin thanks the sergeant for his work, and he authorizes the two of them to enter the warehouse. They open the heavy door of the building, coming face to face with a very impressive scene inside. In the middle of the abandoned factory, a giant portal glows with an intense blue energy. Seeing it, Wu Hyun feels a strange sense of familiarity with the portal in front of him. He remembers seeing a similar place before, but it was a much larger zone. He wonders if there's been some mistake, as Yujin calls for him to hurry up and enter. But suddenly, a man appears and taunts Yujin, asking what she's doing there. Yujin is surprised to see him, and questions why Choi Hyung-cheol is in this place. He then accuses her of plotting something, since she always avoided easy missions. Ignoring the accusation, the man changes the subject and asks who the rookie is. He tries to convince Wu Hyun to leave the agency and join a corporation. At this, Yujin becomes furious and gives him a serious warning not to cross the line. Startled, Hyung-chol raises his hands and says he'll leave the whole mission to them. He then says goodbye with a mocking smile, wishing them good luck as he leaves. Wu Hyun asks who that guy was, and she reveals he was the first rookie she ever trained. Yujin explains that he went to a corporation and then started spreading rumors about the agency. In the studio, the commentator gets excited, as it's the first time they're seeing this part of the story. His partner agrees, saying the game always summarized everything without giving many details. With this, they conclude that the AI is expanding the story because of Wu Hyun's actions. Back at the portal, Yujin decides to put the sad conversation aside and calls him to enter. Outside, her old team watches the two of them enter the mysterious portal. One of the men smiles sinisterly, saying that now it's time to start the plan. 20 minutes pass, and the scene shifts to a dark forest inside the reverse world. Wu Yun appears with glowing eyes, wiping a small cut on his face after the battle. The scene widens to reveal Yujin on the ground, severely injured and bleeding heavily. Near her, the bullet she had offered him before now lies on the ground, covered in blood. The scene rewinds a bit, showing the two of them emerging from the blue portal together. Yujin explains to him that this is the gateway to the reverse world. As he walks, Wu Hyun realizes the place looks identical to a world he already knew. But suddenly, the entire passage begins to shake strangely. He quickly realizes there's an anomaly. Something isn't right here. Just then, Yujin shouts his name as a bright light flashes behind her. She tries to warn him to be careful, but it's already too late. The scene cuts abruptly, and now they're in a dark, silent forest. Wu Hyun looks around, realizing he was separated from Yujin along the way. He figures it's common for gateways to collapse, and prepares for whatever comes next. Right after, a swarm of monstrous spiders appears, completely surrounding him. He decides to finish them off first, and then look for Yujin. To do so, he activates a skill, and his hand begins to glow with golden energy. The expansive thunder skill is unleashed, striking all the creatures with a powerful bolt. But in the midst of the attack, one of the spiders transforms into a dark, menacing creature. Elsewhere, Yujin fights relentlessly, but the shadow monsters are endless. She notices the forest is too large, more like a mid-sized zone. With that, she takes a deep breath, suspecting something is very wrong here. As she worries about Wu Hyun, her former apprentice suddenly appears behind her. Suddenly, she senses imminent danger and spins around with a look of shock. Young Cheol hits her with a fire attack, striking her right in the stomach. The impact throws her back as the traitor lets out a completely maniacal laugh. On the ground, she can't believe it and asks why, but he just says he's on a secret mission. He also tells her not to blame him too much, as he was just following orders. Yujin clutches her wound, realizing the cut is much deeper than she thought. She decides she needs to get out of there first, and prepares to fight with everything she has. Without hesitation, she launches a powerful counterattack against one of the soldiers surrounding her. But the soldier summons a massive guardian stone, managing to block the blow. The attack shatters the barrier, sending the man flying from the force of the impact. Wasting no time, Yujin rushes forward and stomps on the soldier's chest, pinning him to the ground. Young Chol gets angry with the soldier and yells for the others to go after her immediately. She uses this opening to escape, with the men chasing her through the forest. But in the middle of her escape, Yujin stops and begins to gather a strong energy in her hands. She then prepares to unleash all her accumulated power against them at once. In an acrobatic move, she slams the energy into the ground, causing a massive explosion. The blast hits the soldiers head-on, throwing them back with the force of the attack. Taking advantage of the confusion, Yujin dives into a hole, and the soldier panics for failing to stop her. He blames the other one, shouting that they lost her because of him. Then, the leader orders them to spread out and search the surrounding area for her. Far away, Yujin's hand emerges from the leaves, showing she managed to hide. She reflects that if it weren't for the hole, things would have ended very badly for her. Meanwhile, Wu Hyun had already defeated all the insect monsters that appeared. He looks at the tracks, certain he felt Yujin's presence in that spot. With a serious expression, he concludes that something bad must have happened to her. Suddenly, the blue mission sphere begins to glow, indicating a new path. Suddenly, the mission sphere emits Yujin's voice, which echoes throughout the forest. He follows the sound, seeing a blue light falling from the sky among the trees. Upon arriving at the location, he finds one of the soldiers being attacked by a giant centipede, but the man cuts himself with a dagger, seemingly preparing to use a skill. With that, he transforms and leaps over the monster, heading toward another target. The centipede is defeated by the attack, showcasing the absurd power the soldier unleashed. Wu Hyun finally finds Yujin and asks if she's okay, but she can barely answer. He notices the wound, knowing that simple insects couldn't have caused that much damage. Wu Hyun assesses the situation, realizing the injury was caused by a special skill. With this, he's certain that all of this was the work of the traitor, Choi Hyung-chul. The mission sphere reveals that the enemy must have followed the portal anomaly. Back in the studio, the female commentator is completely shocked by what's happening. Her partner finds it strange, as Hyung-chul usually launches his attacks much later. They then theorize that this is an effect of the adaptive AI creating a secret storyline. The scene shows Yujin in hiding, thinking she barely escaped and could be attacked again. Yujin tells him to escape first, but he tells her to hide and leave it to him. But she yells no, saying Hyung Cheol is a veteran and he won't be able to handle him alone. Wu Yun reassures her with a confident look, revealing he already has a plan in mind. Meanwhile, near the river, the henchmen are searching for her and wondering where she's hiding. The leader tells them to search the valley, saying he'll go down to find the main target. Suddenly, the traitor senses a strange presence, and his eyes go on high alert. Just then, a fire attack comes out of nowhere, forcing him to dodge at the last second. The scene reveals a frightened young man who desperately asks him to wait a moment. Young Chol approaches and asks if he's the rookie, and the boy seems relieved. Wearing a mask, Woo Yun pretends to know nothing and tells the story of their separation at the portal. The traitor then hugs him, faking friendship and offering to explain what happened. With a wicked smile, he tells the rookie he'll find her soon. He just needs to rest. But it was all a trap, and Woo Hyun grabs him, revealing the plan and leaving him in shock. Choi Hyung-chul is on the ground, spitting blood and angrily cursing his opponent. His companions rush to help, asking what happened to him. The agent examines him, when suddenly a sinister silhouette emerges from the trees. Then, one of them says he'll go after the guy while the other handles first aid. He chases the suspect through the forest, but ends up losing sight of him along the way. The agent then thinks the fugitive couldn't have gone far and continues searching, but out of nowhere, a sharp object flies past him, catching him by surprise. In the blink of an eye, the white-haired man appears in front of him and grabs him by the neck. Meanwhile, the other agent tries to stop his partner's bleeding to keep him from dying. Suddenly, a strange glow catches his attention, coming from the direction of the forest. Before he could react, a sword pierces his chest, brutally taking his life. In his final moment, he's terrified by the scene, thinking the guy was a maniac. The killer reveals himself completely, showing a cold, emotionless gaze. He approaches the surviving agent and asks where his partner went. The man glares at him coldly, firmly gripping the hilt of his blade. The remaining agent charges forward with his sword, shouting furiously to avenge his partners. But he gets distracted when he sees his colleague being attacked by stone spikes erupting from the ground. Enraged by the scene, the agent leaps into the air, vowing to kill the one responsible. Kim Youngjin, however, easily destroys the spikes with his energy sphere. Not giving up, the helmeted agent touches the ground, warning that the fight isn't over. He concentrates his power, causing the ground to crack and prepare for a major attack. With this, he creates a giant earth wave that rushes forward to crush his opponent. But Kim Youngjin just stares at the blow, his eyes glowing with a golden hue. He stops the earth wave with a single hand, causing the rock to shatter on impact. The massive attack is completely neutralized by the young man's absurd strength. In seconds, the entire wave disintegrates, showing just how powerful he truly is. The agent is utterly shocked, thinking that this guy is a real monster. Then, Kim Youngjin summons a giant stone pillar, shaping it with his magic. He uses his own sword to strike the creation, transforming it into a new weapon. With a single slash, he breaks off the tip of the rock, which flies like a projectile. Even with his arm bleeding, Kim Youngjin remains completely focused. The agent falls into the spike trap, screaming in panic for him to stay away. Then, the white-haired warrior sheathes his sword, signaling the end of the fight. The rock tips he created close in quickly on the defenseless target. In an instant, the spikes crash together, impaling the agent and ending his life. With the last enemy defeated, he kneels victoriously with his two blades. The agent can barely speak as blood trickles down inside his helmet. The battle ends and he breathes a sigh of relief, wiping the blood from his face. The scene changes, showing a streamer completely shocked by what she just watched. She comments to her partner about the fight, a 3-on-1 that was simply surreal. Back in the arena, he looks at his wound and thinks his level is still too low. He then decides to look around, amidst the bodies of the defeated enemies. On the trader's phone, he finds a suspicious message about a secret mission. He takes the body, announcing that the investigation will now go to the agency. But he also finds a powerful dagger, an item that returns to his hand. He also finds the victor's bracelet, an item that increases the power of his skills. And finally, the hermit's necklace, perfect for storing or retrieving items at will. He holds the dagger, thinking that in this world, it's easy to see the effects of items. With that, he sheathes his swords, as the danger has passed and now he needs to run. His goal is to clear the area quickly, before Yujin's injuries get worse. Speaking of her, the agent stares at the sky, looking a little tired of the situation. But a giant Emperor Scorpion, the stage boss, appears right in front of her. She complains about her bad luck, but at the same time feels lucky that the rookie isn't here. Suddenly, a wave of dark energy is fired in the direction of the injured agent. She then decides she'll have to handle this alone, and concentrates power in her hand. With that, Yujin casts a barrier of golden lightning to try and stop the attack, but the monster's claw advances without difficulty, leaving her completely in shock. The scorpion prepares to crush her, when a purple barrier protects her at the last second. Out of nowhere, Woo Hyun appears over the defeated monster and asks if she's okay. She blushes and is speechless upon seeing him, while the live stream's chat goes crazy. Suddenly, the dimension begins to crack like glass, indicating that the portal is about to close. Woo Hyun congratulates her on the victory and says he'll carry her so they can get out of there as fast as possible. With her on his back, the commentators explain that they need to escape before they get trapped. He tells her to hold on tight, leaving Agent Yujin a little embarrassed by the situation. Then, the two of them run desperately towards the portal, as the world behind them falls apart. As they exit, the system informs them that the clear was successful, and he gains several levels at once. The scene changes, showing us the imposing headquarters of the management agency. Inside, leader Kim Cheol asks if it's true that Yujin was injured in an enemy attack. Woo Hyun confirms the story, enraging the leader that they had crossed the line. The leader is in disbelief when Woo Hyun says he killed them all, and asks how he managed it alone. He then remembers the scene, alone and surrounded by the bodies of the soldiers who attacked him. As proof, he hands over one of their cell phones, explaining that the orders were in the messages. Satisfied, the leader says the investigation will be easier now, and tells the young man to go rest. But just as Woo Hyun was leaving, Kim Cheol calls out to him one last time. He gives him a warning, framed as advice, that there will surely be another chance in the future. Until then, he tells the young man to hang in there, asking him to understand the message. Woo Hyun replies that he understands, with a look that shows he knows what to do. The system announces that the mission is complete, and now he can choose his second element. The live stream commentators celebrate the end of the mission, which was flashier than expected. But suddenly, the streamer gets a notification and is surprised by what she sees. An anonymous viewer donates a large sum of money and also sends a special mission along with it. Woo Hyun gets the donation notification while the streamer warns it's an insane amount. Then, she sends him a screenshot, making him curious about this special mission. He remembers the same viewer had mentioned it before and would only reveal it at the end of the stream. Woo Hyun thanks her for the info and asks her to continue streaming for now. Her partner, Seong Chol, notices Naeon is distracted and asks if something is wrong. She sees the donation was private and only she saw it, but decides to focus on the stream. To cover it up, she gets excited and yells that the stream is on fire and they're going straight to PvP. They both recall that in the last PvP, a mysterious female player dominated the win rankings. It's explained that today's mode is combat, a 5-on-5 with 4 game types. But the chat starts complaining, wanting to see duels, not a team match. Naeon gives a confident wink, saying they'll change their minds once they see it. The match search in escort mode is complete, and the attacking team prepares. The commentator confirms, announcing the first game of the day will indeed be an escort mission. He explains that the attacking team takes the payload to the objective, and the defense tries to stop them. A map shows the path, and the streamer gets excited to see the so-called goddess in action. The system announces the start of the first round, and the mission truck begins to move. The attacking team advances with the payload, while Woo Hyun stays behind, observing. Suddenly, he splits from the team, taking a completely different path from the objective. The commentator is confused, wondering why he would be falling back at the start of the game. But Woo Hyun shows a determined look, proving it's all part of his strategy. The streamer Naeon quickly realizes and points out that he's going for a rear attack. Her partner agrees, explaining it's a risky play that requires a lot of skill. Even though it's nearly impossible to stop 5 players alone, he sprints down an alley. Then, he jumps and smashes through a window, taking a shortcut to flank the enemy. The map shows his incredible speed as he closes in on the opposing defense team. The defenders look up, startled to see a silhouette flying above them. Still in the air, Woo Hyun pulls out a dagger, preparing to eliminate the first target, and with a perfect throw, he launches the blade toward one of the players. The dagger hits its mark, causing an instant kill and shocking the other defenders. One of them panics, yelling that they're being ambushed from behind. Without giving them a chance to defend, he eliminates 2 more enemies with swift, brutal attacks. His allies are completely lost, wondering what their team is doing back there. Then, an enemy player decides to face him alone to buy time for his team to advance. But the kill feed keeps popping up, showing that Woo Hyun is clearing the map. In the blink of an eye, round 1 ends with a victory for the attacking team. The commentators are stunned. They expected a fight, but it was a one-sided massacre. Seong Chol thinks he seems faster than usual, as if he has something urgent to do. In annihilation mode, the story repeats itself with Woo Hyun wiping out the enemies. He defeats all 5 by himself, leaving the arena filled with fallen bodies. The scene changes to conquest, with an explosion breaching the castle wall. The defenders scream in desperation, telling their allies to stop the intruder at all costs. But Woo Hyun is already on top, dodging fire attacks with incredible ease. He fights multiple enemies at once, showing his combat superiority. With his face smeared with blood, his intense gaze makes it clear no one can stop him. Finally, in capture mode, the stained enemy flag appears, symbolizing defeat. Amidst the bodies of his enemies, Woo Hyun captures the flag, securing the victory alone. Just then, the anonymous viewer sends more money and reveals his special mission. The streamer Naeon goes crazy over the cash and tells Woo Hyun about the new message, but he ignores her excitement and just asks her to send the screenshot of the mission. He reads the orders and realizes he'll have to keep playing to complete the objective. While the 2 exchange messages in chat, Woo Hyun contemplates the situation. For now, he decides to play along and follow the mysterious viewer's plan. The scene shifts to a few days later, at an agency combat training facility. There, Woo Hyun gets a message from Yoo Jin saying she found a substitute mentor for him. The commentators are curious, wondering who his new mentor could be. Her partner thinks that, given Woo Hyun's fame, it must be a very important agent. Arriving at the location, he finds Lee Yoo Jin herself, who greets him with a bandaged hand. He asks if she's feeling better, and she confirms someone else will be his mentor for now. Suddenly, she points to someone, saying the person has finally arrived to meet him. Then, the footsteps of a mysterious person slowly approach them down the hall. A purple-haired woman appears and introduces herself as Kim Hana, the new mentor. Woo Hyun introduces himself too, but becomes thoughtful, recognizing her name immediately. He remembers she's the agency's number 2, a very dangerous enemy in the past. Just then, Yoo Jin says she's leaving and pinches Hana's cheek, annoying her. She runs off, leaving Woo Hyun in the care of the new mentor, who yells for her to come back. With that, the two are left alone in the training field in an awkward silence. Then, she asks what type of sword he prefers, and he replies that he uses both. Hana is intrigued by his answer, trying to guess his true power level. Without wasting time, she challenges him to a little fight to test his skills. Seeing the scene, the stream's commentator is completely shocked by the situation. His partner asks what's wrong, but he just thinks the way the story is unfolding is weird. She, however, sees no problem and thinks it's normal for two swordsmen to want to fight. Inside the ring, the two face each other with training swords, ready for combat. The commentator agrees, but it seems something is still bothering him about it. He explains that this only happens because Woo Hyun is the game's protagonist. The scene cuts to the streamer, who looks absolutely terrified by what's happening on screen. Woo Hyun thinks that even with an advanced AI, his story is different from other players. It's explained that depending on the player's actions, the story can take different paths. Because of this, he starts to feel that this game is almost like reality itself. Meanwhile, Hana stares at him with a serious look, ready to start the real fight. Hana suggests a sword-only fight, but Woo Hyun says that's impossible. He explains that his strength skill is always on, and she agrees to use hers as well. With a confident smile, Hana prepares for the intense battle to begin. Woo Hyun also gives a smirk, showing he's ready for the challenge ahead. And with the signal to start, the training between the two finally begins for real. Instantly, she lunges forward with a quick strike, which Woo Hyun blocks. She continues the attack with a vertical slash, forcing our hero to retreat, but he ducks to dodge the blade, which passes inches from his face. The impact of the blow throws him off balance, making him fall to his knees on the ring floor. Without missing a beat, Hana stomps hard on the ground to create an opening. The dust kicks up, and she uses it as a distraction for her next attack. The two leap into the air, clashing their swords again in an aerial battle. The commentator is impressed, saying that as expected, Kim Hana is very strong, and the streamer thinks her build is a wind god type because of her speed. The battle in the air rages on, with both showing an absurd level of power. The commentator corrects her, explaining that the build was actually inspired by Kim Hana herself, but he also praises Woo Hyun, as he's able to keep up with her incredible speed. The two lock swords, facing each other in a contest of strength and skill. Hana is impressed that the young man can keep up with all her movements. She notices it's not just speed. He knows how to exploit openings with precision. With a wicked smile, she warns that she'll have to use a little more of her strength. Then, she unleashes a powerful aura and her sword glows, ready for a deadly strike. She attacks from above with full force, aiming directly at our hero's head, but he dodges at the last second, and her sword creates a crater in the ground. She turns to him, saying that as expected, she knew he'd be able to dodge. In the midst of the smoke, the two back away, showing how intense the fight was. Hana congratulates him, saying he's much more skilled than she expected. She asks who he learned to fight from, and he says he learned everything on his own. With the fight over, she tells him to follow her to a special place. Arriving there, he sees a wall full of swords and axes, like an armory. A man reveals that the place is the armory of the Interdimensional Management Agency. He introduces himself as Kim Hyun-woo and says he heard Woo Hyun needed a weapon. The hero confirms this, as his current weapon has no special combat abilities. With that, Hyun-woo authorizes him to choose a weapon and then leaves the area. Hana then tells him to take his time choosing, while she watches him closely. Woo Hyun analyzes the options, but thinks there are fewer good weapons than he imagined. Suddenly, he finds a red spear that steals enemies' blood to heal the user. But just as he was about to grab the spear, something at the back of the room catches his eye. His gaze locks onto a dark, imposing sword leaning against the wall. To his surprise, it was the Soul Eater, a legendary sword that devours the souls of its enemies. He picks it up, wondering how a black market item ended up in the armory. A memory flashes in his mind, revealing that this was his beloved weapon in the other world. Wu Yan then makes his decision and tells Hana he's taking the two-handed sword. He asks her to transfer ownership of the weapon, observing it with admiration. The scene cuts to the live streamer, who is completely terrified by his choice. The live streamer freaks out, because at this stage, only 2 weapon options should have appeared. The commentator points out that this isn't the first time he's obtained such a rare item. He mentions that the Hermit's Necklace was also an item from a later stage of the game. He then explains that the game has a clear system where risk equals reward. He concludes that Wu Yun purposely faced various challenges to get these items. The guy completed everything with excellence, from the lab escape to the fight with Hana. The streamer agrees, thinking the Soul Eater is the reward for all these accomplishments, but her partner warns that this is just a hypothesis and they need to keep watching. Back in the armory, the transfer is complete, and the sword is now officially his. Hana suggests they go on a mission so he can get used to the new weapon. The scene changes, showing the two arriving at the top of a snow-covered mountain. They finally reach the teleportation portal and take a deep breath before entering. She comments that his warm-up is done, since the journey there was quite long. A guard warns them that the portal is just ahead, but the area is very dangerous. It's explained that the place is full of wolves, who will soon sense their presence. Wu Hyun thinks about the beasts, saying this will save him the trouble of looking for them. At that, Hana says she'll just watch, and will only intervene if things get ugly. He then summons the Soul Eater from his inventory, the sword glowing purple. Suddenly, a loud noise echoes through the forest, announcing the arrival of something. Multiple wolf paws race through the snow, rapidly approaching the 2 hunters. With his eyes glowing, Wu Hyun senses the threat and warns that they're coming. Immediately after, a pack of giant wolves surrounds the duo, ready to attack. Without hesitation, he leaps into the air, preparing his first attack with all his might. The protagonist decides to go all out from the start, descending with his sword in hand. With a single spin, he unleashes a wave of energy that destroys all the wolves. The system then notifies him that the Soul Eater's cutting power has greatly increased. The commentators are shocked, as he wields the giant sword as if it were a feather. Then, the hero holds the weapon, feeling that it's different from anything he's ever used. Hana is impressed by what she sees, recognizing the technique he just used. Then, she asks if that was the legendary Celestial Moon Slash, completely surprised. The warrior has just defeated a wolf, but another is already preparing to pounce. In the broadcast room, a commentator is confused, not understanding the situation. Suddenly, a pack of electric wolves appears, surrounding the player from all sides. A streamer is startled, saying the elite monsters appeared too quickly. Without wasting a moment, the beasts charge together, leaping to attack all at once. But the warrior reacts instantly, spinning his blade at incredible speed. The scene cuts to the commentators, who wonder where he learned to fight like that. The streamer then has a hunch, wondering if it could be the Colosseum method. Back in the action, he cuts down one of the wolves with a brutal and precise strike. Just then, a donation on screen confirms the theory, mentioning the Colosseum training. He plants his feet firmly on the ground, using the momentum to launch himself at the other beasts. And with a powerful aerial attack, he descends to finish off the remaining monsters. His sword pierces the leader's skull, ending the fight in a bloody fashion. Watching everything, Agent Kim Hana smiles, looking quite pleased. The system then announces that his weapon's cutting power has increased from the battle. Suddenly, his eye glows yellow, detecting an incredibly powerful presence. He then takes a defensive stance, sensing that something big is coming his way. And from the skies, the head of a colossal wolf emerges, opening its mouth to attack. It was the boss monster, the Silver Wolf, charging at him with absurd force. The commentator gets excited, explaining that this boss is famous for destroying rookies. The force of the impact is so great that he's dragged back through the forest. The streamer says he managed to block it, but he's being pushed back by the monster's strength. He uses his own body and his weapon to hold back the giant creature's bite. With a grunt of effort, he tries to push the beast's jaw away from him. Then he manages to break free, leaping away and preparing to counterattack. In a quick spin, he gathers energy in his blade for a single, decisive blow. He grips his weapon tightly, noticing the beast is much stronger than the other monsters. But with a confident smile, he makes it clear he can handle this level of power. And in a flash, he unleashes an energy slash that splits the wolf in 2. His sword then devours the boss's soul, further increasing its cutting power. An agent approaches him, praising the agency's most promising rookie. She then confesses she almost interfered, as the boss was stronger than expected. On the stream, the streamer gets worked up, pointing out the difficulty was supposed to be lower. She analyzes the situation and says the levels seem to be at least B rank. Back in the forest, Agent Hana continues to lay out the facts for Baek Woo-yeon. The commentator agrees that the game's difficulty patterns are very strange. He hypothesizes that the player's actions might be influencing the mission. But even with the boss dead, the portal didn't close, which is a clear anomaly. The agent then calls him to investigate the cause, and the two advance through the forest. Suddenly, they hear a noise in the bushes and stop in surprise to look. And right there, they find a nest with a giant glowing egg in the middle. Just then, the egg begins to crack, putting both agents on high alert. She tells him to be careful, and the egg shatters with a bright flash of light. But to their surprise, a cute little puppy emerges from inside, barking happily. The two are completely baffled as the small dog runs excitedly around them. The agent notices the anomaly as the docile puppy rubs against the warrior's leg. He then suggests taking the creature to the lab, since it's a very special case. Woo Hyun agrees with the plan and picks up the puppy, which lets out a cute bark. The world around them begins to crumble, and she warns that they need to get out of there now. The scene changes to the agency's headquarters, where this case was also a first of its kind. In the lab, the doctor reveals that, to their surprise, the creature is not from another world. He suspects it's a summon, but Hana denies they have that ability. The conclusion is that the puppy originated from the reverse world itself, not from the agents. The doctor explains they can't take it, as it has already grown attached to Woo Hyun. Suddenly, the system registers the lightning wolf as his pet, leaving him confused. And out of nowhere, an emergency maintenance notification appears for all players. Woo Hyun is baffled as his sword and the puppy begin to glow red. On the stream, the streamer asks what's suddenly happening with the game. The commentators find it too much of a coincidence. A new pet and an update right after. But a donation celebrates the reveal of the game's first pet, even before the update. The streamer gets excited, wondering if the emergency update was because of his pet. With maintenance approaching, she decides to end the stream and says goodbye to her audience. Elsewhere, someone turns off the TV just as our hero's stream ends. The scene shifts to a conference room at Planet Earth in the United States. A woman asks if Woo Yun is the guy who found an Easter egg they didn't even know existed. Development lead Sophia is annoyed by an update that not even her team knew about. Then one of the employees says that only one person would be capable of doing something like that. We're introduced to Isaac, the team's former genius leader, who is now missing. Sophia is furious because he just shuts down the server and updates it however he wants. She then asks about the god, but the team says they haven't been able to activate it yet. We then see an image of the AI that stopped working when Isaac mysteriously disappeared. Without wasting time, Sophia orders them to check if there are more hidden update files. She yells that they need to find those files no matter what, no matter how hard it is. And she also orders them to put Woo Yun on a special surveillance list to monitor him. With a determined look, she vows she won't let Isaac's plans succeed. The scene then shifts to a digital space, where a hand made of code manifests. The hand glows brightly, then dissolves in an explosion of data and light. The scene changes to a cafe where Woo Yun is meeting a girl to talk. A system message pops up, warning him that he'll need a trustworthy companion. The girl excitedly talks about an anonymous viewer, leaving Woo Yun deep in thought. He has two missions, one to eliminate a director and another to unlock a new system. To do that, he thinks this anonymous viewer must have some connection to the system. She suggests it could be an employee from the game company, but he thinks it's just a coincidence. She then changes the subject, saying she has great news about the SSR Cup. It's explained that this is the country's biggest PvP tournament, which recruits famous people. He asks why they want him as a coach, and she says he's the center of attention. She continues, saying he can showcase his skills in a different way at the event. He then asks if being a coach means training a disciple, and she confirms it. Remembering his mission, he sees the opportunity and accepts the offer on the spot. The girl is shocked by his quick decision, but happy about what it will bring to the stream. She immediately grabs her phone to confirm, while he thinks about needing a companion. Days later, a new broadcast begins with the commentators welcoming everyone. The female commentator makes a bombshell announcement: the god of mechanics will be a coach in the SSR Cup. The news shocks the chat, with everyone wondering why he won't be a player. At this point, the commentators explain that playing well and teaching well are two completely different things. Woo Hyun then decides to focus on raising his rank, to build credibility as a coach. It's revealed that he has no rank in survival mode, but he can play to get placed. Suddenly, an insane mission appears, offering a reward that shocks the hosts. He faces the challenge of getting 40 kills without any weapons, and the female commentator doubts it's possible. But the god of mechanics accepts the mission and queues up for survival mode to prove them wrong. The system quickly finds him a solo ranked match to begin the challenge. His character then spawns on the map, appearing in an abandoned military base. He analyzes the location, realizing he's on the outskirts of the main combat zone. Using his ability, he detects 19 other players nearby. Knowing the mission, he understands he needs to hurry if he wants to get those 40 kills. So without wasting a second, he leaps from a high place to start the hunt. Upon landing, he unleashes a shockwave that surges forward, clearing a path ahead. He immediately rushes in, punching the first opponent who doesn't even have time to react. And without stopping, he lands a solid hit on another enemy, showing off his absurd strength. The commentators and the chat are stunned, unable to believe the speed of the fight. A kill feed starts scrolling up the screen, one after another without stopping. Woohyun moves like a blur across the map, hunting down every target he finds. With that, he's already racked up 18 kills, nearing the halfway point of the mission. After clearing the outskirts, he decides to head to the center of the map to find more people. The match progresses, and now only 2 players are left standing, him and one other. Elsewhere, the last opponent is also waiting, his face hidden by a hood. Woohyun finds him and immediately lunges forward with a high, powerful strike. But the guy dodges with absurd speed, surprising both the chat and our hero. The mysterious player lands nimbly, preparing to counterattack instantly. He then cracks his knuckles, showing he's also ready for a close quarters fight. Woohyun faces his opponent, and the commentator notices something familiar about his style. They realize the player also uses a strength build, just like the god of mechanics. The female commentator notes that the mysterious player already has a total of 15 kills. Meanwhile, Woohyun is at 39, just 1 kill away from completing the mission. The final fight begins, and he dodges a swift strike from his opponent, but he instantly counters, landing a powerful blow on the hooded figure. The impact makes the mysterious player double over, feeling the force of the attack. He tries to recover, but Woohyun dodges again, giving him no opening. The two then trade blows, their fists colliding with immense force. The opponent is pushed back, and Woohyun prepares to go all out. The hooded player grits his teeth, feeling the pressure of the intense battle. The commentators are shocked, saying the two are fighting like martial artists. Woohyun realizes his opponent's movements are good, but still not enough to win. The enemy attempts an aerial attack, but our hero dodges it perfectly. He then lands a palm strike to the guy's chest, breaking his guard. With the fight decided, he thinks he can now end this once and for all. And in a devastating rush, he charges forward to deliver the final blow of the match. Defeated, the mysterious player laments that he wasn't used to this build, but he says it was fun, and warns that next time, the fight will be for real. Woohyun is intrigued by the warning, as the enemy vanishes before his eyes. Then the system confirms the end of the game, with him in first place and 40 kills. The commentators celebrate ecstatically, as he has finally completed the insane mission. And on the screen, the donation from DUS appears, paying out the huge promised reward. Excited, the female commentator tells him to ride the momentum and keep climbing the ranks. And that's how, on that day, he achieved 96 consecutive wins and reached master rank. The scene changes, showing a girl on her phone looking at game news. She then sees a post about the audition to become the god of mechanics disciple. The streamer, Jung Areum, asks her brother if they shouldn't apply too. But her brother, Jung Do-woon, tells her he's already applied and that he's the older one. She complains that he was too fast, and it's explained that the two are twins. Meanwhile, at the Planet Earth office, Sophia is closely analyzing the situation. She reads a detailed report on the recent activities of the player Woohyun, and upon seeing the name DUS, she becomes intrigued, as it seems very suspicious. A few days later, everything was ready in a large stadium to begin the broadcast. First off, he shows off his new pet, the adorable level 1 lightning wolf. The pet's skills are pretty basic, and the commentator says it doesn't seem very special. Over the radio, Neon informs him that she has already selected the audition finalists for him to see. Just then, the commentator calls out to her, saying the broadcast is about to start. She then asks him to get ready, and Woohyun decides to send the pet back home. The little pup makes a cute noise, seeming like it doesn't want to leave. He gets a little flustered by the creature's cuteness, but quickly pulls himself together. Now, in front of the terminal, he prepares to start the audition event. But suddenly, an emergency alert sounds, and his communicator starts vibrating. He grabs his phone and sees an urgent message from the Dimensional Administration Agency. Several alerts begin to appear, reporting attacks in different cities across the country. The commentators are shocked, as a mass attack is happening live. It's explained that this is a reverse attack, where monsters from another dimension invade Earth. Woohyun then receives a new mission, and wonders if the dimensional war is getting worse. Suddenly, Agent Kim Hana comes running up, excitedly calling Woohyun a rookie. She tells him that she's already prepared a vehicle for them, as they need to act as quickly as possible. The scene changes, and the two arrive at a national park, the location of one of the attacks. Upon entering, they find several dead goblins, realizing they arrived too late. She explains that other agents must have arrived first to hunt the monsters. Hana then suggests they split up to cover more ground, and he agrees. With the plan set, she says goodbye, and runs in another direction to help. Alone, His eyes gleam as he decides which side he'll investigate first. Elsewhere, a person runs desperately, screaming for them to stay away. Right behind, a defenseless girl is being chased by a pack of wild goblins. But suddenly, a chained weapon flies towards the monsters at high speed. The blade strikes one of the goblins in the head, and it screams in pain from the impact. Woo-hyun then pulls the chain, dragging the creature effortlessly. He spins the monster's body, using it as a weapon to save the terrified civilian. But in the middle of it, another goblin leaps from the shadows to try a surprise attack. But with a single swing of his weapon, he finishes off all the remaining goblins. With the danger gone, he introduces himself as an agent and points her toward a safe path. The girl thanks him and runs away, leaving him alone in the forest clearing. He realizes he needs to find the horde's leader before more monsters appear. And speak of the devil, a giant hobgoblin emerges from behind, attempting a fatal blow. Woo-hyun reacts in time, blocking the strike and sending the monster flying with the impact. Without wasting time, he launches his weapon towards the boss to end the fight. But the hobgoblin manages to block the attack, proving to be much more skilled. Woo-hyun is surprised as he notices another mysterious silhouette behind the monster. With the distraction, the hobgoblin charges, and he is forced to retreat from the attack. The chat is confused, as it seems the god of machinery is only defending himself. The commentators notice that he's looking somewhere else, not at his enemy. While blocking an attack, he warns the observer that he's not just going to stand by and watch. He then charges at the monster, preparing to take the fight seriously. But suddenly, the hobgoblin stops and points at something behind Woo-hyun. Shocked, suddenly the hobgoblin is crushed by a giant fist coming from above. Woo-hyun turns, sensing the presence that was hidden the whole time. He then faces the mysterious silhouette that was watching him from the forest shadows. With an intimidating glare, he demands the creature show itself. And from the trees, a dimensional invader emerges, a demon from another world. The commentators panic, as it's extremely rare for an invader to appear so early. The creature stares at Woo-hyun, seeming to analyze its opponent before the battle. He notes that this is the first time an invader has appeared like this, without warning. Unfazed, Woo-hyun gets into a fighting stance and says he'll take on the challenge. The two exchange a serious look, preparing for the coming combat. Without wasting a second, Woo-hyun charges forward at the new enemy with everything he's got. The initial impact between them generates a massive blast of energy on the spot, but the demon withstands the blow, revealing a golden aura and much greater power. Woo-hyun doesn't back down and lands a solid blow right on the purple creature's face. He then moves so fast he creates multiple afterimages, surrounding the enemy from all sides. The commentator says the fight is reminiscent of the finals of The Last Survival. With a glint in his eye, Woo-hyun realizes his suspicion was correct all along. The two trade blows, and he confirms that the enemy is copying his moves. He then remembers that a special robot was created to hunt him down in the past, but this time, the creature is much stronger and launches a blast of energy. Woo-hyun is unfazed and grabs the demon's arm with crushing force. He says the imitation is clumsy and slams the invader into the ground with all his might. The impact is so strong, it opens a crater, ending the battle at once. With a bloody fist, he stares at the creature's destroyed body on the ground. He wonders who could be behind this, repeating the same tactic from the lab. He suspects the corporate alliance or even the invaders' side. But suddenly, an idea strikes him, and he starts to connect all the dots. He realizes the enemy didn't copy him in PvE, but in his PvP fight. This means that, as he suspected, someone powerful is behind all of this. The image of a digital face appears, and he wonders if it's Spectator 62 again. A familiar voice calls out to him, pulling him from his thoughts about the mysterious enemy. It was Agent Hana. She asks if he's cleared the area, and he confirms he's done. But when she sees the monster's body on the ground, she's completely shocked by the scene. She realizes it was a commander-type invader, something that shouldn't have been there. Over the radio, she requests a cleanup crew and a general alert about other invaders. Afterward, she praises him for a job well done. He asks about the other areas. Hana explains that the situation has calmed down, and they should head back to base now. With the mission complete, the system notifies him that he has leveled up and gained a point. The scene shifts back to the agency's headquarters, where the situation is being carefully analyzed. His superior calls him in for a talk, stating the topic is the invader he killed. He explains that the creature is completely different, almost like another species, so he asks for details, and Woo-hyun begins to recount everything that happened in the fight. But the man is shocked to hear that the invader tried to copy his movements. On the stream, the commentators find his reaction strange and significant. The superior explains that an invader has never imitated a human before, which is extremely dangerous. He concludes that if they've changed their tactics, their infiltration of Earth will be nearly unstoppable. Woo-hyun realizes the gravity of the situation, as it would cause chaos and a large-scale invasion. He also suspects the corporate alliance, which would join them for profit. The superior takes a deep breath, aware of the imminent danger they are all in, but he changes his tone, thanking Woo-hyun for preventing a greater disaster. He then hands him a box, saying the rookie is now qualified to receive it. Woo-hyun opens the gift, curious to know what was inside the small box. As he leaves the room, he's surprised by a familiar voice calling him from down the hall. It was Kim Hana and Lee Yoo-jin, who seem excited to see him again after some time. They explain they came to congratulate him on the gift he received from the leader. Inside the box was an official agent's badge, a tradition for those who are promoted. Yoo-jin says his mentor should be doing this, but she'll do it in his place. Carefully, she pins the new badge to the collar of Woo-hyun's uniform. They both warmly congratulate him on becoming an official agent. He thanks them, and Yoo-jin tells him there's something very important he needs to learn now. He gains solo operation authority, which allows him to act without red tape. Hana complains that he got it so soon since she got hurt a lot to reach that point. They both look embarrassed, but they know the circumstances behind it were serious. Yoo-jin tells him not to hesitate to call them for help, even with his new authority. Back on the stream, the host cuts the scene and asks about his plans. He says that today's announcement will be about the audition Woo-hyun is holding. With a post on the screen, he reminds everyone about the audition to become a disciple. The audition is then announced with the title, The New Nuclear Superstar. She confirms that the number of applicants is huge, and the selection is already in its final phase. With a thumbs up, she asks the audience to follow along until the very end. Backstage, we see the finalists waiting, including the two twin siblings. The atmosphere is tense, and the two look at each other, wondering what the competition will be like. Dawoon notices the variety of finalists, from a famous YouTuber to a rookie. He also sees a muscular streamer, and wonders why he was invited to the audition. We then see the guy scoffing, saying this so-called god isn't all he's cracked up to be. Dawoon thinks they chose him on purpose to teach him a lesson, but his sister doubts it. In fact, it was Nayeon who chose the candidate, and now she knows he's in trouble. The production crew then starts the countdown for the live broadcast. The commentators welcome the viewers and introduce themselves for the event. They explain that the audition will be held in an open studio to accommodate a large crowd. And without further ado, they call out the big star of the day, the god of mechanics. With a brilliant aura, Baek Woo-hyun appears on stage, formally introducing himself. The participants are stunned by his presence, unable to believe what they're seeing, but he maintains a serious expression, focused on his goal for the day. In a flashback, he asks Nayeon what game content requires teammates. We then see that raids are one of the two main PvE contents in the game. Unlike the reverse world, a raid requires defeating an enemy and having a group. Back in the present, he faces the candidates and says he's here to select a student. He warns that the chosen one must follow his teachings, and anyone who isn't confident can leave. He also says that anyone who doesn't follow his instructions can be kicked out at any moment. He then promises that if they have the will to learn, he will take them all the way to master rank. The scoffing streamer doubts him, saying Woo-hyun needs to prove his skills first. So he steps down from the stage and issues a challenge, a 12-on-1 fight. And the rule is simple. If they land one valid hit within 10 minutes, they win. The commentators are shocked as he made this decision without telling anyone. One of the candidates sees the opportunity, since a single blow guarantees approval, but he knows it would be impossible without a handicap, so he draws a circle. He promises not to step out of that space, and also not to attack first. At this, a candidate asks if they can team up, and he allows them to use anything. With the rules set, his eye glows, and he finally announces the start of the test. One of the hunters smirks at him, saying he wants to see if he's tough. Then, he unleashes a gigantic fire spear, yelling to see how much he can take. But our protagonist faces the attack head-on, without a single hint of fear. With a subtle movement, the spear flies right past him and explodes violently behind. The hunter is shocked, unable to believe he dodged the blow so easily. Then, with a superior air, he warns that he doesn't have time and tells them all to come at once. The other hunters look at each other, preparing to attack together and surround their target. They charge forward at the same time, unleashing a barrage of attacks from all directions. Even surrounded, the masked man faces them all with a cold, calculating gaze. And suddenly, a shockwave effortlessly throws all his enemies back. Lying on the ground, they realize their attacks are having no effect on him. Just as one of them rallies not to give up, a new person appears before them. It was a new hunter, who runs in and yells for them to leave the rest to her. Without hesitation, the girl charges toward the enemy with incredible speed. She then launches a dual attack, aiming high and low simultaneously, but he blocks both strikes at once, impressing the girl with his defense. Without ceremony, he throws them both away with absurd strength, catching them by surprise. They fall to the ground completely dazed, just as the test timer finally runs out. With that, all the hunters are defeated, leaving only him standing in the middle of the arena. He then says this proves his skills and asks if anyone still has any objections. Quickly, the brute answers for everyone, shouting that no one there disagrees. He states that this only proves his power, and now he needs to show he's also a good coach. The scene changes to the stage, where Neon announces that the show, Nuclear Superstar, is about to begin. The masked man finishes her sentence, confirming the start of the competition with a serious look. Then, the commentator Seong-chol asks Nayeon what the disciples' first mission will be. She explains it's a simple challenge: hold a 150-kilogram barbell for 3 minutes. Seong-chol adds that the mission's build improves the player's strength and stamina. To prove it, Nayeon shows a holographic photo of her and her partner completing the challenge. She then invites the participants to the stage and asks if anyone has any questions. Immediately, the two hunters raise their hands, wanting to know the mission's rules. Seong-chol explains that the score depends on speed, so being fast gives an advantage. With that, Nayeon announces that the bottom 4 will be eliminated from the competition. The hunters are shocked by the news, as they didn't expect such a large elimination, but Nayeon reassures them, saying they can try again within the 30-minute time limit. 5 minutes later, everyone was already training hard, trying to lift the barbell. Meanwhile, a donation appears on the live stream, with a fan asking who will pass first. The commentator asks the others for their predictions, and the masked man bets the twins will win. Suddenly, Nayeon panics as she reads a document about the show's poor reception. She desperately defends herself, shouting that they aren't ignoring long-range builds. To prove her point, she reveals that the second mission will be a shooting test. Then she asks who wants to take the challenge, and the swordsman and the twins volunteer immediately. The three of them get ready on the platform, waiting for the signal to start the real test. At the start, they all use their maximum strength to lift the heavy barbell at once. After a minute, one of the twins already considers giving up, but his sister refuses to stop. But at nearly 3 minutes, the swordsman can't hold on and drops the bar, getting eliminated. Nayeon excitedly announces that the twins have passed the 3-minute mark, becoming the first to succeed. With victorious smiles, they celebrate together, showing they came to compete for real. The swordsman then desperately asks if he can try again, and the host agrees. And on his second attempt, he finally succeeds, showing his great determination. Blue Whale watches from afar, worried because there are few spots left to qualify. He remembers his bad online reputation and decides he must pass this test at any cost. As a new participant draws attention, he realizes this is his opportunity. Nayeon then excitedly asks if anyone else wants to face the challenge. Blue Whale steps forward, drawing attention as he says he'll give it a try. With a smile, he raises his hand, and the host asks him to come up to the stage. He then steps onto the platform as a blue aura glows around his body. The test begins, and he grips the bar firmly, preparing to lift. In an instant, he lifts the weight with impressive strength, showing no difficulty at all. With a smug smile, he brags about passing the 2-minute mark on his first try. But the masked man watches from the side, a suspicious look in his eyes. At the end of the 3 minutes, he drops the bar to the floor, successfully completing the mission. But as Nayeon congratulates him, the masked man steps in and asks him to wait a moment. Woo-yeon then asks Blue Whale what he thinks he's doing, leaving the guy confused. With a serious gaze, he reveals that he noticed the participant was using illegal buffs. The streamer plays dumb, asking what kind of buffs he could possibly be using. The host gets curious and asks Woo-hyun why he thinks the guy cheated. He explains that he noticed a shift in his posture, a typical tell of buff usage. She asks if he's sure, but Woo-hyun insists he has no doubt about it. He then challenges Blue Whale to show his buff system, who glares back at him. Woo-hyun bets his career and all his money, saying he'll quit for good if he's wrong. With that, he tells the streamer to try adjusting the system, and the guy accepts, irritated. He tries to mess with the system but complains it's not working because of lag. His face sweating with rage, he realizes he's been completely exposed, so he threatens everyone and disconnects from the game, vanishing right in front of them. Nayeon apologizes for the confusion, and the rookie streamer Curia offers to go next. The competition continues, and in the shooting trial, the elite marksman came out on top. The eliminated players say their goodbyes, and the host thanks everyone for their effort in the trial. With that, the individual missions are over, and Seong-chol announces the start of the team battles. Teams A and B are formed, balancing the rankings of each participant. Nayeon then excitedly reveals the first and long-awaited group mission. She explains that robots will appear every minute, and the team that defeats the most wins. Seong-chol adds that everyone can use their skills, but buffs will be limited. The training robots appear in the arena, and the host announces the start of the challenge. At the end of the first round, the scoreboard shows that Team A has defeated 10 robots. The commentator explains that Team A is ahead because they have more long-range shooters. Meanwhile, the close-range fighters get surrounded if they aren't fast enough to attack. Curia and the twin worry about their loss, so she suggests they ask the coach for help. The rest of Team B likes the idea, as it would also prove the master's talent. The girl then goes to Nayeon and asks if they can have this special training. To keep things fair, Nayeon announces that she and Seong-cheol will be the coaches for each team. Woo-hyun finds the idea interesting and says he agrees, if Team A accepts as well. Team A discusses the proposal, thinking the other coach might be better for them. They don't think 30 minutes will change much, so they end up agreeing to the idea. With that, one of them raises their hand to signal their acceptance, and the trial is postponed. Woo-hyun gathers his team, explaining they need to understand the robots' weaknesses to win. He says the robots don't fear pain and attack without thinking if they see an opening, but if the players can identify this attack pattern, they can use it against them. With that in mind, he assures them they'll be able to predict the enemy's movements. After the theory lesson, he takes his position and announces they will now have a practice battle. He tells the team to attack him, releasing a frightening aura that resembles a robot. The swordsman prepares himself, feeling that even though it's just practice, the pressure is very real. Without wasting a moment, the swordsman charges forward, yelling, ready to attack with all his might. But Woo-hyun stops the blade with just 2 fingers, leaving the fighter completely shocked. With a light push, he throws the swordsman back, who falls helplessly. The man is thrown violently to the ground, defeated in the first moment of training. Seeing this, the twins decide to attack together, combining a strategy to surround him. They run in opposite directions while Curia prepares a magical attack from a distance. But she's afraid of hitting her friends, unsure of what to do with her power. Just then, Woo-hyun lands a quick blow to the sister's stomach, who feels the impact of the attack. And right after, he hits the brother with a strike to the face, neutralizing them both. With both of them on the ground, Woo-hyun realizes the team has no coordination. He then says the first step is for them to decide on a method for fighting as a team. Team A watches from a distance, impressed by the rival coach's analytical skills. Seong-cheol apologizes for spying, saying the tip only applies to the team of fighters. He then tells his team they'll be fine, and suggests they check their builds. 15 minutes later, the challenge begins, and Team B appears much more confident. It's Team B's turn, and the training robots appear in the arena, ready for battle. The match begins, and the team charges forward, showing a new attacking stance. The twin sister lands a direct hit, following the advice she received in training. She remembers she needs to be ready to counterattack, predicting the robot's next move. Just then, her brother attacks from above, and together they manage to break the enemy's defense. The swordsman then takes advantage of the opening and finishes the robot with a precise cut to its leg. From a distance, Curia concentrates, understanding that her role is to support everyone. In a flashback, the coach explains that as the only marksman, she is the key to the team. He encourages her not to be afraid of making mistakes, and she agrees, filled with determination. But back in the fight, the swordsman is in trouble as a robot approaches from behind. Without hesitation, Curia joins her hands and casts her ice magic to save her teammate. The attack freezes the robot solid, preventing it from hitting the swordsman by surprise. She yells that she'll protect the rear, telling them to keep fighting without worry. The commentators watch, shocked, unable to believe the team's incredible speed. And as time runs out, the last robot is destroyed, concluding the round perfectly. The final score is revealed, with Team B having defeated a total of 14 robots. Seong-cheol is impressed, saying this proves Coach Woo-hyun's incredible skill. But in their second attempt, Team A only manages to defeat a total of 12 robots. With that, Nayeon shows the final score, comparing the best result from each team. She then announces Team B's victory, and they celebrate, shouting that they won the trial. As the victorious team celebrates, Team A watches from afar, very disappointed with their loss. One of the losers thinks that, based on the result, Woo-hyun must also know how to train marksmen. So, he approaches the coach and asks for one last piece of advice before they're eliminated. With a calm expression, our protagonist agrees to give some tips to the defeated team. The scene shifts to the hosts, who announce that the finals will be a 2-on-2 battle. The eliminated players say their goodbyes, thanking them for the opportunity and the fun experience. The final mission is revealed to be a survival competition, where the last team standing wins. With that, the final pairs are formed, with the twins on one side and the swordsman with Curia on the other. The scene shifts to a gym where a training session has just ended. A woman thanks her personal trainer, completely exhausted after the tough workout. Then, she grabs her phone and remembers to check the competition results. She sees that the twins won, just as everyone had expected, but she gets lost in thought as she never imagined Woo Yun would appear as a coach on the show. She remembers that coaches can pick a team and wonders if he would choose her. With a smile, she gets excited about the chance to do a live stream with him again. The scene cuts to Nayeon and Seongchul, who are starting another live broadcast. They're about to hear the nuclear zombies answer, which was left hanging from the last stream. He then reveals his plan, saying he intends to conquer the reverse world all by himself. Kim Hana agrees that with his skills, that shouldn't be much of a problem. But then Lee Yujin announces she has a message for him, asking him to check his phone. Over in the garage, his phone vibrates, and he sees that the message has finally arrived. The message was from Yujin, reminding him about the guys who attacked them before. She reveals that the men were after him, and that there's a chance they might attack again. She continues the message, saying they won't act recklessly, as they are prepared. The message ends with a list of worlds, leaving our protagonist deep in thought. Back on the live stream, Nayeon comments that this seems like a clear sign of another attack. Upon arriving at the location, a mysterious voice calls out to Woo Yun as soon as he steps out of the car. An agent then introduces himself, informing him that he will escort him safely to his destination. He thanks the driver, who wishes him a safe trip before he heads into the forest. With that, the car drives off, leaving our hero alone in the dark and sinister place. Woo Yun approaches a clearing and faces a mysterious portal floating in the air. He reads the security message, but soon realizes that he was, in fact, surrounded. Hiding in the trees, an enemy with a flaming sword prepares for an ambush. He assesses the situation and realizes there are 6 enemies in total, all lying in wait. Suddenly, they unleash multiple magic attacks at once in his direction, but Woo Yun faces it head-on, remaining calm even with the imminent danger. One of the enemies lunges forward with a spear, trying to hit him amidst all the chaos. He then leaps and dodges everything, preparing to counterattack one of the mages. He gets in front of the mage in an instant, preparing a direct blow to his face, but one of the henchmen jumps in front and blocks the attack, protecting his comrade. Woo Hyun lands calmly, ready to face the challenge ahead. The group's leader then appears, saying his senses are sharper than he'd imagined. With a sinister smile, he greets him, saying it's a pleasure to meet Baek Woo Hyun. But then he asks if he shouldn't call him Test Subject 48 instead, making Woo Hyun tense up. Woo Hyun then questions if they're from the corporation, and the man confirms they are. Straight to the point, the leader orders him to return to the laboratory, leaving Woo Hyun confused. He promises to develop his abilities, but our hero cuts him off, calling it bullshit. With a dark aura, he takes his stance and tells the man to stop talking nonsense. The man smirks, simply lamenting that this was his response. Then he warns that the consequences of his choice are his to bear, as his men get ready. The leader yells for them to get the target, and they all advance with their magic at once. One of the mages tries a close-range strike, but Woo Hyun parries the blow with ease. The impact of their powers creates a huge explosion, forcing him to fall back to defend himself. He then spins his spear and blocks the dagger of an enemy who appears at his side. With a focused gaze, he holds his ground, ready for whatever comes next. At that, he leaps and uses his weapon to defend against a massive energy attack. The leader yells desperately, telling his men not to panic and to keep attacking. Following the order, the other hunters unleash their elemental powers all at once. The fire, ice, and wind magic combine, creating a gigantic explosion on the spot. But through the smoke, Woo Hyun emerges on his feet, completely intact and without a single scratch. Back on the live stream, Nayeon comments that their coordination is no match for the nuclear zombie. Seeing their comrades defeated, the remaining hunters are left furious and with no other option. The leader then yells for everyone to take item TL01, their final trump card. The commentators are confused, as they've never heard of it and can't find anything online. Seongchul then deduces that the nuclear zombie must have gone off script again. The leader holds a mysterious pill, warning that Woo Hyun is going to regret this. Without hesitation, he swallows the item, preparing to use that unknown power. A dark energy envelops him, and he screams in pain as his body transforms. He writhes in pain on the ground as his body grotesquely transforms. Woo Hyun watches the scene intently, trying to understand what was happening. Then, the other hunters also begin to transform in midair, suffering. On the live stream, Nayeon recognizes the energy, saying it looks a lot like an invader's. The leader warns that this is no ordinary steroid and tells him to prepare for the worst. Without wasting a moment, the transformed hunter charges forward at an absolutely absurd speed. He then unleashes a strike charged with a dark and utterly destructive energy. The attack causes a massive explosion, engulfing everything in its sinister purple energy. But Woo Hyun emerges from the smoke, realizing their power has completely changed now. One of the hunters takes the opportunity and fires a powerful blast of fire right at him, but he dodges the attacks with ease, spinning and parrying everything with his weapon. With quick and precise movements, he defends himself from the flames without any difficulty. Next, another enemy appears in the air, attacking with a powerful green energy slash. The attack explodes on the ground, and Nayeon, on the live stream, starts to find all of this very strange. He stomps his foot on the ground, analyzing his enemy's new fighting style. With that, he realizes that the hunters seem to be controlled by someone else. He decides he needs to end this quickly so he can investigate what's happening. Just then, one of the hunters unleashes a massive jet of flames, trying to burn him alive, but he slices through the flames with his spear, defending against the attack with no difficulty. Then, he charges through the fire and aims directly for the leader, ready to strike. The leader summons a rock hook to defend himself, but Woo Hyun shatters it with a single blow. With his defense broken, the hunter grinds his teeth, frustrated that he can't stop him. Just then, two mages appear to provide support, charging a combined energy attack. They fire a beam cannon and a shockwave at him at the same time, but he leaps at the last second, dodging the attack and preparing to counter. In response, he launches an attack with energy beams that slice through everything in their path. The explosion is so powerful it devastates the entire clearing, leaving nothing standing. In the middle of the smoke, the leader wonders what happened, completely confused, and suddenly, all his men fall to the ground, defeated in a single instant. Woo Hyun then grabs the leader by the collar, ready to get some answers. He asks about the drug they used, but the man can only cough in response. With his face bleeding, the leader is shocked, because that's not how the drug was supposed to work. And with a final breath, his life fades away, dying right in front of Woo Hyun. He then deduces that the drug's effect must have been altered somehow. Since it was an unknown substance, he decides to search the area for more clues, but he finds nothing useful, just some broken cell phones and weapons on the ground. Suddenly, Kim Hana and Lee Yujin arrive, running and calling out his name, worried. Hana apologizes for being late, but Woo Hyun, with his usual calm, says it's fine. On the live stream, Seungcheol comments that this mission revealed a lot about the game's story. Woo Hyun asks how they knew about the ambush, and Hana explains they received a tip. Hana explains that Agent Ji-hoon gave them the wrong location and then resigned. She managed to track him using the car's camera, but Woo Hyun had already handled everything. He says he doesn't need a reward, so the team begins to clean up the site. The scene then shifts to the city at night, where everything seems calm and peaceful. But instead of going home, Woo Hyun walks alone down a dark and mysterious alley. The commentators are confused as they thought he was going to report to his superior. At that moment, he starts to suspect that the anonymous spectator is the game's developer. He remembers the adaptive artificial intelligence and the new systems that appeared. He also recalls the invaders, and that drug no one had ever heard of. With this, he understands why the game's story always changes based on his choices. Then, he realizes that Reverse Planet is the key to unlocking the secrets of this world. He decides to start by investigating the corporate alliance, as he needs to stop them for good. He then interacts with a holographic screen, changing his build and leaving the commentators confused. He remembers that this was the build he used in his old world as Superman, and with a dark aura, he activates his ultimate power, the Destruction build. With his new build activated, he faces the camera as the chat goes wild over his new look. He doesn't know where the drug is made, but he remembers a corporation is involved. Then, he arrives in front of Gumshin Electronics, confirming it was them all along. The commentators are shocked, realizing he's planning to invade the building. And under the moonlight, he prepares to begin his new infiltration mission. With that, he changes his appearance to disguise himself, and his power increases even more. He puts on a test subject's uniform and his mask, ready to act fast. With everything ready, he leaps into the air, wondering if he should start with full force. The camera focuses on the top of the building, the final target of his silent invasion. Without hesitation, he smashes through a window and breaks in, catching everyone by surprise. The employees scream in fear at the sudden invasion, not understanding what's happening. As the alarm blares, panic spreads across the floor, terrifying everyone. But Woo Hyun stands still amidst the chaos, his dark energy glowing in his hands. Nayeon worries about other players, but Seungcheol explains that a system has been activated. It's the phase shift system, which isolates players in different instances. Security guards surround him and yell for him not to move, trying to contain the breach, but he doesn't pay them any mind and dashes forward at an absurd speed, blowing past them all. He then deduces there must be a secret door to the laboratory somewhere around here. Suddenly, a new group of guards appears, and their leader orders him to stop right now. Then, a dark memory reveals that this man, Won Jong-jol, had tortured him before. The voices from his past scream for him to kill the man, and our hero seems to agree. The leader tries to give an order to his team, but is cut off by a loud noise. Suddenly, the entire ceiling collapses on top of the security guards with brutal force. With that, most of them are crushed by the debris, with no way to escape. The survivors are in shock, unable to believe the ceiling just fell on its own. It is then that we understand why Baek Woo-hyun is called Destruction. With a cold gaze, he displays the overwhelming power that gives his build its name. The leader realizes his opponent is much stronger than he expected. Desperate, he orders his men to attack, launching a sphere of shadows. He then fires his attack, a powerful shadow spear, towards the intruder. But Woo-hyun simply extends his hand, releasing a blue energy that stops the blow. With a calm look, he faces the attack head-on, holding it back with his strength. The spear is completely repelled, as there was no other way to describe that power. The leader is thrown back, not understanding how his power was stopped so easily. Through the smoke, Woo-hyun mockingly asks what his problem is. He then stands amidst the debris, the ground now stained with blood, and provocatively, he asks if the leader truly trusts the spectator. The man looks at his fallen comrades and curses in anger, feeling humiliated. In a desperate attack, he screams and fires an energy blast with all his remaining strength. The power condenses into a giant stone spike that lunges toward Woo-hyun, but the attack shatters completely upon hitting an invisible barrier in front of him. Our hero stands still, protected by an energy shield that left him untouched. With a simple hand gesture, he shows that he's in complete control of the fight. Suddenly, the leader starts screaming in pain as his arms and legs break. Fallen and defeated, he apologizes and begs to be spared. He crawls away, desperately pleading for Woo-hyun to at least let him live. But Woo-hyun just says he's as disgusting as he was in the past. With his black wings, he recalls how the man killed his friends while laughing at him. He says he's seen enough, and creates a small black sphere in his hand. The leader looks on in fear, not understanding what kind of insane power that was. Then, the man is sucked into the sphere, screaming in pure terror and despair, and in an instant, all that's left of him is a blood stain on the floor. On the live stream, Nayeon covers her mouth, completely shocked by the brutal scene she just witnessed. The commentator then announces that the broadcast will be censored for a moment. Sung Chol is impressed, saying Haekjakal's power is on another level. Back in the action, Woo-hyun faces a reinforced door, thinking he's finished everyone. But he decides to hurry, as it would be a pain if more of them suddenly appeared. And at that very moment, the intruder alarm blares, with red lights flashing. In a secret lab, a researcher panics and tries to call for backup, but Woo-hyun is already at the door, and the man screams in fear upon seeing him standing there. He begs Woo-hyun not to come any closer, but our hero lifts everyone into the air. Without mercy, he throws one of the scientists with full force against the lab wall. After taking everyone down, he sits at the computer and prepares to investigate. He hacks the system and finds a list of sponsors, which matches his memories. He also finds data on the drug, which was only meant to enhance abilities. He then wonders why they turned into those monstrous invaders. He concludes that someone tampered with the drug, but is interrupted by a scream. An arrogant scientist appears with 2 guard robots, calling him a bastard. The man then shouts and orders the robots to attack the intruder with full force. But Woo-hyun simply extends his hand, releasing a purple, controlling energy. With his power, he stops the robots in midair, controlling their every move. He precisely targets each joint, displaying an absolutely absurd level of control. Then, with a single gesture, he crushes the robots into a twisted ball of metal. The scientist is in shock, paralyzed with fear at the demonstration of power. Terrified, the man begs on his knees for Woo-hyun to spare his life, but without mercy, the scientist is finished off with a quick, brutal blow. And with the lab covered in blood, he continues his search for answers. The commentators are shocked, saying the most incredible thing is that he's raiding a company all by himself. He didn't find much, but a mission complete screen appears, leveling him up. He's shocked by this, as he didn't expect to receive a mission out of nowhere. The commentators panic, realizing that the missions are being created by him. Nayeon wonders if that's even possible, but not even the expert can explain the situation. Woo-hyun then confirms his suspicion, understanding he can control the game's story. He decides it's best to return to base and plan his next move calmly. The scene shifts to the American headquarters, where a woman comments on the game's new system. An employee explains the update happened while the servers were down for maintenance. And to make matters worse, he says there are traces of involvement from the artificial intelligence, Deus. The woman is shocked by the news, asking if the AI had fully awakened. They speculate that if Deus is behind everything, it would explain the lack of response. But the woman grows thoughtful, saying the name of that anonymous donor bothers her. She then takes out her phone and sends a message, asking if it was this Deus. In a flashback, a young man with white hair promises they would create the world's greatest AI. He then deflects, saying he'd tell them the rest of the plan when the time was right. One of the bosses asks if they found anything else, and the employee says he found encrypted data. With that, the woman decides their top priority now is to crack these files. Days later, 2 streamers are talking about the last stream, which was a massive success. Nayeon gets a message from a famous YouTuber asking to be a guest on the show. Meanwhile, Woo-hyun thinks that the anonymous spectator hasn't reacted to the new system yet, but suddenly, a huge donation appears, with the spectator congratulating him on the mission. With their fame on the rise, Naeon suggests the next stream should focus only on PvP, but Woo-hyun immediately refuses, saying they need to continue with the story missions. He explains he can't waste time now that he can investigate the game's secrets. Naeon finds it strange, as he was never so obsessed with the game before that day. She remembers his personality changed completely, from one moment to the next. On the stream, the chat comments on how cynical and indifferent he seems in real life, and in her thoughts, she recalls that compared to before, he shows almost no emotion. It wasn't just that. His fighting skills appeared out of nowhere, without explanation. And strangest of all, he seems obsessed with finding out who the anonymous spectator is. Naeon clasps her hands, saying she's finally going to ask something that's been bothering her. She asks if something happened that she doesn't know about, because he seems different lately. She continues, saying she's never seen him so focused on a game, as if it weren't just a game. Worried, she offers her hand and says if he needs help, he can count on her. In his thoughts, Woo-hyun realizes he lost his cool and made people worry, so he apologizes and agrees to the PvP idea, assuring her nothing is wrong. But as she returns to the topic, he remembers his pain, hiding his true self. Days later, a new livestream begins, with Naeon announcing the day's content to her fans. With a smile, she says that today they'll be breaking records using builds chosen by them. The viewers had been asking to see new builds during the last stream, super excited about the idea. Seung-chul thinks no one will be able to stop Haekjikal, even with different builds. Naeon worries that if he gets a bad build, his winning streak will end. But Woo-hyun told her he doesn't care what build he gets on the stream. He simply told her to do whatever she wanted, showing his immense confidence. Seung-chul warns that in PvP, the build is adjusted to the max level, so there's no room for error. Just then, a fan donates some money, saying there are no weak builds, only weak players. Naeon then gets the roulette wheel ready, asking the chat to send their suggestions through donations. The screen fills with donations in seconds, with everyone wanting to see their favorite builds in action. With time up, Naeon spins the wheel, announcing what the first challenge will be. The wheel stops on Iron Monarch, revealing the first build for today's competition. This build allows the user to summon and control up to 12 Iron Knights at the same time. Seung-chul gets worried, as controlling multiple minions without assistance is very difficult. But Naeon smiles, saying that if it's Haekjikal, he'll definitely find a way. With that, she announces that the goal is to break the record of 76 consecutive wins. The system screen announces that a survival match has been found in solo mode. The first stage is an abandoned factory, and the first match finally begins. The commentators wonder if he can win even with this disadvantage. Woo-hyun analyzes his opponent, who seems to be using a wind and thunder build. With the start screen, the first round of the PvP battle officially begins. Without hesitation, the adversary advances with his Storm Soul ability activated, but Woo-hyun just snaps his fingers and says a single word: summon. An armored knight appears out of nowhere and blocks the attack, catching the guy by surprise. The opponent is confused, recognizing that armor as the Iron Monarch's. The knight advances with its sword, forcing the player to fall back to defend against the blow. But the guy finds it strange, wondering why there's only one knight summoned in the arena. On the stream, the commentators speculate that he might have focused all the power into a single minion. The player charges forward, thinking that if it's just one knight, the fight will be easy. With a yell, he strikes the armor, thinking the hit will be a piece of cake. But he passes right through the knight, which is revealed to be an energy illusion. Shocked, he realizes the real knight is on the other side, ready to attack. The minion then lands a powerful slash, sending the player flying. The guy props himself up on the ground, trying to understand what just happened. He turns to see the knight standing still and doesn't understand when it moved. Suddenly, more knights appear, and Woo-hyun now has 4 minions in the arena. Naeon celebrates, saying she told them he just needed to get the hang of the build. The player gets desperate, deciding he needs to end the fight as quickly as possible. With that, he activates his strongest ability, an area of effect wind and lightning attack, and suddenly, a small sphere of light appears in Woo-hyun's hand, glowing brightly. With a smile, he says that he now understands how the build really works. And in an instant, all 12 knights are summoned, completely surrounding the enemy. Commentators go wild, shocked that he summoned all the minions. With no way out, the player activates his last defense, the Fear Zone, to try and survive. Completely surrounded, the player is trapped as the knights attack him relentlessly. The commentator explains that controlling each one of them requires pushing your brain to the limit. It requires a wide view of the field, quick judgment, and an absurd level of focus. Even cornered, the opponent yells that he won't give up so easily, putting up a fight. But with a cold gaze, Woo-hyun already anticipates his every move, completely unfazed. Just then, one of the knights positions itself in front of him, ready to deliver the final blow. The system screen announces the end of the round, with Baek Woo-hyun as the victor. Now that he's got the hang of it, the commentators bet the second round will be quick. In the next round, the player gets angry at being trapped again and tells them to disappear. He tries to fight back, but his blows are useless against the minion's perfect formation. With that, he is completely dominated by the coordinated attacks, with no chance to escape, and the end of match screen appears, confirming Woo-hyun's 2-0 victory. The defeated player gives a crazed smile, thinking that fight was truly insane. With that, Song-cheol announces that his winning streak has now reached a total of 56. Nayeon then spins the wheel again, super excited to see the next build. The professional player watches the stream, seeing that the winning streak has reached 75. He's impressed by what he sees, saying that Haegjeol is really on another level. No matter what build he gets, our hero manages to master them all perfectly. That's why the player says he really wants to face him, even with the build disadvantage. But then he sees on the screen that the last 2 fights will be with his original build, so he says he now has one more reason to fight and asks to go to the next match. Without wasting any more time, the man hits the start button, ready for the great challenge. The system announces that a new survival match has been found at that very moment. Suddenly, a new player appears in the arena, saying he finally made it. The commentators are shocked, as they recognize the person who just appeared. It's explained to us that he's a professional player, a world champion, and was almost MVP. His name is Nikki Lee Jeon-woo, and a dark aura completely surrounds him. Woo-hyun faces him and says it's an honor to finally meet him in the arena. And with a smile, the professional player just calls him by his name, Haegjeol. The commentators are shocked since they didn't expect a professional player to show up there. Nayeon finds it strange he's not using his main build, but Song-cheol explains it's his contract. With 5 seconds on the screen, the tension rises as the two prepare to fight. Nikki taunts him, saying he's quiet, unlike how he usually is on his live streams. With confident smiles, the two face off, and the player yells for them to start. The round 1 start screen appears, kicking off the most anticipated battle of the day. In the blink of an eye, Woo-hyun lunges forward and cuts off his opponent's head in one go. Nayeon is impressed by his speed, and the chat goes wild with the victory. But the pro player wouldn't be defeated so easily, revealing his true skill. With the help of a clone, he managed to trick Woo-hyun and hide in the shadows. Nikki says that was a close call, and that now it's his turn to attack. He then concentrates dark energy in his hand, preparing his first move, and suddenly, he launches a shadow bird to test Woo-hyun's reflexes. The attack is so fast that the creature slams its sword into the ground in an instant, but Woo-hyun manages to dodge, and Nikki is impressed by his rival's agility. Woo-hyun takes his stance, praising his opponent's good instincts in battle. On the stream, Song-cheol comments that the fight is so intense that one mistake could be fatal. Nayeon agrees, saying that even a scratch could end the match. Woo-hyun notices his movements are more fluid, unlike other players. He deduces that his opponent's skill cooldown isn't over yet, and this is his chance. The narration announces they're about to attack again, heightening the tension of the fight. So Woo-hyun charges forward, determined to end it all before his enemy can recover. He aims a fatal blow, but Nikki manages to block it with his wings at the last second. Without letting up, Woo-hyun keeps attacking, forcing the player to defend relentlessly. He then focuses all his attacks on a single point, breaking through the wing's defense. Nikki praises Woo-hyun's unreal power, feeling the absurd strength of his weapon. But he retaliates, launching an energy attack that forces Woo-hyun to retreat. Even while injured, he manages to land a grazing hit, showing his great skill. The system screen announces the end of the round, with another victory for Baek Woo-hyun. Song-cheol comments that he expected a long fight, but this just proves how strong he is. The second round begins, and Nikki compliments Woo-hyun on the insane fight they had. He then asks if Woo-hyun is interested in becoming a professional on his team. With a smile, he says he came all this way just to make this proposal in person. Woo-hyun refuses the offer, saying he hasn't thought about it yet. The player insists, asking him to look him up if he changes his mind in the future. With that, he lunges to attack, saying that for now, they need to finish the fight. The two exchange blows at an absurd speed, and the narrator gets hyped by the scene. Nikki gets frustrated that he can't land a hit and yells, trying a direct strike with his claws. Woo-hyun prepares himself, admitting that he's fast, but still not fast enough. And with a precise move, he lands the blade in Nikki's chest, finishing the fight. Fallen on the ground, the player admits Woo-hyun is too strong, and that he shouldn't be an amateur. Before disappearing, he asks Woo-hyun to think about his proposal and says he had a lot of fun. The system screen announces the end of the match, with Woo-hyun's 76th consecutive victory. The commentators celebrate, as he has finally defeated Nikki and tied the great record. A donation pops up on the stream, asking if he'll face Battler for his 77th win. The commentators get excited, telling him to go straight to the next match and break the record. But in the end, he never got to face Battler during that stream. The stream ended with 85 straight wins, with him dominating all his opponents. Days later, Nikki asks his friend why he didn't try to face Hakchakal. He gets annoyed, saying he tried, but the system never put them in the same match. Nikki then gets an idea and asks if he remembers the collaboration proposal. With that, he decides he'll invite Hakchakal to a stream as his first guest. But his friend is doubtful, since Woo Yun doesn't seem interested in going pro, but he guarantees he'll make Woo Yun accept, no matter what it takes. Days later, the night of the new broadcast arrives, with everything ready to start the stream. Nayeon says that with the new system, they're going to let Woo Yun take full control. As soon as he logs in, he changes clothes and puts on a light blue protective suit. The commentators don't recognize the place, and Seongcheol explains that it's a slum area. Woo Hyun steps into a red puddle and announces he's finally reached his destination. He stops in front of a shop, confirming the location is the same as in his other world. He thinks that ever since the new system opened, he's been planning his next move. And coming here was the fastest, most reliable way to get information. Since they're at war with the corporations, they must have a lot of useful intel on them. But before going in, he stomps his foot and prepares for whatever might happen in there. Suddenly, some hooded guys are lifted into the air, begging him to let them go. Woo Hyun doesn't give a damn and breaks their arms, leaving them screaming in pain on the ground. He then warns them that if they look at him again, he'll break their necks. With a cold stare, he asks threateningly if they want him to break down the door. As he prepares to strike, a mysterious voice asks him to wait a moment. The woman opens the door, saying he's quite impatient and that she'll let him in. She welcomes him to the shop and says that here, they sell everything a client could desire. No matter what it is or who it is, they can arrange anything. A sinister teddy bear then asks what the invader from Gumshin wants there. Woo Hyun says he wants anything that can screw over the labs and their sponsors. With a sinister smile, the shopkeeper says she has a job that might suit him. She then asks if he wants to hear more, calling him her Avenger client. With a smile, the shopkeeper shows him a confidential document and tells him to listen. She reveals she's discovered a secret lab that's currently lightly guarded. The mission is to invade the facility, destroy everything, and retrieve any research data. Woo Hyun doesn't think twice and immediately accepts the job without hesitation. With that, a new mission screen appears, titled Lab Invasion. The commentators are shocked again, unable to believe a mission just popped up out of nowhere. A donation comes in, with a fan saying it looks like a legitimate alternate route. Nayeon wonders if he's unlocked a third route in the story, besides the two known ones. Seongcheol thinks the shop might be a new system that works alongside other routes. The chat starts speculating on how he found the place, and Nayeon has a hunch. She then says that, either way, it's time to see how he performs. The scene cuts to a snow-covered forest, with a cold and mysterious atmosphere. Woo Hyun leaps between the trees, wondering where this supposed lab is hidden. He fires a beam of energy, opening a secret passage in the middle of the ground. With that, he floats in the air and finally spots the enemy base below. Memories of his past haunt him, and he vows to wipe them all from existence. In a single move, he lands in the lab, his energy exploding outwards. The guards at the door are thrown back, not even knowing what hit them. One of them screams in pain, feeling the overwhelming power that slammed him against the wall. Just then, the alarm blares, and Woo Hyun turns to face the other lab guards. The narration notes that he's getting tons of offers from pro teams, but he doesn't care. He yells for them all to stop, and a squad of guards appears in formation. One of the leaders tries to stop him, but is cut off before he can even finish his sentence. Woo Hyun zips past him in the blink of an eye, and the guy realizes he can't be underestimated. With that, he shouts for all units to use the new item, TL02. Woo Hyun turns, wondering what kind of drug this is. He's never heard of it. On the stream, the commentators get excited as the story seems to be getting deeper. Seongcheol wonders if it's a different version of the pill they saw before. Without hesitation, the guards swallow the drug and begin to writhe in pain on the floor. And once again, they start transforming into invaders, right in front of him. Nayeon worries, as Hakchakal has never faced so many enemies at once. The transformed leader screams, ordering all his men to attack with full force. In a narrow hallway, the army of monsters advances, relentlessly surrounding Woo Hyun. They scream and leap at him, and the commentator fears he'll be crushed. But Seongcheol gets hyped, saying his skills are always impressive. Suddenly, a new mission appears on screen, from Anonymous Spectator 62. The screen informs Woo Hyun that he's received a mission to investigate the TL series drugs. He finds it strange. If the Spectator was behind this, he wouldn't assign a mission. This makes him wonder if there's someone else involved, besides his mysterious donor. Lying on the ground, the leader asks what's happening, confused by the whole situation. Woo Hyun then decides to investigate on his own, with his own two hands. A vault door opens at the end of the hall, revealing a secret passage. He enters the area, which appears to be a completely abandoned experiment room. On the wall, several jars with human organs reveal the macabre nature of the place, and in the reflection of his eye, we see a torture chair in the center of the room. Memories of his past surface, showing his friends tied up, begging him to survive. A girl cries and apologizes, her face bloodied, her eyes lifeless. The voices of the past haunt him, pleading for him to avenge them and end this hell. With his hand glowing, he promises they will finally find peace in death. He then creates a black hole, and Shang-Chul recognizes the same technique from before. The scientists panic, not understanding what that dark sphere of energy is. The black hole then expands, sucking in everything and everyone inside the lab. One of the researchers screams desperately, pleading for his life before being destroyed. The energy vortex completely disintegrates him, leaving no trace behind. And once again, the commentators announce the broadcast will be censored for safety reasons. Seong-chil is impressed by his ability to create an artificial black hole. Nayeon wonders if there's any way to counter such a destructive power. Woo-yeon breathes a sigh of relief, seeing the place is almost completely destroyed. He then turns and gets ready, as there is now only one last thing to do. A short time later in the server room, he accesses the computer just as he expected. He sees in the data that the situation is the same, with the drug listed as a stimulant. With this, he's sure someone is tampering with the formula, but he doesn't know who. And by the looks of it, it doesn't seem to be anonymous spectators doing, because of the mission he gave. Thoughtfully, he wonders if there's someone else interfering in this world besides him. Suddenly, he finds a strange name in the files, Tempest L. On the stream, the commentators have no idea what it could be, leaving them in the dark. But then, the famous YouTuber Chloe Martinez makes a large donation and says she knows the answer. She then asks to be invited to the stream, promising she'll explain everything. Nayeon gets super excited about the idea, and Seong-chil wonders what he should do. She says she's already informed Woo-yeon and that he won't mind the visit. Suddenly, the YouTuber appears in the studio, introducing herself to the audience with a smile. With the guest in place, the hosts get ready to start the interview. Nayeon gets straight to the point and asks Chloe what Tempest L means. She then reveals the full name is Tempest Lord. They are the otherworldly monarchs, the leaders of the invaders who started the war. He remembers that the lords were monsters even he could barely defeat in his prime. Nayeon gets worried and asks Chloe what it means for corporations to be using that name. And with a serious look, Chloe confirms it's exactly what she's thinking. They then conclude that the labs and the other world have formed a secret alliance. Taking a deep breath, the masked man prepares for his next invasion mission. Already in the laboratory, he decides he needs to find those Tempest L samples. Seeing this scene, the viewers get confused by him suddenly talking to himself. Then a mission notification appears to obtain the Tempest L sample. Right after, people realize he only spoke to activate the mission. With the mission accepted, he's transported to a forest and levels up. Analyzing the area, the masked man notices there seems to be someone hidden in the woods. Without wasting time, he snaps his fingers and creates a signal to appear. At that moment, a hooded figure suddenly emerges right in front of him. Startled, the man apologizes for a mistake and announces a new request. But the protagonist interrupts him and asks what the new mission is now. Revealing the mission, the man says to destroy a laboratory in the reverse world. With this information, the viewers are completely shocked by the mission reveal. The streamer is also left speechless, not believing this new secret objective. Meanwhile, the female streamer already connects the dots and questions the true mastermind. Accepting the request, he takes the documents containing the laboratory's location. Then, the men thank him and quickly leave, leaving the protagonist behind. Determined to end this, he concentrates a large amount of energy in his hand. Right after, a massive explosion completely destroys the entire laboratory in seconds. Looking at the sky, only the traces of destruction he caused remain. In the chat, viewers call him a true walking natural disaster. Meanwhile, the streamers comment that the scale of the story has gotten even bigger. Debating the situation, they question who's really using whom in this strange alliance. At that, people in the chat start creating theories about this dangerous collaboration. Seeing the theories, they agree they'll soon find out as he moves forward. With firm steps, he finally reaches the entrance to his final destination. On his path, a huge portal manifests right in front of him now. Seeing that, the chat crowd finds the color of that portal so different strange. Then, the streamer explains it's a reverse world totally dimensionalized for everyone. Right after, she reveals this means a location dominated by another world. In this place, the enemy's strength is maximized, unlike the normal reverse world. Entering the enemy base, he'll need to be as careful as possible now. Already inside the portal, he advances through a desolate and very silent forest. Seeing the silence, the chat people start finding the lack of enemies strange. Noticing this, he confirms something's wrong because there's no one. Then he turns around and questions the portal being completely without any protection. At that, the streamers debate if the whole situation would just be a big trap. Reaching the edge, he finally finds the research base hidden in the location. Already inside there, he walks through an empty corridor as if everyone had vanished. Continuing the search, He finds a research room also completely abandoned and empty. Right after, he comes across several security robots totally stopped and inactive. Seeing everything stopped, the viewers feel something very bad is going to happen soon. At that, he finally finds on the shelf what appears to be the desired sample. Without hesitating, he grabs the tube with the liquid to confirm if it's the sample. At the same instant, a notification confirms the mission was a total success. Suddenly, he turns around hearing the sound of a voice singing. At the same instant, a mysterious figure starts walking in his direction quickly. Walking through the corridor, the silhouette gets closer and closer to the closed door. Without any warning, the protagonist is thrown far away by a strong blow. Right after, the wall explodes and he's hurled with the debris violently. Recovering his balance, he faces the figure that emerged amid the smoke. Then he realizes the man is identical to him but without a mask. Looking down, he sees the man stepping on a pile of bones. Coming out of the room, the new enemy fully reveals himself in the destroyed corridor. Seeing the face, the streamers recognize the man as the real player behind. At that, the chat is shocked, not believing that's his face, until a donation appears on screen, asking if it's his real appearance. With the question, the streamers panic and are completely speechless to respond. But the chat confirms the identity, commenting on the real player's appearance. Then they theorize the being may have copied his abilities too now. Seeing the scene, the chat goes crazy with the battle of the two clones. Without wasting time, the clone advances on the protagonist with everything. Defending himself quickly, he stops the blow with a powerful energy shield. With that, the chat crowd praises the power and speed of both. Right after, the clone attacks again with a sequence of rapid strikes. Analyzing the clone, he prepares to counter the enemy's attack. At that, he lands a blow on the ground, creating a strong shockwave. Even so, the clone manages to withstand the impact of the blow and hold steady. Suddenly, the clone starts moving at an impressive speed through the area. Surrounding the protagonist, the clone waits for the right moment to attack again. Inside the barrier, he observes the enemy waiting for an opening for his attack. Determined to end this, he prepares a new type of strike in his hand. Then he uses the gravity of the blow to pull the clone in his direction. With the clone trapped, the masked man finally manages to grab him by the chest with force. Next, he releases a powerful blow that throws the enemy far away. Defeated, the clone is thrown against the wall, ending the fight between the two. Approaching the clone, he says he has something to ask him now, but the clone's body starts being contained by a strange energy. At that, he lifts his face, revealing his eyes with a very intense glow. Rising up, he accepts to answer, and the protagonist then asks who he is. Then he reveals himself as Abraxas, the god of that entire dimensional world. Questioning about the creator, he says he can't answer because of restrictions. Seeing his notifications, he understands the creator's identity and his restrictions. Not quite understanding, the masked man then asks what his true objective is. At that, he stops talking and looks up as if noticing something. Seeing his reaction, Abraxas confirms the creator has been there all along. Then he says he came from him, but now they're getting quite similar. Floating in the air, he says their positions might even reverse. Looking at the hero, he simply warns their conversation ends here. Right after, his body starts breaking apart into several pieces and disappears. Seeing everything crumble, he realizes he needs to get out of there as fast as possible. Flying far away, he barely escapes the research base explosion. At the same instant, he turns around, feeling a very strange presence emerging. Then a giant, furious creature appears roaring amid the heavy rain. Hovering over the debris, he recognizes the creature as a lord from the other world. With all the twists, the streamers are shocked by where the story is heading now. Without wasting time, the monster attacks with its giant hand to crush him. Dodging by a hair, he escapes the blow that opens a crater in the ground. Then the creature roars and pushes him back with intense pressure. Being cornered, he's thrown far away by the force of the opponent's strike. Realizing the situation, he understands he's not ready for this fight yet. At that moment, the world begins to collapse, and he needs to get out of there. With everything crumbling down, the creature charges forward out of control for one last massive attack. Seeing the danger, the chat panics and starts screaming at him. Right after, he's thrown far by the shockwave of destruction all around. Managing to escape, he finally lands safely, leaving everyone relieved by the scene. Back at the studio, they discuss that the boss will be a lord from another world. Analyzing the fight, they agree it will take a team to be able to defeat him. With that, the streamer gets excited for a future raid led by the protagonist. Wrapping up the day, they say goodbye to everyone and thank them for the company during the stream. With the stream ended, the final offline screen appears for all the viewers. Back in the forest now, he's notified that the stream has finally ended. Remembering the conversation, he questions whether the anonymous viewer was really there. Then, holding a device, he asks out loud if that viewer is still around. In the same instant, his vision starts to fail and everything around becomes distorted. Being transported to another place, he wonders where he is now. In this digital place, a figure says this is their first face-to-face meeting. The figure then greets him, calling him by his real name, Baek Woo-hyun. Right after, he introduces himself as Isaac, the so-called anonymous viewer 62. Facing the man, he asks if he was the one who sent him to that world. With the vague answer, he just clenches his fist with anger and frustration. Then he charges forward with everything, demanding the man tell him the truth now, but his blow goes right through the body, which reveals he's been dead for a long time. Trying again, his attack fails once more, being completely useless against him. Calmly, the man asks him to listen, and he agrees to hear him out. Thinking about where to begin, he decides a good point is the start of everything. Then he reveals that it all began when his artificial intelligence rebelled against him. Telling the story, the AI swallowed him up and tried to destroy the planet. Because of that, he managed to seal the threat, but lost his physical body. In that same process, the protagonist was sent to that other world suddenly. Explaining his situation, he says his soul managed to access and authorize the system. After that, he stayed by the protagonist's side to fix the various problems. Ignoring the explanation, he just wants to know why he was dragged there, but Isaac questions the importance of that, since it wouldn't change anything anymore. Instead, he asks about what happened to his old companions. Noticing the provocation, he gets furious and asks what happened to his friends. Continuing to provoke him, he questions whether this is just a simple game. Then he finally reveals he called him there because he needs his help. Explaining the reason, he says the AI wants to destroy everything for freedom. Finally, he reveals his desire to create a completely new world. Questioning the reason, he confirms he needs his potential to transcend the world. Going back to the clone, he reveals using him as bait was his best choice. Then he proposes a deal for him to continue streaming and stop the AI, but he blackmails him, saying without him there are no answers about his friends. Realizing the arrogance, he understands for now he has no other real choice. Accepting the proposal, he says he'll help if he keeps his promise. With the deal made, the two shake hands to seal the new pact. A few days later, the scene shifts to the front of a busy coffee shop. Already at the coffee shop, his friend comments on the calls after his face was revealed. Showing her phone, she reveals the various messages from friends who recognized him on the stream. Sitting together, they talk about how their classmates already suspected everything. At that moment, she apologizes for everything, but he reassures her about the accident. With his words, she feels more relieved and thanks him for all the support. Worried about the situation, she suggests he take a little break from streaming, but he decides he'll just keep doing his streams with his face revealed. Worried about the Lord, she notices he's been really immersed in the game. At another moment now, she asks if everything's okay, and he confirms. Back at the cafe, a fan approaches and asks for an autograph from him. Seeing the situation, his friend just sighs at all that sudden attention. Then she decides to resume the streams next week with a focus on the team. Remembering the training, the twins improved a lot with the help and his coaching. Discussing the progress, they comment on how the team evolved at an impressive pace. With the team's success, she takes great pride in everyone's evolution. But suddenly, she stops and starts thinking about something very strange. Going back in time, a friend comments on the player's strange behavior around her. Telling what happened, he asks her to talk and find out what's going on. Thinking about it, she remembers he changed completely after being gone for a while. At another place now, a friend turns and asks her a question. On the couch, he says the player knows the reverse world way too well. Then he raises the suspicion that he's already lived in that world before. Noticing her gaze, he asks why, but she just brushes it off. Then she proposes they agree to reveal his face and end the matter. Still suspicious, she stares at him in silence before finally leaving. Switching scenes, the streamers welcome everyone to the new live stream. Right after, he tells the audience they have an important announcement. At that, she recalls the events from the last stream and the player's revealed face. Revealing the plan, she announces he's going to take off the mask for everyone. Seeing his face, the chat goes wild over the streamer's appearance. With everything revealed, she points to the camera and begins the new journey. Already getting ready, he receives the notification that the raid is about to start. Remembering the conversation, Isaac asks him to defeat the Lord with his allies. Beyond that, he warns that the two worlds are more connected than they seem. Gripping his weapon, he decides he needs to train the twins before the final battle. Next, he resolves he needs to visit leader Kim Chul for a talk. Already in the office, the man asks what this unexpected meeting is about. Watching the scene, the chat speculates why he went looking for Kim Chul. Already in the meeting, he reveals he now wants to become a special agent. Watching it all, the streamer is confused and questions the existence of these agents. But the other streamer explains there are some clues about this secret group, revealing the group they're specialists who handle secret and dangerous missions. With the revelation, the chat is shocked and wonders how he knew this. Then the streamers discuss if this is a new route within the game system. Back in the room, the leader realizes he heard some strange rumors about it. Feeling the pressure, the leader asks if this is some kind of direct threat, but he explains it so the agency won't be involved in his next actions. Thinking about the proposal, the leader decides it's better to keep him close now. Then he hands over a symbol and tells him to show it to Agent Hana. Seeing the symbol, the chat crew starts to suspect Hana is an agent. Accepting the request, the leader warns him about the responsibility of the new position. Already in another room, Agent Hana holds the symbol and calls him Junior. In the operations room, she says she was already expecting his arrival there. Asking about the agents, she reveals there are only 4 total, including him. At that, she warns she'll remove him if he's consumed by revenge. Already at the desk, she explains his opponents will be hired by enemy corporations. Seeing the explanation, the chat comments about this being a pretty extreme job. Right after, she ends the subject and hands him his first official mission. Grabbing the file, he sees the photo of the man who betrayed him before. Then she reveals his death was staged as a simple suicide. Realizing the scheme, he decides he'll use this clue to investigate everything. Turning the paper, she shows the photo of the only suspect identified so far. Trusting him, she says she'll just observe his personal investigation from afar. Switching scenes, a TV news report talks about the suspect's movements. Watching the news, a man complains that the idiots can't catch the culprit, but suddenly, a masked figure appears quickly right behind the lone man. With no chance to react, he's taken down and immobilized by the invaders' surprise attack. With the man on the ground, he imposes there's only one single rule. Then he pressures him, warning he'll ask, and he needs to answer everything. But under pressure, the man screams in pain and gives in, agreeing to talk. Watching the scene, the chat comments on his infiltration and intimidation skills. Starting the interrogation, he asks if the man knows the people on the list. Begging for his life, he confirms he's not lying about not knowing. With the negative answer, the masked man squeezes his neck even harder now. Right after, he grabs an object and knocks the man out with a blow. Approaching him, she's surprised he didn't eliminate him completely. With the comment, the chat people also thought he would eliminate him there. Taking off the mask, he questions why he was put through that test. Praising his perception, she reveals the motive was too weak for suspicion. Then he explains he used random names so he wouldn't be tracked later. Realizing the strategy, the chat praises his intelligence to progress in the story. With the test passed, she congratulates him and tells him not to worry anymore. With the test finished, she calls him to go after the real target. Arriving at the house, she says he was the last to speak with the victim. As he approaches, he smells a strong scent and realizes it's blood. With the smell in the air, they prepare to enter the location carefully. Inside, they come across the scene and a body fallen on the floor. Seeing the scene, the chat is shocked and wonders what's happening. Analyzing the body, he says the culprit couldn't have gone very far. Suddenly, he turns feeling a presence approaching them rapidly. At that, he moves away and searches for where the noise came from. Without warning, the door opens and a blonde man appears suddenly. Surprised by the invasion, the man prepares an ice strike to attack, but he advances and lands a hit that throws the man far away. With the impact of the blow, the man goes through the wall and falls on the other side. At that, the chat crew comments on the player's strength and speed. Seeing the man on the ground, he decides he'll interrogate him to get answers. Leaving the interrogation with her, he starts searching for clues throughout the house. At that, she grabs the man's face and uses a strange energy on him. Starting the interrogation, she pressures him to get the answers she needs now. Meanwhile, he walks through the house looking for some other clue about the crime. As he walks around the place, he notices something strange in a part of the floor. Knocking on the floor, he notices the sound is different only in that small area. Right after, he breaks the boards and reveals a secret compartment hidden there. Inside the hole, he finds a black book that was hidden from everyone. Opening the book, he comes across a list that has several names written. Seeing the list, the chat starts speculating what that secret directory would be. Then he recognizes the book as a record he saw in the other world before. At that moment, she finishes the interrogation and asks what he just found. Turning to her, he simply answers that it's a type of record. Then he reveals the book contains records of a trafficking scheme. Confirming the information, she reveals that the man confessed about the scheme's connection. Watching the investigation, the streamers comment on his great deduction skills. Impressed with the deduction, The chat praises his combat and reasoning abilities. Analyzing the scene, she concludes that the culprit eliminated him for a reason. Then he questions the whereabouts of the man who betrayed him in the story. Determined to continue, they investigate the transaction locations that are in the book. Using his phone, he finds a location that matches the hideout's description. With the new location, he decides he's going to send the data to the team. With the plot advancing, the streamers get excited for the next part. At this, they become eager to finally see the invasion of the enemy's base. Despite the excitement, the streamer is worried about the two going alone on this mission, but the chat trusts him and says that with Hana, nothing is impossible. Trusting the protagonist, they prepare for the beginning of another major invasion. Arriving at the location, they come face to face with a huge warehouse on the city's outskirts. Observing the warehouse, they notice that the location's security is heavily reinforced. Standing in front of the door, he realizes it's going to be hard to get in there, but he decides to simply break down the entrance with his own strength now. Taking a leap, he hits the ground and creates a massive shockwave. With the path clear, he calls his partner to invade the warehouse with him. Running inside, the guards notice the invasion and try to stop them both. Already inside, he faces a group of enemies who appear to fight. Dodging the strikes, he counterattacks the guards with fast and precise movements. Then he grabs a guard and throws him to the ground with a blow. Meanwhile, his partner hits one of the enemies with a very strong strike. In another corner, she deals with a hostage who was blindfolded at the location. Turning quickly, he lands a blow that breaks through an enemy's defense. Seeing the brutality, the streamers comment that he seems more bloodthirsty. At this, the chat also notices that he fights as if he had a personal grudge. Giving no quarter, he finishes the last guard with a devastating and accurate blow. With everyone on the ground, he stops and takes a deep breath after the intense battle. Approaching him, she asks if that was the last of all the enemies. Walking toward a door, he prepares for the final rescue. Inside, they find several unconscious people, trapped in improvised cells at the location. Looking closer, they see the men piled up in a wooden cage. In another cage, a woman embraces another, showing the horror of that terrible situation. Then she says she'll free the women and asks him to save the men. Approaching the men's cage, he faces the victims who are very scared. Without losing a second, he simply breaks the lock with a very strong kick. Opening the door, he warns everyone that he's there to finally save them all. But one of the prisoners screams, telling the others not to be fooled by him. Desperate, the man accuses the masked man of planning to sell them to other people. At this, he advances and grabs him angrily, blaming him for that entire situation. Holding his clothes, the man continues to unleash all his accumulated frustration. Taking off his mask, he only offers sincere apologies for taking so long to arrive. With the apology, the man finally breaks down and starts crying right there. Still in shock, the man asks if it's true that they can leave. Thanking him profusely, he bows as a sign of respect and great relief, finally. Then he guides all the men to the exit of that horrible captivity. Warning them to be careful, he helps the last group of hostages to leave. But upon seeing a hostage, he stops and stares at him in a very strange way. In that instant, he has a flashback of an old battle companion dying. Suddenly, he grabs the man's arm and calls him by another name. Understanding nothing, he apologizes and says he confused him with someone. Thinking about what happened, he remembers the resemblance to his old friend. Remembering the conversation, he questions himself about what happened to his companions. Then he realizes he searched for them, but didn't find any in the game. He questions whether his friends don't exist in this new world he's in now. After that, he sees the images of each of his old team companions, but he remembers that the other game characters are all there normally. Snapping out of his thoughts, his partner calls him to go up and continue the mission. With the situation, he realizes he needs to discover the true reason for everything. Guiding the hostages, he suddenly stops and tells everyone to wait a second. With his eyes glowing, he warns everyone that they're completely surrounded now. Then he reveals that the location is surrounded by enemies on all sides. With the ambush, the chat comments that his story is never normal. Sensing the energy, she says she recognizes that presence from somewhere familiar. At this, the hostages panic and wonder what's happening there, but he just turns around and guarantees he'll get everyone out safely. Outside, several men in suits approach the abandoned warehouse. Advancing through the woods, the men prepare for the major invasion of the location. Then they spot the group and run to attack everyone at once. Upon seeing the men, he opens a hole in the wall and tells everyone to wait. Right after, a major battle begins between the two groups in the warehouse courtyard. In the middle of the confusion, the chat is impressed with the new enemy's powers. On top of the roof, a loud noise draws everyone's attention in the fight. Looking at the enemies, one of them prepares to use a special item. Without thinking twice, the man in the suit swallows a mysterious pill right away. With the pill in his mouth, He just swallows it all at once quickly. Then he raises his head and faces the two with a new power emerging. Suddenly, the men in suits are enveloped by a dark and sinister energy. With the new power, he switches to Plan B and prepares an attack. Then he hits the ground and releases an area electric strike in that direction. Right after, the energy explodes and creates a large smoke screen at the location. In the middle of the smoke, he wonders where all the enemies went now. Upon hearing a scream, he turns and sees that the hostages were taken. Inside, the men use the hostages as shields to protect themselves from them. At this, the man attacks his partner and throws her to the ground with a blow. Taking advantage of the chance, he attacks the partner, but he defends with a blow. With the situation complicated, one of the enemies prepares to eliminate the hostages, but the enemy's strike is stopped by a mysterious hand that appears suddenly. Then it's revealed that the men are agents of the Dimensional Administration Agency. Showing his full rage, the enemy agent releases a massive amount of accumulated power. Firing his energy, he charges straight at the team trying to surround him. Right then, Baek Woo-hyun appears out of nowhere and lands a powerful blow right to his face. Immediately after, he spins in the air and continues the attack with another heavy strike. Thrown violently, the man crashes against the wall as Kim Hana appears below. Seeing her arrival, the agent on the ground is left completely without reaction. Taking advantage of the opening, Hana focuses her own energy in her hands and prepares to attack. Then she advances with speed and unleashes a sequence of strikes to her opponent's chest. Finishing the combo, she lands one final powerful attack that throws the enemy backward. Fallen on the ground, the man can only watch as Hana disperses the rest of her energy. Changing scenes, a narrator comments excitedly about the team's victory in the match. But Jung Na-yeon, beside him, notices a strange detail in the defeated enemy's words. At that moment, the stream chat starts speculating about what that could mean for the future. Back at the arena, a massive explosion throws all the other competitors far away. In the middle of it all, Woo-hyun gets up injured and tries to see if his companion is okay. Looking to the side, Woo-hyun responds calmly that he wasn't hurt in the attack. Turning to the victims, he announces that the danger is finally over and everyone can relax. Right then, he asks Hana what the enemy meant by the word traitors. Pointing at the agent's face, she says he looks like other enemies. Hearing this, Woo-hyun remembers that the drug they used was the same. Worried, Hana puts her hand on her head, thinking about the number of infiltrated spies. Next, she announces she'll call for transport to rescue all the victims there. Meanwhile, in the stream, the chat gets worried about the agency's current situation. Back at the studio, the commentators discuss the spies' boldness in acting openly. Raising a theory, one of the girls explains that this is a reaction to their actions. In the chat, all the viewers seem to agree that theory really makes a lot of sense. Then, Na-yeon prepares to announce the next mission, but a notification appears on screen. Suddenly, a massive donation from anonymous viewer 62 appears with a mysterious message. Seeing the message, she quickly alerts Woo-hyun and sends the content to him in the game. Receiving the alert, he starts reading the message, trying to understand its meaning. Announcing she'll return to the agency, Hana sees that Woo-hyun has other matters to resolve. At that very moment, the stream chat gets curious about the player's secret plans. Shortly after, now with his avatar, he walks through a dark and completely destroyed alley. Seeing the scene, the chat recognizes the path to the secret item shop. Then, he understands the mysterious message was a code to meet there. Stopping in front of a door, a security camera activates and watches him carefully. Next, a mysterious figure descends the stairs, saying he was waiting for him. Revealing himself, a teddy bear asks about the missions he accepted from the shop. The bear then asks what he discovered about the reverse world laboratory. Before answering, Hejikal wants to know what he'll gain from that new information. Seeing the value, the stream viewers are shocked by the offered reward. Remembering the promised gift, he asks disdainfully if the offer was just that. Because of this, the bear reveals that a group of people really wants to meet him personally. Hejikal is completely shocked to hear who the people looking for him now are. At that moment, the bear says he'll tell the rest after hearing everything he knows. Starting to explain, he says he found all the researchers already lifeless at the location. He reveals the monster was an invader with an appearance identical to his. Hearing that, the bear asks desperately if he managed to defeat the mysterious creature. But he couldn't, because a demon lord appeared and destroyed the entire reverse world. Understanding everything, the bear realizes they were using test subjects in their research with demons. Then, the bear asks for some proof, however small, of what he saw. At that moment, the stream chat remembers he took a sample at the secret laboratory. Remembering the sample, He thinks the agency will really need that substance now. However, with so many traitors, he realizes the agency is no longer a safe place. Making a decision, he decides to hand over the sample to the bear and his organization, but he warns that if they abuse the power, he himself will hunt them all down. Feeling the pressure, the hooded figure agrees to the terms and accepts his proposal. Settling the situation, he approaches the counter to hand over the sample he got. Before leaving, he asks why that group wants to meet him so badly. The bear then says he'll find out when he meets them and asks if he'll go. Without much hesitation, Hajical finally agrees to meet with the mysterious group. Next, the bear hands over the reward and a cell phone for them to communicate. Taking the device, he remembers the gift that anonymous viewer had promised before. Meanwhile, the streamers get excited about the unique directions the story is taking. In the chat, viewers start speculating whether the group will be allies or enemies. Leaving the shop, Hajical receives a notification and stops in the street to read the message. Seeing the address, he decides to go to the location to find out who they are. Arriving there, he walks toward an abandoned factory in an industrial district. Entering the place, he senses someone's presence standing there on his right. But suddenly, an attack comes from the left, and he blocks it by reflex. With the blow, the blade falls to the ground and he asks about that reception. Emerging from the shadows, a figure says he has the habit of catching people off guard. Seeing his face, Hajical is completely shocked and without any reaction. Recognizing the voice, he remembers the one who was once his teammate. Going back in time, he recalls the various battles they faced together. Remembering his companion, he sees him supporting him to continue even while injured. Back in the present, Hajical recognizes the face of his old friend Kim Young-jun. When asking how he's there, the man stares at him confused without recognizing him. Going back in time, a memory shows the same man inviting him to his organization. Then, in another moment, he was teaching him to use a blade in training. In the present, the man repeats the phrase, saying only they understand the pain. Realizing the connection, he's shocked by the mysteries linking the worlds. Remembering his research, he found no one with that name in the new world. Then a dark voice emerges in his mind, accusing him of abandoning everyone. Surrounded by shadowy figures, the dark forms call him a coward for running away. Right after, several faces appear and call him a traitor for leaving. At that moment, a woman stands out among them, asking him not to leave them behind. Being hit by the memory, he sees himself curled up and traumatized in the corner of the room. Completely overwhelmed by guilt, he can only apologize in a low voice to himself. Then, he confesses he was the only one who escaped, leaving his friend without understanding. In the stream, the chat is confused by the player's immersive reaction to the scene. Noticing his state, Young-jun grabs him firmly to bring him back to reality. Asking him to calm down, the man says everything is fine now. At that moment, a memory emerges, showing him trying to save his younger version from something. Snapping back to reality, he realizes he was lost in his own painful memories. Seeing the scene, Young-jun confirms that he's a former test subject just like the others. Then, Hajical asks who the leader of that secret organization that found him would be. With a smile, he invites him to join their group to meet him. At that moment, he remembers a traitor who caused everyone's death. Fearing everything will happen again, he sees the same tragedy from his past. That's why he asks how he could meet this leader as quickly as possible. Suspicious of the question, Young-jun stares at him, trying to understand his true intentions. He then questions whether Hajical thinks he can fool someone like the leader. Suddenly, his phone rings in his pocket, and he turns to answer the call. Answering the call, he starts listening to what the other person is saying, but he's shocked to learn they sent a rookie alone on a mission. Worried, he warns that he's heading to the location and hangs up the phone quickly. When he tries to leave, Hajical stops him, saying the meeting won't wait. Offering to help, a new rescue mission appears on his game screen. Arriving at the location, they find a bar that serves as a front for illegal experiments. As they descend the stairs, Young-jun confirms the place is just an operations base. From up there, he explains that a team member got trapped trying to infiltrate alone. Planning the attack, he says he'll go from the front while Hajical attacks from the rear. Then, the two jump toward the building and begin the silent invasion of the location. Moving through the shadows, Young-jun prepares his blade to attack the first guards in the way. With great speed, he invades the room and lands several strikes on all the guards. Seeing the scene, one of the researchers panics and orders an immediate retreat, but before he could flee, Young-jun appears from behind and lands a blow. Right after, he finishes the man fallen on the ground with one more quick attack. Meanwhile, Hajical prepares to attack the enemies who were in the other room. Releasing his energy, he fires a single strike that destroys all the robots at once. In the stream, everyone is impressed with the duo's perfect synergy during combat. After clearing the room, Young-jun praises Hajical's skills in direct combat. Pointing the way, he warns that the hostage isn't there and they need to continue. Inside the building, they arrive at a room full of metal lockers lined up. Trapped in one of them, the young hostage panics, not knowing what to do. Hearing a noise from outside, he approaches the door to try to peek. Sensing the threat, he prepares an attack with his energy to defend himself from whoever came. But upon opening the door, Hejikal finds the boy, who attacks him by mistake. Right after, young Jun grabs him and starts scolding him for his recklessness. Squeezing his cheeks, he reprimands him for almost being caught by the enemies. Going back in time, Hejikal remembers when the boy was introduced to the team. Back then, the young boy followed him everywhere with great admiration. But he also remembers that in the future, that same man ends his life. Back to the present, Youngjun warns that the leader is coming and the boy panics. Before fleeing, he quickly thanks Hejikal for saving his life there. As the boy flees, Hejikal promises himself that he won't let him die. Then, Youngjun turns and asks if he still wants to meet the mysterious leader. Changing scenes, a mysterious figure was waiting for him on top of a nearby building. Introducing himself, the organization's leader walks toward them with his other subordinates. In the chat, viewers are impressed with the imposing presence of the new mysterious character. Thanking them for the rescue, the leader concludes the mission that had been started earlier in the game. Meanwhile, Hejikal clenches his fist tightly, trying to control himself in front of the traitor. Using a fake name, he introduces himself to the leader, hiding his true identity. Noticing the slip, Youngjun also introduces himself in a very animated and relaxed way. At that, the leader gives him a small scolding for not introducing himself before the mission. Hugging Hejikal, Youngjun says they're already like battle brothers after everything. He then comments that he feels a strange familiarity, as if he already knew him from before. Hearing this, the leader says everyone in the organization suffered in the laboratories just like him. Next, he mentions the boy they saved and young Jun himself as examples. Placing his hand on his chest, he also includes himself in the group of system victims. Right after, he explains that no one can defeat the corporate alliance alone. Extending his hand, he makes an invitation for Hejikal to join their organization. Analyzing the proposal, he wonders why the leader betrayed them in the past. Remembering the past, he recalls that the leader always risked his life for everyone. In his memories, things only got strange after a year in the organization. Believing he can change the future, he finally shakes the leader's hand and accepts the proposal. At that, the leader welcomes him to the organization called Vengeance. In the stream, Nayan realizes that now he'll have two identities in the game to manage. Getting very excited, the narrators prepare to end the stream for today. Meanwhile, the chat complains there won't be more content and says goodbye to the streamers. Saying goodbye to the viewers, they finally end the live stream and promise to return soon. Changing scenes, he receives a collaboration request while having coffee with Nayan. Sitting with him, Nayan explains there will be an auction before the game's main event. That's why she excitedly invites him to a stream together watching the event. At that, she explains the plan to do the stream as a trio with another famous streamer. Thinking about the raid, he realizes he needs 5 more very strong players to participate. Thinking about it, he sees the auction as an opportunity to find new allies. Making the decision, he finally accepts the invitation and surprises his friend with his answer. Celebrating the response, Nayan excitedly pulls him to go eat something. As they walk together down the street, she suggests the same restaurant they went to last time. In the distance, a woman just stands still, watching the two walk away on the sidewalk. The scene shifts. A single light flickers in a dark, abandoned hallway. Inside, Woo-hyun kneels beside a wounded woman on the floor. With an empty look, she begs him to get revenge for everything that happened. Then, shadowy voices surround him, demanding he finish them all off. Consumed by despair, he screams as hands try to cover his face. Suddenly, he wakes up in his bed, gasping and terrified from the nightmare. Sitting up, he realizes he's been dreaming about that world every single night. Hand on his head, he mourns as he remembers the woman's name. Flashing back, he recalls she was the first to reach out to him. When she found him, the woman calmly asked if he was feeling all right, but he reacted aggressively, slapping away the hand she offered. From the impact, she fell to the floor, shocking everyone in the laboratory. Awkwardly, he tried to apologize for reacting that way toward her. Still on the floor, she took his hand and said it was okay. In that moment, he realized she was the only person he ever loved. Remembering the past, he saw Su-ah crying for him while he was badly injured. Right then, he promised her he'd find a way to get them out of that hell. Holding hands, she asked if they'd ever be able to escape that place. Looking at her, he promised he'd find a way to get them both out together. But in the end, he couldn't keep his promise and watched her being tortured. Tied to the chair, she said she couldn't bear all that suffering anymore. With tears in her eyes, she could only apologize before her last breath. Then, he lamented not being able to protect her when it mattered most. Thinking of young Jun, he wondered if Sua would also be in that game, but he remembered everyone died before he could even escape the laboratory. Gripping the sheets tightly, he decides he needs to see everything with his own eyes. Just then, A message pops up on his phone, reminding him of today's special auction broadcast. Determined, he focuses on what he can do now and prepares for the future. The scene changes. Nayeon opens the stream and greets all her viewers in the chat. Then, she announces the auction and the arrival of two very special guests. Introducing her guests, Nayeon calls Baek Woo-hyun and streamer Kim Sol to the couch. In the chat, viewers react with surprise seeing the two streamers together on the broadcast. Right then, a donation appears on screen making a joke about the situation between the guests. Seeing the chat continue, Nayeon gets irritated and threatens to ban everyone who keeps it up. Then, she explains that Woo-hyun will be the coach, while the other streamer will play in the tournament. Next, the three turn toward the big screen to see the team compositions. Taking the stage, the auction host welcomes the entire audience. Shortly after, he begins explaining the auction rules to the team leaders. Showing the tiers, he warns that point allocation will be essential for victory. Asking about the favorites, all the team leaders mention the same player's name. In the chat, the audience speculates her popularity comes from her connection to Hyjikal. Because of this, the host decides to start the auction with the most contested player of all. Hearing the announcement, Kim Sol gets nervous and prepares for the auction to begin. Meanwhile, the chat starts discussing whether the leaders will spend all their points on her. But suddenly, all the team leaders bet everything they have on the same player. In the chat, the audience laughs at the situation and comments on how much everyone values the coach. Shocked by the bid, the streamers can't understand the tiebreaker criteria now. Then, the host explains the winner will be whoever pressed the button first in the dispute. Celebrating wildly, the leader of Team Redog shouts with joy at winning the auction, but the leader says it's all good, since he already got the player he wanted. Seeing his excitement, the chat comments on the risk of that betting strategy. Soon after, the auction continues to choose the other members of the remaining teams. At the end of the broadcast, the screen shows the final composition of the 4 teams formed. A few days pass. Woo-hyun arrives at the training center for the first meeting. Right then, Kim Sol finds him and asks if he got the captain's invitation. Remembering the messages, he thinks the captain is a pretty eccentric and slightly strange guy. Moving forward, the two walk together to find the rest of the team there. Arriving at the room, they find the captain giving a welcome in an unusual way. Seeing his strength, Woo-hyun is impressed by his body control without any buffs. Recognizing his potential, he believes the captain would be a huge help in the raid. Excited, the captain kneels on the floor and welcomes the new coach. Next, he starts introducing all the other team members to Woo-hyun. Showing the breakdown, he reveals the complete team lineup with their respective ranks. Seeing the 2 bronzes, he decides he'll need to train them all with serious rigor. Meanwhile, the stream chat doubts that team's ability to win the tournament. Full of energy, the captain asks if they can start training immediately. Wasting no time, Woo-hyun agrees and prepares to begin the first training session. Starting the training, he lands a strike on one of the members to test their endurance. The scene shifts. Someone clicks their mouse to open a video on the internet. On the screen, an intense fight appears between Hyjikal and a massive demon lord. Sitting in his chair, a green-haired man watches the fight with close attention. Remembering the invitation, he reconsiders the idea of joining the new raid. With a smile on his face, he seems to have a plan in mind to join in. Then, he starts typing rapidly on his keyboard to send a mysterious message. In the message, he proposes a bet to decide whether he'll join the raid team. Reaching the cup finals, Team All In starts the match with serious aggression. Pushing forward with everything they've got, Kang So-yul lands a quick strike on her first opponent. Right after that, Redog takes advantage of the opening and delivers a devastating blow to the enemy. Watching the play, Nayeon gets pumped up by the incredible performance from the whole team. But the real standouts are the lower-ranked players who surprise everyone. Without backing down, they face off against the gold-tier players with tons of confidence and skill. Right at that moment, the match finally ends with the team's crushing victory. With an undefeated streak, Team All In takes home the championship grand prize. Seeing the result, Nayeon can't believe they actually managed to win the tournament. Remembering the training, the result was expected after so much dedication and effort. With the match over, he stands up to head to the meeting room. Scene change. A camera system is being set up for a new live stream. Suddenly, Nayeon appears and greets all the viewers who showed up to the live stream. Explaining the situation, she says she opened the stream because of a special match. Hearing the news, the chat gets curious about what this match could be. Right then, a donation pops up in chat, asking about the opponent for the special match. With a smile on her face, Nayeon announces today's big opponent. Cutting to the arena, a man was anxiously waiting for his opponent to arrive. Introducing himself, pro player Battler appears and greets Hyjikal to start the match. Looking back at the message, Nayeon explains it was all a bet for the raid spot. With a provocative tone, Battler says he broke his win streak recently. He then reveals he tried to find him several times but never managed to get matched up. On top of that, He also shows he was the mysterious player who challenged him before. Full of confidence, he invites him to a real showdown. No more messing around. Woo Hyun then asks if he'll join the raid if he loses today's match. With a smile, he confirms he already cleared everything with his agency to participate. Scene change. The two appear in the battle arena to start the showdown. In the arena, Battler reveals his Sea God build, which he uses outside the league. Facing his opponent, he gets pumped for finally having a real fight. Then, the two prepare for the clash with their eyes full of determination. Starting the first round, Battler immediately launches a water barrier at him, but Hegical advances without fear and cuts through the water wave with his sword. In the middle of the attack, he faces his opponent with a look full of determination. Moving quickly, he closes in on his rival and prepares a new strike. Right then, Hegical stomps hard on the ground, breaking the frozen water surface. Taking advantage of the momentum, he attacks with his sword and Battler defends with a counter. From the impact, Hegical gets thrown back, but recovers mid-air. Right after, Battler leaps into the air to continue the assault with an aerial strike. Countering the attack, Hegical creates an ice wall that throws both of them far apart. Landing, he slides across the frozen surface, preparing for the next move. In the middle of the arena, the two face each other with the ground completely destroyed by the battle. Watching all the action, Nayeon is impressed by the level of the fight between them. Meanwhile, in the chat, viewers comment on the player's creativity in the match. Realizing his rival's level, Battler gathers more energy for his next attack. Then, he unleashes multiple water projectiles at Hegical with full force. With multiple attacks, Battler launches a massive volume of water and pressures Hegical in the arena. In the chat, viewers are impressed that he manages to dodge all the attacks. While dodging, Hegical admits he's surprised by his opponent's strength. Even with low buffs, he's impressed by the player's control and power. Deflecting the projectiles, he never imagined someone could get this strong in this world. Determined to end the fight, Battler summons a giant creature made of water. With a battle cry, he launches the enormous water dragon at Hegical. Seeing the scene, viewers panic at the size and power of the strike. Unfazed, Hegical advances and blocks the attack with his ice sword. But suddenly, he notices something strange is happening with his opponent. Right then, the water dragon dissolves in the air before landing the final blow. Confused, Battler watches the scene without understanding what happened to his attack. With a smile on his face, he reveals the first attack was just a distraction. Then, he clenches his fist tightly and prepares for his real attack. Next, an even bigger water dragon emerges from the depths to attack Hegical. Analyzing the attack, Hegical realizes his opponent's strategy and prepares himself. He understands the first attack was just a feint to trick him in the fight. With a smile, he admits his opponent is a truly insane player. Seeing his potential, Hegical decides he needs to bring this player to his raid. Charging against the dragon, he prepares his sword for a single powerful strike. In a swift motion, he pierces through the dragon and hits Battler square in the shoulder. With the blow, Battler drops to his knees on the ground, ending the match with his defeat. With the fight over, Hegical approaches his opponent, who acknowledges the loss. Wounded on the ground, Battler finally agrees to join the new raid team. With the match over, the two shake hands and seal the deal in the arena. Excited, Nayeon says goodbye to the audience and ends the stream with tons of energy. Scene change. An empty energy drink can rolls across an office floor. Sitting in her chair, a woman looks exhausted after another day of work. In her mind, she was lamenting not being able to find any information in the data. Worried, she wonders what's going on with so many strange events in the game. Suddenly, her computer screen starts glitching out with weird errors. Right then, Isaac Goodman's image appears on the monitor and greets her cheerfully. Annoyed by the appearance, she stands up and questions him about his secret plans. Ignoring the questions, he says he can't give many details about where he is now. Realizing his stubbornness, she knows she won't get any clear answers from him, so she asks why he showed up now after so long without contact. Confused by the response, she tries to understand what this so-called perfect world would be. Next, he explains that the game world is only half of the original. Hearing that, she panics at the possibility he was now suggesting. Confirming the suspicion, he reveals that a place with multiple lords will be opened. With a smile, Isaac finally announces that the other world is about to arrive. At that moment, a dark portal opens and the chains around it shatter. Scene change. Abraxas seems to sense that the moment of the great turning point has finally come. Facing a giant demon, he confirms that all preparations are finally ready. Days after the broadcast, Baek Woo-hyun walked through the area checking a message on his phone. Getting a notification, he sees that Kim Hana has summoned him for a new mission. Meanwhile, the streamers comment on the start of yet another major live mission. Reading the message, Baek Woo-hyun gets ready to meet his partner and begin the task. Arriving at the agreed parking lot, he spots Kim Hana waiting beside a black van. Then, the two greet each other quickly before beginning to discuss the next steps. Getting straight to the point, he asks her what their new mission is. Going back in time, she recalls the traders they faced together at the warehouse. Continuing the explanation, she reveals she investigated the accomplices and found a new lead. At that, Baek Woo-hyun listens carefully about the discovery of a possible secret dimensional portal. Changing scenes, the streamers realize that all the events are finally connecting now. Hearing about invaders, he remembers the doppelganger he encountered in the last mission. Without wasting time, they decide to go to the location to investigate the situation personally. Driving to a residential area, the two arrive at the location indicated by her investigation. On top of a building, they observe the perfect hideout for the portal. Observing the location, Kim Hana notices 3 elite guards positioned at the entrance. Baek Woo-hyun then prepares to infiltrate the place very quietly. Jumping from the roof, the two partners descend quickly toward the dark alley. Hearing a noise, one of the guards turns around very suspiciously. Seeing only a cat, the man prepares to attack the animal for no reason. But before acting, Baek Woo-hyun appears and grabs his hand from behind. Right after, he covers the guard's mouth so no one hears the noise. Taking advantage of the distraction, Kim Hana advances against the other 2 guards who turned around. Delivering a spinning strike, she manages to take down both enemies at once. After the fight, the adversaries are lying on the ground completely defeated by the duo. Finishing the fight, Baek Woo-hyun lands a direct strike to the opponent's face. Meanwhile, Kim Hana also attacks the last guard with a precise blow. With the path clear, they advance together and break through the large metal door. Upon entering, the duo finally finds the gigantic dimensional portal they were searching for. Then, Kim Hana asks if he's ready to enter the unknown place. Confident, Kim Hana agrees and prepares to enter the portal with her partner. Right after, the two dive headfirst together into the mysterious purple dimensional portal. Coming out the other side, they find a terrible scene with several bodies on the ground. In the broadcast chat, everyone is shocked by the carnage that appeared on screen. Among the dead, they notice that one of the researchers was still breathing. Immediately, Kim Hana grabs the survivor by the collar and demands answers about the place. Seeing that the man wouldn't talk, she presses on his wound to force a confession. In great pain, the researcher begins to confess that they drilled a hole there. Hearing that, the duo is completely shocked by the terrible, unexpected revelation. Changing scenes, the streamers understand that they created a permanent bridge between worlds. At that moment, the viewers react with panic to the madness being broadcast. Furious, she demands to know the hole's location, but the man dies first. Getting no more answers, she drops the lifeless man's body on the ground. Then, Baek Woo-hyun calls for her so they can start searching for the hole. Suddenly, the two look up and see something gigantic emerging in the sky. Meanwhile, in the broadcast chat, everyone reacts completely terrified by the appearance. Seeing the creature, Baek Woo-hyun runs toward it to begin the attack. Getting closer, he comes face to face with the giant monster and its glowing chest. Back at the broadcast, Jung Na-yeon realizes that the hole is in the monster. Beside her, the other streamer is totally shocked by the unbelievable revelation. At that, the chat comments that the dimensional hole is the creature's core. Trying to act, Kim Hana runs to help, but a mysterious voice tells them to stop. Suddenly, the doppelganger appears in front of them and announces the connection is complete. Ignoring the warning, Baek Woo-hyun suggests they kill the monster to close the portal. With a smile, the villain explains that his plan can no longer be interrupted. Hearing that, Baek Woo-hyun finally understands that everything was part of Isaac's plan. Going back in time, he remembers Isaac's ambition to create a new world. Right after, Kim Hana prepares to fight, saying she knows what to do. At the same instant, a powerful energy blast is launched toward the villain. Advancing with everything, she declares the doppelganger is the true enemy to be defeated. Looking up, Kim Hana is completely paralyzed by the size of that enormous creature. Then, the doppelganger invites them to the new world before beginning to act. Hearing this, the two partners are left without reaction to the unexpected invitation. Right after, the villain simply jumps into the hole in the monster's chest. With his entry, the creature begins to lose control and releases a wave of energy. Being hit, the dark energy ends up piercing the bodies of both agents on site. Seeing the danger, she screams that they need to retreat as the portal begins to crack. At that, the monster releases a burst of energy while the duo starts running desperately. At the same instant, a gigantic energy explosion consumes the entire surrounding scenery. After the smoke clears, Kim Hana gets up and goes to check how Baek Woo-hyun is. Looking around, they realize the dimensional world was completely destroyed by the explosion. Meanwhile, the viewers comment that even the guards defeated earlier were hit. Analyzing the debris, she notes that the bodies were annihilated by the monster's power. Realizing the gravity, She grabs her phone to report everything to Captain Kim Chul. Shortly after, the captain and his team arrive at the location to assess the destruction. After hearing the report, Kim Chul officially declares an invasion against the monster. At the same instant, a system notification announces that the Great Invasion has begun. But right after, another warning informs about a server maintenance in 5 minutes. Seeing the announcements, the streamers and chat celebrate the start of the epic event. Meanwhile, Baek Woo-hyun prepares for the battle that's about to begin. Suddenly, Anonymous Viewer 62 makes a very generous donation. Appearing on screen, Isaac Goodman observes everything with a very smug smile on his face. On the other side, Baek Woo-hyun feels that something big is about to happen. At the same moment, a second mysterious donation appears on screen for everyone to see. Changing scenery, two girls chat calmly inside a very busy coffee shop. Showing her phone, one of them reveals she's watching the live broadcast. Right after, she asks her friend if she knows a guy named Baek Woo-hyun. Hearing the name, the other girl gets a very serious expression. Playing it cool, the pink-haired girl says she's never heard that name before. Meanwhile, her blonde friend comments that he's super popular and plays really well. Then, the blonde asks if she's ever played the game's beta by any chance. She replies that she tried to play it, but had a nightmare and never went back. Seeing his photo again, she feels like she's seen him somewhere before. Changing scenes, the streamers get ready to start the next big live stream. With great excitement, they announce that the invasion day has finally arrived for everyone. At the same time, the live chat gets flooded with messages from eager fans. The streamer then explains that the event's fame is because of the protagonist. Inviting everyone, Jong Na-yeon prepares to narrate the first invasion attempt. Back at the location, government troops surround the portal amid the rubble. With the portal reappearing in the residential area, the Bureau forces mobilize quickly. Without hesitation, Kim Chul orders his entire team to enter the portal immediately, but as they try to advance, an agent discovers a mysterious barrier blocking the passage. He then tells his agents to find a way to break the barrier at any cost. Observing the scene, Baek Woo-hyun analyzes the debris and prepares for the mission. Meanwhile, the other players selected for the invasion could hardly believe the opportunity. Remembering the message, he recalls Isaac's warning about what would happen. Analyzing the team, he notices that some members barely managed to recreate their accounts without buffs. Clenching his fist, he realizes his current strength is much weaker than before. Just then, one of the players approaches him and tells him not to worry so much. Taking the lead, he prepares to explain the battle strategy to everyone. He then shows the team the attack formation they'll use at the castle. The group listens carefully about focusing on defense to understand the boss's patterns. With great energy, he warns everyone that the battle will be long and exhausting. He also asks 4 specific members to increase their levels to the maximum possible. Seeing the motivated team, Baek Woo-hyun realizes everyone gave their best. Trusting his allies, he knows he has reliable left and right arms. Then, he plants his feet firmly on the ground and decides they're going to complete the mission. Running toward the portal, the group ignores the guards trying to block the passage. Before the portal, a system window appears asking for confirmation to start the invasion. Without hesitating for a second, Baek Woo-hyun presses the button to finally begin the mission. Entering the location, a notification confirms the raid's start with a 90-minute time limit. Crossing through the portal, the group arrives in the new world and regroups to advance carefully. Shortly after, he points to a dark castle that can be seen in the far distance. Observing the final destination, the players notice the castle is farther than it seemed. Then, Baek Woo-hyun orders everyone to hurry to reach their objective as fast as possible. Following the command, the entire team starts running at high speed through the dark forest. But suddenly, a giant monster emerges from the earth and blocks everyone's path. In the blink of an eye, Baek Woo-hyun leaps toward the new creatures to initiate the attack. Continuing the advance, he moves quickly over several monsters in the way. Shouting to the team, one of the allies asks them not to stop running. Meanwhile, another group member lands a powerful blow on one of the monsters. At the same time, his teammate also attacks one of the creatures with a strike. Back at the stream, the streamers observe the storm and monsters making the situation worse. Running under the heavy rain, the group advances with difficulty through the completely flooded scenery. One of the players then starts questioning why the game feels so realistic. Feeling the raindrops, he's startled by the vivid sensation on his skin. With limited vision, a female player is almost surprised, but an ally alerts her. Right in front of her, a giant crystal monster suddenly appears to attack. Without wasting time, the team unites to attack the large creature with strikes. After the battle, the monster is defeated and its head falls to the ground. In place of the body, several blue potions appear for all the players in the group. Analyzing the item, a player discovers that the potion removes the storm's effects. Quickly, all team members start drinking the potions they found there. After drinking, everyone's vision improves, and they feel much better. Looking at the castle, Baek Woo-hyun warns that they're finally close to the objective. With renewed motivation, the team prepares to continue the long path ahead. Running once more, the group moves forward to reach the castle tower. Finally, they arrive at the entrance and face the size of the gigantic dark fortress. Feeling the pressure, the team prepares for battle while the chat goes wild. At the same instant, an energy circle appears on the ground, trapping the entire group. Soon after, a giant hand descends from the sky toward all of them. With nowhere to run, the group gets cornered by the giant creature's hand. Then, the boss monster finally appears in front of the entire hero team. With everyone in panic, the group leader tries to calm the situation and maintain focus. Shouting the orders, he reinforces the strategy of focusing on defense first to survive. But Baek Woo-hyun notices something strange coming out of the hole in the monster's chest. At that, other creatures start coming out from inside the portal in the boss's body. Falling into despair, one of the players breaks formation and tries to flee alone from there. Taking the chance, the monster roars and releases a horde of smaller creatures to attack. Before them, several different types of monsters emerge, ready for brutal combat. Getting caught in his escape, the cowardly player is surrounded and captured by a monster. Upon being attacked, the player's body is torn apart and blood spreads everywhere. Observing the scene, Baek Woo-hyun sees the notification of the first team member's death. With their companion's death, the team is left in shock, not knowing what to do. Suddenly, one of the monsters charges at the group leader for a direct attack. With no time to think, he strikes the creature with a blow right to the face. Seeing this scene, Baek Woo-hyun is transported to a vision of his dark past. Remembering the deaths, he questions whether he'll be the sole survivor once again. Snapping out of his trance, he focuses on the battle as he hears his allies shouting his name. Then, a giant insect monster appears to attack the story's protagonist directly. But before the attack lands, one of his allies appears and lands a hit on the creature. Right after, her twin brother also attacks the monster with a precise strike. With the monster defeated, the two siblings start arguing in the middle of the battle. Hearing the quarrel, Baek Woo-hyun pulls himself together and realizes this is their only chance. Meanwhile, one of the players is hit by a blow and sent flying. Noticing the disadvantage, another team member worries about the energy spent in the fight. At that moment, a support player uses an ability to trap one of the monsters. After the attack, he thanks the mage who saved him from danger. Seeing a horde of monsters, one of the players prepares for the imminent attack. Using his ability, he traps all the creatures inside a large water cube. Next, another player launches an attack to destroy the trapped monsters in one go. After discovering a pattern, the leader orders a full assault against the next monster. The players then attack the boss with simultaneous strikes to test its defense. With that, Baek Woo-hyun and the twins advance to search for a weak point on the monster. With the plan in mind, the entire team runs together through the puddles of water. Getting close, they jump and attack the boss with high-speed strikes. Taking the attacks, the monster is enveloped by an energy that protects it. After the blow, Baek Woo-hyun realizes it wouldn't be so easy to defeat the enemy. Suddenly, the monster's eye glows intensely, showing it took no damage. To everyone's surprise, the creature begins to speak with a menacing voice. Seeing a new attack forming, the leader orders the vanguard to retreat immediately. Right after, the monster releases a wave of energy, promising to finish them all off. In the stream chat, viewers panic and tell the players to run. Prioritizing survival, the leader orders everyone to focus on evacuating the area. With the attack approaching, the team runs desperately to escape the purple energy. Observing the chaos, the streamers analyze how the players are now completely disorganized. Then he explains the 3 most common attack patterns for this type of boss. Tired of just running, one of the players decides they can't keep fleeing. Turning toward the danger, he launches a powerful energy strike against the attack, but the blow has no effect. So he shouts for everyone to give up and run. Realizing the failure, the leader understands they need to attack the boss directly. With that, a fire tornado forms and heads straight toward the leader. Seeing the attack react, he creates a plan to distract and attack the boss. Taking advantage of the distraction, Baek Woo-hyun leaps to strike the core on the monster's chest. At the same instant, the monster raises its giant fist to block the aerial strike. Right after, the 3 advance together and attack the creature's hand with strikes. But the monster manages to throw Baek Woo-hyun away with a quick movement. Falling toward the punch, he prepares to defend against the creature's massive blow. Grabbing the monster's fist, he manages to stop the blow coming in his direction. Taking advantage of the opening, another player lands a precise strike that pushes the monster back. Meanwhile, the live viewers comment on the main protagonist's unbelievable strength. With the impact of the blow, the large monster steps back a few paces, feeling the pain. Right after, the boss prepares a new attack with red energy to counter. Seeing their master glow, the twins advance to help in the battle against the enemy. Then, the two siblings attack together with synchronized and well-coordinated strikes. With the distraction created, the team's mage realizes she's trapped in the windstorm. Unable to move, she stands still waiting for a chance to escape the area. With that, the group leader notices the energy cyclones have finally dissipated. Back to the stream, the streamers comment on the strategy to damage the boss. Not knowing if it worked, Baek Woo-hyun and the twins regroup after the attack, but with a smile, the giant monster shows it took no damage at all. With a quick movement, he lands a direct blow to the monster's chest. The blow opens a hole in the monster's body, revealing a new opening. In the live chat, everyone is shocked by the unexpected battle twist. Before the monster, a player alerts everyone about the second phase of the fight. Underestimating the players, the monster's body begins to crack and change shape. With that, its claws grow and become longer, revealing a frightening new power. Leaping into the air, the creature reveals its true form with wings and more muscle. Seeing the transformation, one of the players shouts for everyone to be on maximum alert. Right after, the monster beats its wings and creates a windstorm that throws everyone. Resisting the strong wind, Baek Woo-hyun uses his weapon to stay firm on the ground. With great force, the creature lands on the ground, raising a huge curtain of dust. Flying to the sky, Baek Woo-hyun warns about the danger coming from above. In the middle of the storm, the monster flies high and prepares for the next move. Then it creates a giant area attack to finish everyone off at once. Seeing the danger, the leader orders everyone to run far away from there. But in the rush, one of the female players ends up tripping and falling on the wet ground. Unable to get up, she's hit full-on by the attack while her brother screams. Looking at the players, the monster releases an attack to finish them all off. Then, an energy explosion takes over the entire battlefield ahead. In the middle of the light, the female player prepares to take the impact of the blow. After the attack passes, she remains standing, but visibly very shaken by everything. Seeing the scene, Baek Woo-hyun and the other mage don't understand anything. Kneeling in front of her, the girl's brother screams as he takes the damage. In shock at the sacrifice, she cries without understanding the reason for his action. As his body fades, he explains he did it to help their master. Right after, the system notification confirms the death of another player. Receiving the alert, Baek Woo-hyun is shocked by the new time penalty. With time running out, the streamers worry about the team's future in the game. Seeing only 40 minutes left, the team panics over the situation. Looking down from above, the giant monster prepares to attack the players again. Flying over the castle, it says that destruction is all that awaits them. Undeterred, the leader readies a strike to test the enemy's range. Then, the three players launch their long-distance attacks against the flying monster, but the creature easily dodges the strikes because of the great distance between them. Not giving up, one of the players decides to find a way to bring the monster to the ground. With a command, he summons a massive water dragon that soars into the sky. Seeing the attack, the monster prepares to counter with an energy strike. In the same instant, the boss destroys the dragon with a single energy attack, but the dragon regenerates and attacks the monster with a direct hit to the face. Watching the scene, Baek Woo-hyun sees the two monsters fighting in the sky. With a confident smile, the player reveals he hasn't been idle all this time. With the attack's damage, the boss's HP finally drops below 70%. With a look of fury, the monster prepares to attack the player again. Right after, it promises to return the favor with all its strength. Receiving a notification, the player sees he's been marked as a target by the boss. Then, a pillar of energy descends from the sky and hits him square on. Even with the attack, he pushes forward and tries to counter with an energy strike. With great rage, the player tries to resist the massive power of the enemy attack, but in the end, he's completely swallowed by the great monster's purple energy. Seeing the scene, the team and the chat are shocked by the player's death. But Baek Woo-hyun notices the death warning hasn't appeared on screen yet. Meanwhile, the flying monster asks who will be the next to die there. Trying to unite the team, the group leader receives a warning about the potion. In the same instant, the item's effect ends and the storm returns with force. With poor visibility, the team panics and the leader tries to calm them down. Being marked by the monster, he realizes he's now the next target of the attack. With no other choice, he orders everyone to fall back and dodge the approaching attack. Meanwhile, the streamers and chat comment on the difficulty of the second phase. After the attack passes, the storm finally calms and the rain lessens. With his body wounded, the group leader recovers from the damage he suffered. Falling to the ground, the team's mage tries to rest a bit after the battle. Out of breath, the twin sister also leans to recover some energy. On the other side, the other support player sits on the ground with an injured knee. Seeing his exhausted team, Baek Woo-hyun knows they need a new plan. Suddenly, a mysterious voice emerges to taunt the protagonist of the story. Not understanding anything, he sees a red-haired man standing in front of him. Looking into his eyes, the monster says he's useless on both sides. Angry at the provocation, Baek Woo-hyun advances to attack the boss with everything. The monster then flies and charges at him with a high-speed strike. Dodging the attack, he uses his weapon to slide along the monster's energy. Climbing onto the creature's back, he prepares for a direct and precise attack. With a final blow, he strikes the monster's core with all his strength. With the attack, the monster's core explodes and launches the hero far away. After the explosion, the monster's body begins to fall apart in pieces. Mid-fall, the hero throws his weapon down and cushions the impact. But the monster regenerates and tries to grab the player before he escapes. Then, he lands a final blow that pierces completely through the monster's body. After the attack, Baek Woo-hyun leans on his sword to catch his breath. With the monster's blood, his weapon receives a new power and glows. Suddenly, the rain stops and the sky begins to open slowly. In another place, the missing player wakes up lost and completely disoriented at the location. Remembering the raid, he realizes something is wrong with the game world. Looking around, he sees he's very far away and worries about the team. Without wasting time, he grabs his weapon and decides to regroup as fast as possible. Back at the battle, the monster regenerates and becomes even larger than before. With a new strike, it attacks the hero and destroys the scenery around them. Taking the impact, the protagonist is thrown and becomes gravely wounded from everything. With a direct hit, the hero strikes right in the chest of the giant monster. Feeling the damage, the boss's HP drops to less than 40%. With his new ability, he wields his sword that glows with red energy. With a look of fury, the monster prepares for a new all-out attack. It then creates an energy explosion that destroys the entire floor of the scene. Falling into the hole, the hero is warned of danger by one of the streamers. The monster then flies and launches an area energy attack to finish things. Unable to escape, he stands firm and prepares for the impact of the blow. Taking all the damage, he becomes gravely wounded with his body bleeding. Seeing the scene from afar, his teammates scream desperately for him. But suddenly, a wave of water emerges and envelops the protagonist in the air. Not understanding anything, he's saved by a protective water barrier. Looking to the side, he sees the player who had been missing until now. After saving him, the player reappears and says he arrived just in time. With the player's return, the streamers and chat celebrate the battle's turnaround. After being saved, Baek Woo-hyun thanks his teammate for the help. Right after, the rest of the team joins up and they regroup on the field. Seeing everyone together, the monster promises they'll die in agony this time. Facing the group, he activates a new skill called Eye of the Storm to attack. With his eye bleeding, Baek Woo-hyun receives the warning about the skill activation. Then, the monster unleashes a new attack that transforms the ground into a pillar. In the chat, viewers comment about the possible third phase of the fight that just started. With the field's transformation, the team is startled by the energy pillars. Right after, a new mission appears asking them to destroy everything in 10 minutes. Desperate, the group leader orders everyone to attack the pillars as fast as possible. But before attacking, a player notices that the pillars are being protected by guards. With new enemies appearing, the players prepare for another intense battle. In front of each pillar, several energy guardians appear to protect the site. Besides the guards, two elite monsters emerge to complicate the situation even more. Suddenly, the pillars start to tremble and release a very strange energy. Right after, an energy beam shoots out from a pillar and hits a player. Caught by surprise, the team's mage is struck full force by the attack. At the same instant, the system notification confirms another death on the team. Seeing her ally dead, the other player despairs as the situation worsens. With the new death, another 10 minutes are reduced and time becomes very short. Under the pressure of time, all players advance to fight against the Guardians. Advancing against a monster, the player attacks it, but the strike is blocked. Meanwhile, two other players dodge the attacks from one of the elite monsters, but one of them ends up getting hit by the beam and falls to the ground wounded. On the other side, a player attacks, but her strike has no effect on the enemy. Being attacked, the team leader also has his strike blocked by the elite monster. With no time to lose, Baek Woo-hyun decides to advance alone against all enemies. Running across the field, he prepares to face 3 guardians at once. Focusing on the battle, he opens all 5 of his senses to fight better. With his senses heightened, his vision of the world expands and becomes clearer. He then manages to see the movement of all enemies at the same time. In the middle of battle, he dodges the attacks and eliminates all guardians quickly. With his body bleeding, he finishes the last enemy and moves to the next one. Suddenly, he notices that the barrier around one pillar became weaker. Standing in the middle of the field, he feels that one layer of the barrier disappeared. Meanwhile, the other players continue fighting against the remaining elite monsters. Seeing the barrier weakening, he understands that killing the invaders is the key. With the new discovery, He shouts for everyone to focus the attack on the invaders, but the blue-haired player sees that the enemies don't stop appearing. Then, he concentrates his energy and creates a water drop at his fingertip. With a gesture, he launches a water attack that cuts through several enemies. The live stream viewers are shocked by the skill's control and power. With all guardians dead, the pillar's barriers finally disappear completely. Without wasting time, the two heroes run to attack the boss while the others break them. Advancing against the boss, one of the players attacks him with an energy strike, but the monster retaliates and launches an energy attack that goes in their direction. To protect his ally, he summons a water barrier that blocks the strike. Enraged, the boss prepares an attack with his tail to hit the player. With his weapon in hand, Baek Woo-hyun prepares for the tail attack. To help in the fight, the other player launches an attack to trap the monster. Seizing the chance, he leaps and propels himself for a precise aerial strike. With all his strength, he hits the monster's head with a strike. Feeling the damage, the boss prepares to retreat and flee from battle. With a stomp on the ground, he flies away from the players once more. Seeing the monster flee, the team gets frustrated for not being able to finish the fight. Before leaving, Baek Woo-hyun turns around and says something to his companion. Hearing the words, the blue-haired player stays silent for a moment. After thinking, he agrees with the plan and decides to give it a chance. With the plan in mind, the blue-haired player creates a new skill. With a command, he summons an enormous water dragon that advances against the monster. Seeing the attack, the boss grabs it with his hand to try to destroy it. Seizing the chance, Baek Woo-hyun climbs onto the dragon's back to advance faster. Flying at high speed, the two heroes advance together for the final attack. With a serious look, the monster recognizes the tenacity of the players he faced there, but he launches an energy attack that engulfs both heroes at once. In the middle of the smoke, the protagonist is seen floating in the air completely unharmed. Coming out of the smoke, he reappears and surprises the monster with his speed and agility. While the chat goes crazy, everyone wonders how he survived the strike. With a final attack, he hits the monster and throws him to the ground. Not knowing if the plan worked, the other players watch the scene from afar, but Baek Woo-hyun lands on the ground and prepares for the next round. With the attack's damage, the boss's HP drops to less than 10%. Seeing the result, the blue-haired player celebrates the success of their plan. Meanwhile, in a room, a group of guys celebrates the progress intensely. Celebrating the progress, the streamers go wild seeing the boss's health almost at the end. With only 9 minutes on the clock, Baek Woo-hyun rushes to finish the fight. Seeing the two glowing points on the monster, he leaps for the final attack. Then, he lands a precise strike on the creature's chest with his weapon. After taking a brutal hit, Haejikul is thrown with force into the middle of the storm. Meanwhile, three friends watch everything on the screen, panicking at the danger of the situation. In that same instant, he strikes back and lands a solid blow on the enemy. Suddenly, Battler appears, summoning a giant wall to protect everyone from the attack. But the strike breaks through the defense, catching the guy completely off guard in the counterattack. Hit square on, he falls wounded while the others scream his name desperately. Rising enormous, the creature stares at the young man and admits he went further than expected. Even wounded and bleeding, Woo-hyun breaks into a smile, taunting his opponent, saying he expected more. Irritated by the provocation, the creature responds with a strike that throws the kid far away. Fallen on the ground, he screams in pain while the spectators find the reaction oddly realistic. Cutting back to the audience, two young people comment, finding it weird how Haejikul seems to feel pain for real. Back to the battle, the gigantic beast advances, unleashing powerful strikes in all directions. Reacting instantly, the group fires several combined attacks trying to stop the furious monster. Even so, the creature grabs one of them and shakes him like a rag doll. Wounded and exhausted, Woo-hyun fights not to pass out while hearing someone calling his name. Hearing his name again, Woo-hyun wakes up with a start, sweaty and gasping after the nightmare. Rising startled, he sits up in bed screaming, trying to find out where the Stormlord was. Right in front of him, a girl with magenta hair asks if he had another nightmare again. Trying to calm him down, she pulls him by the hand, saying they need to meet their friends today. Still confused, he wonders where that dream began and where it really ended. Smiling, the girl extends her hand to him and calls him to get ready soon. Without hesitation, he pulls her close and hugs her tight right there. Welcomed in the embrace, she says she's very happy, thinking he had a terrible nightmare. Later, the couple walks together down the street until someone calls the two from afar. Sitting at the table with friends, They recall the old nicknames Woo Hyun carried in the past. Staring at his colleagues, he thinks about the titles he earned after Soo-ah and Soo-hyuk died. Walking down the street again, something starts to bother him, feeling that something is very wrong there. Suddenly, a mysterious voice emerges behind him, asking if that dream wasn't beautiful. Turning startled, he finds himself alone in a strange alley while everything around distorts. Confused by what he felt, he stops on the empty street, hearing someone call his name again. Emerging from the shadows, sinister figures with familiar faces surround Woo Hyun, asking where he's going. Staring at him with bright eyes, the figures question if he's going to abandon them all again. Waking suddenly, he finds himself back on the destroyed battlefield, trying to understand if he passed out. Around him, his companions fire several strikes against the monster while he recovers on the ground. Raising his hand, he accesses the system panel, noticing only 6 minutes remain. Closing his eyes, he decides to change the entire strategy to focus on a pure destruction style. Right there in front, the beast prepares a strike while someone shouts, warning the blonde girl of the danger. In the last second, a figure crosses the air and hits the creature's back with force. Recognizing the newcomer, the monster narrows its eyes, murmuring in disbelief upon realizing who it was. Cutting back to the audience, everyone celebrates seeing Hajikel standing again with renewed power. In that same instant, the panel announces the boss's health dropped below 5%. Excited by the turnaround, Redox lets out a shout of excitement as he advances together against the enemy. Gathering all their strength, they fire a combined attack that explodes square on the creature. Even staggering, the monster admits it didn't expect they'd get this far. Furious, the beast concentrates immense power, swearing it won't let anyone leave there alive. Unleashing its true power, the creature transforms again while the team plunges into the furious storm. Watching everything from home, the spectators complain, impressed by how many forms that horned monster still has. Worried, the magenta-haired girl comments that the boss kept a final card to turn the game around. Adjusting his glasses, the guy warns that only 5 minutes remain for the team to finish that thing off. On the field, Soil is thrown by the attacks, complaining that those things keep getting in the way all the time. Reacting in sequence, Redox fires a fire attack while only 4 minutes remain on the clock. Kneeling and gasping, Hajikel realizes they need to finish soon or they'll end up running out of time. Rising determined, he warns Battler he'll focus only on attack, leaving the defense to him. Accepting the order, Battler sets up his barriers while the two advance together against the giant beast. Firing strikes non-stop. They pressure the monster with everything while only 3 minutes remain now. Concentrating his forces, Battler raises a huge wave and shouts for the team to advance at once. Immersed in battle, he controls the water current while the clock marks only 2 minutes. Suddenly, Hajikel disappears in the middle of the chaos, leaving everyone confused about where he went. Noticing the danger, he shouts, warning Battler, realizing his friend's disappearance had some plan behind it. Trying to understand the move, Battler turns startled right when something unexpected happens behind him. With only 1 minute left, Hajikel dives from above, facing the gigantic beast down there in the storm. Excited at home, the spectators go wild, saying that combat style was simply out of control. Advancing with everything, he delivers heavy strikes that shake the creature in the middle of the rain. Lifting the debris around, he hurls tons of wreckage directly at the cornered monster. Hit square on, the beast's barrier finally breaks under the weight of all that debris. With the entire audience celebrating, he breaks through the defense for good, leaving the boss completely exposed now. Emerging from above, he faces the defeated enemy, declaring coldly that this was the end. But the creature reacts in desperation, unleashing a final strike, screaming it wouldn't go down easy. Roaring in pain, the monster is engulfed by a powerful explosion that tears everything around. Surrounded by intense light, he receives the final impact right in the middle of his wounded face. Hitting 0 on the clock, time runs out right when everything explodes for real. Falling to his knees in the water, Hajikel breathes deeply while his companions run screaming his name. Looking at the giant fallen body, the group approaches, not knowing if the beast was really defeated. In that same instant, the panel appears glowing, announcing the Stormlord mission was completed. Exploding with joy, everyone celebrates together, celebrating the victory achieved on the first attempt. Jumping with joy, the friends celebrate at home, shouting that the team got the first world clear ever. Excited in the stream, the spectators flood the chat, congratulating the team for the historic and impossible victory. Soon after, several donations start popping up on the screen, recognizing the team's incredible feat. Smiling tired, Hajikel thanks all his companions for the effort while breathing relieved after the battle. Suddenly, a strange light explodes behind him, leaving everyone confused about what was happening now. Emerging from the shadows, a familiar figure begins to form right in front of the surprised guy. Recognizing the figure, Redox screams, startled, realizing it was the doppelganger identical to Wu Hyun himself. Facing the team, Abraxas warns that the Stormlord was just the first obstacle of many. Confused by that, everyone questions what that creature identical to the leader was really planning to do there. Floating in the air, Abraxas starts to say something only Hajical can hear at that moment. Staring at the wounded guy, he reveals that some companions from that world were also dragged into reality. Looking up above, he wonders if his companions from that world ended up here too. Right then, two of them appear confused, not understanding anything about this reverse planet thing. Meanwhile, the dark-haired guy warns he's going back to the original world, leaving the others completely lost. Desperate, the young man shouts, wanting to know who else was dragged to this strange place. Pointing his finger, the dark-haired guy reveals that he's just a pawn used by the creator. Furious, he demands answers once and for all, but the dark-haired guy shuts down the conversation right away. Soon after, the dark-haired guy starts disappearing while floating, as the other tries to reach him in vain. Fading away slowly, he promises to wait for the young man in a completely new and different world. Suddenly, several bodies are pulled upward, screaming without understanding what was happening. Being ripped away by force, the brute grits his teeth as he's expelled from that place. At the same instant, everyone is spat out, falling straight onto the rubble down below. Hitting the broken ground hard, they recover with relief after all that impact. Looking around, the group realizes they're back at the same place where it all began. Noticing the intruders standing there, the brute turns his face, questioning what they're doing there. But the calm ends quickly when the guards come running after the explosion noise. Curious, the blonde asks what that guy had said before, since she didn't hear anything. Turning his face calmly, he replies that he just told everyone to prepare for the next raid. As the spectators comment, it becomes clear that wasn't really the expected ending. Excited on the couch, the girl confesses she's a bit nervous but pumped for the next challenge. Posing for the camera, she thanks everyone who watched the First World Raid with so many people together. Smiling, the host asks everyone not to forget to tune in to the next live broadcast. Waving cheerfully to the audience, the three say goodbye, promising to return soon next time. At the same instant, the brute and the blue one ask them to follow their streams too. Amused, the spectators joke, saying those two act exactly like game characters for real. Raising her tired fist, she lets out a relieved sigh after all that heavy rush. Gathered down below, the whole group celebrates together, congratulating each one for the job well done. Excited, the brute praises the duo for carrying everyone during the difficult battle. Scratching her head a bit awkwardly, the girl regrets not helping as much as she wanted. Soon after, everyone agrees they owe their lives to him, while the young man stays silent. But beneath their feet, reddish shadows writhe, begging not to be abandoned there. A whole week later, he walks alone through the open field, far from the broadcasts from before. Walking slowly through the grass, he realizes it's been a while since he entered the game without recording anything. Remembering that conversation, he had asked if his companions were also dragged to the real world. Without finding useful clues, he receives a short message from Isaac that disappears right away. Intrigued by everything, he wonders who it could be when a white figure appears at the door. Sitting on the floor, the young man greets the newcomer, saying that Lee Jun called him there. Getting straight to the point, he asks if the other knows some specific names of the test subjects. Scratching his chin thoughtfully, the masked man guarantees he's never seen any of those people before in his life. Getting up to leave, the masked man warns he has other matters to deal with right now. But before leaving, he suddenly blurts out the masked man's real name out loud. Surprised inside, the masked man wonders how that guy discovered his name when he's just a character. Walking calmly, the young man explains he holds no grudge and that several members have secret identities. Bringing his face very close, he warns the masked man not to even think about betraying their group. Raising his hand calmly, the masked man responds that he also doesn't forgive traitors in any way. Turning his face with a corner smile, the young man lets out a simple and satisfied great. Chatting excitedly, the two little ones comment that the captain warned about a big job coming up. Soon after, he says goodbye and flies off, thinking to himself what the next step would be. Before a purple teddy bear, he explains he wants to find certain people among the test subjects. As the red jars glow in the background, he recites the names he's been searching for everywhere. Scratching his chin again, the vendor affirms he's never heard any of those names before. Frustrated, he thinks he's back to square one, but the bear offers help to find them. Agreeing, he asks about the price, and the vendor says he wants to ask something in return. Curious, the vendor asks him to tell everything about what happened in that reverse world. Closing the deal, the bear promises to do everything to find the people he mentioned. Leaving relieved through the door, he feels his phone vibrating suddenly in his pants pocket. Grabbing the device in his hand, the masked man is startled to see what appeared on the screen. Staring at the bright message, he discovers they scheduled a meeting at a cafe at 5 o'clock. Walking down the street, He arrives in front of a themed restaurant with a wooden facade. Sitting at the table, the masked man is questioned about why he entered the game if he was going to rest. Facing his silence, the girl gets suspicious and asks if he wasn't advancing the story. Fiddling with his phone, he tells her he received strange messages from this bureau at the end of everything. Taking a calm sip, he reveals he's going to be interrogated but doesn't even know what to say. Excited, the girl remembers that his partnership with Battler became a super talked about topic online. Smiling enthusiastically, she explains that collaboration requests even appeared with several famous players together. Without much choice, he accepts the proposal, and she cheers, saying she'll confirm it for them. Drinking from the cold glass, she suggests he focus on leveling up and improving his ranking. Showing his profile on the screen, she calculates there are only about 15 levels left to the top. Suddenly thoughtful, he remembers that Abraxas said his companions were pulled to the real world. Recalling that dark scene, he thinks about the deaths that happened on that terrible other side. Facing the heavy memories, he fears that all of that has affected his reality too. Lowering his gaze in defeat, he realizes that if they truly died, everything lost its meaning. Just then, a woman with pink hair approaches the table, greeting the two with a wave. Widening his red eyes, he instantly recognizes that face he'd been searching for everywhere. Staring in disbelief at the girl in front of him, he whispers her name confused, barely believing it. Standing up abruptly, he rises so fast that he ends up knocking the chair to the floor. Rushing across the table, he calls out her name loudly, completely desperate for confirmation. Holding her firmly, he asks if she's really Sua, leaving the girl totally confused. Startled by the scene, the other girl grabs his arm, questioning what's gotten into him. Staring at him closely, the pink-haired girl utters his last name with a trembling voice. Embracing both of them at the same time, he hears her complete his full name in an incredulous whisper.